Click. An iron shackle was worn on the hand of a 13-year-old boy, and his slender figure was pushed forward by two heavily armed soldiers. The lonely shadow is reflected in the corridor of the underground base. Su Chen's childish face was vaguely covered with a hint of fear. He didn't want to go. However, the detained soldier kept pushing and shoving behind him, and his sturdy physique pushed him forward so easily. Damn bastard. Su Chen gritted his teeth, and his undeveloped body struggled desperately. Boy, be honest with me. The soldiers on both sides immediately set up the arms of the boy and walked towards the laboratory at the end of the corridor. This is an experimental base specializing in the study of mutants. Brain slices, body dissections, and various illegal human experiments are carried out here. After all, people really want to study the genetic mystery of mutants. In the past half-month, Su Chen had seen how many figures were taken out of the cell, but they never came back. Damn it. He doesn't want to die. But with his limbs shackled, Su Chen's struggles didn't help at all when he was young and weak. Soon, his body was taken into a closed laboratory. Buckle. Under the instructions of the experimenter in a white coat, Su Chen's hands and feet were tied to an experiment platform. His waist and even his neck were tightly bound by a restraint belt, and the whole person lay flat on the platform, as if waiting. Lambs slaughtered are generally immobile. Outside the one-way glass in the experiment room, General Marcus in a military uniform said excitedly, "This is the number 5162? That guy with extraordinary healing." "Yes, General." A doctor beside him said excitedly. "Even Wolverine's healing ability can't be compared with him. The cell activity of this guy is terrible. It can be said that this is our key to immortality." Immortality. Dr. Marcus's complexion became less calm. Dr. White did not say anything else. This young man with extraordinary healing ability is not a mutant, because he does not have the iconic X gene of mutants. On the contrary, his genes are very special, weird and changeable, just like mutation and evolution all the time. Immortal, infinite evolution. To be honest, Dr. White was also taken aback by his bold assumptions. How does this sound like an omnipotent god? Intuition told him that this young man was very dangerous, but he couldn't restrain the curiosity in his heart for the mysterious genes that kept mutating. He wants to crack it, study it, and get the answer completely from it. Just let me cut your head and get the answer from it. Dr. White walked in, and his vicious words lingered in Su Chen's ears. Read more at wuxiax.com. Do not. Su Chen began to struggle more and more violently. Because he saw the doctors in white coats all around took up a scalpel. Craniotomy. These ghosts are going to craniate themselves. He is about to be craniotomy. I don't want to die. Su Chen's heart began to scream. He thought of his mother who died of illness. He promised that she must live well with his sister, be healthy, and live a long life. In the future, he will find a gentle daughter-in-law and give birth. Fat boy. As a result, a catastrophe fell on him to destroy the oath he had sworn before his mother died. Do not. I want to live. Su Chen yelled. At this moment, an invisible wave rippled out of his mind, and everything around him was dominated by an invisible wave of thought power. I saw everything in the laboratory floating in the air inexplicably. Damn, number 5162 has shown a new ability, suspicious of thinking power. For a while, the experimenter panicked inexplicably. Hurry up and get a strong anesthetic. A nurse immediately grabbed a flying needle from the air, tremblingly. Su Chen witnessed this scene, and his clear eyes flushed suddenly. He doesn't want to get an injection. He is most afraid of injections. Get out of here, get out of me. Su Chen roared. Boom. As if saying the law, the nurse holding the needle tightly, as well as the surrounding lab coat experimenters, suffered a terrifying repulsion in an instant. With a bang, each of them slammed into it. On the wall behind, many people fainted and fainted on the spot. Su Chen's eyes were red. He didn't realize that his genes were undergoing a terrifying mutation and evolution at this moment. At this moment, he just wanted to live well. I want to live. I want to keep my promise. Strong belief turned into motivation. Hiss. The binding strap tightly bound to Su Chen's limbs and waist was completely torn apart by his thin body. His physical strength has skyrocketed inexplicably, and his thin physique, who has not received much nutrition for more than 10 days, has gradually filled his muscle lines. Su Chen didn't know what happened to him. He just wants to live. Boom. The door of the experiment room was opened in this way, and several fully armed soldiers broke into the door directly. After learning that the subject was completely out of control, they did not hesitate to pull the trigger in their hands. Whoosh. The bullet from the fully automatic rifle hit Su Chen's body very accurately, and one bullet hit the center of his forehead. But in less than a second, it was as if it had been placed upside down. The bullets that pierced through the body were spit out from Su Chen's body, and the piercing wounds healed in an instant, with all traces of injury. Cannot tell. Self-healing ability? The soldier sneered, and suddenly switched to the firing mode. The bullets of the fully automatic rifle kept shooting Su Chen's head like this. He wanted to see how the other party's head was completely healed. Ding ding ding. The bullets fired at close range hit Su Chen's skin. At this moment, they didn't penetrate through his body surface, but directly flew out. The soldier was dumbfounded. It took less than a few seconds to fire twice, but the second bullet couldn't penetrate his skin. It was as if the opponent had evolved steel-like skin in this short period of time, directly adapting to the impact of the bullet. He is evolving. The doctor in white, who was slumped on the ground, was hit by the fluctuations in his thoughts and turned pale, but at this time he was very excited and laughed loudly. Ha! The infinite mutation gene is making him evolve at a rapid pace. Heaven. Let us applaud the birth of God. Ha ha. Dr. White was laughing loudly. As a Frankenstein, he looked at Su Chen with eyes full of light, as if he had seen some rare treasure. From the beginning of the research on Su Chen cells, he discovered that under the extraordinary and huge activity, there are genetic molecules that are constantly mutating. Subject to the fact that the sample is too small, there is not much room for experimental proof. However, there is a very bold conjecture in his mind. That is, Su Chen's body will directly evolve the corresponding resistance when subjected to strong external stimulation. For example, under the burning of a flame environment, the constantly mutated genes will evolve fire resistance. In the cold and freezing environment, the evolutionary genes will make the body mutate frost resistance. The scene in front of him just confirmed this point. The skin of the young man whose bullet penetrated had evolved resistance in less than a second, and the strength of his skin had suddenly increased so much that the bullet could no longer penetrate. Inexplicably, the doctor in white suddenly thought of a sentence. He would not be defeated by the same move a second time. Damn bastard. The soldiers who did not believe in evil kept pulling the trigger. Da-da. Fiery fireworks bloomed on the muzzle, and a round of bullets continued to shoot at the boy in front of him. Ding ding. It's a pity that one round of bullets hit Su Chen's body one after another, and all of them flew out without exception. They can't even imagine that a person's skin is so strong. Su Chen looked at the soldier in front of him with an angry face. Die. A sullen word came out of Su Chen's mouth. Boom. Under his hysterical expression, the reality around him began to distort, and all the soldiers who came from the entrance of the laboratory in front of him turned pale. They covered their hearts and suddenly screamed in pain. What? They only felt that the heart in their body was being squeezed fiercely by an invisible giant hand, and with a bang, the whole person's heart was completely squeezed by this invisible force. Puff. The figures of a group of soldiers collapsed like this. At the moment they were dying, their expressions were full of fear when they looked at the young man in front of them, as if they had seen a demon god. It's amazing. It's more powerful than reading motivation. You have directly rewritten reality. Dr. White, who collapsed to the ground, explained with excitement. Read more at wuxiax.com. Noisy. Su Chen's eyes looked at him all of a sudden, and the hideous face of the opponent holding a scalpel about to open his skull appeared in his mind, and an uncontrollable anger spurted from the bottom of his heart. You die to me too. His words came out. Invisible fluctuations swept through reality again, and the head of the doctor in white exploded like a tattered watermelon, and red blood sprayed all over his ceiling. I want to go home. I want to live well. No one can stop me. Su Chen's eyes grew colder, and the thin figure walked off the experimental platform. He touched his forehead, without a trace of wounds, and suddenly realized that his indestructible physique was still working. It's just that the supernatural powers that emerged one after another made him clearly aware of a brand new change in his body. He could not discern the principle of change. At this moment, he just wanted to live. Boom. The door of the laboratory was directly closed at this moment, and the steam valve tens of centimeters thick was enough to trap any strong mutant-capable person. In order to avoid the occurrence of experimental accidents, the ventilation ducts of the experiment rooms are equipped with poisonous mist devices. Hiss. Soon, a green mist sprayed from the ventilation ducts and quickly filled the entire experiment room, which was enough to poison an adult elephant quickly in 1 second. Su Chen frowned. His consciousness suddenly became blurred, and the whole person felt extremely tired, as if he was about to fall. But within a second, the effect of neurological palsy began to weaken rapidly. So it is. Su Chen's 13-year-old head immediately had a clear understanding that the influence exerted on him by the outside world can quickly stimulate him to quickly evolve new abilities. Do not. To be precise, his immortal body also contains an infinitely evolving mutant gene. Under the stimulus of the outside world, the direction of evolution has been found in a direction, and new antagonistic abilities have suddenly emerged. In just a few minutes, I seem to have demonstrated the power of thinking, rewriting reality, and being of steel. This is an ability that hasn't been shown in the past, and it's obviously a newcomer. Su Chen suddenly felt that he had become smarter, as if his intelligence had been greatly inspired. In order to cope with more and more abilities in his body, he felt that he needed to generalize, so as to deal with more and more abilities in his body. Just like the child prodigy geniuses on TV, they can construct their own memory palace in their minds, and every book they have read is kept in this palace. In the same way, the genius Sherlock on TV can build a temple of thinking and manage his memory in a scientific and orderly manner. Based on the novels he had read, Su Chen began to construct a system of his own, allowing it to unconsciously summarize the changes in the genes in his body. It's like antitoxic plus 10, antitoxic plus 10, antitoxic plus 10. The host physique has been exempted from the nerve gas, and it will not invade the poison. The changes of genes in the body to external stimuli are summed up vividly by the system constructed by Su Chen. Good. Su Chen is very satisfied. Then, so he looked at the locked laboratory door in front of him. After the surging power of thought surged out, the steam valve in front of him suddenly sank and collapsed. Come. The sour steel twisting sound exploded, and the steam valve in front of him collapsed completely under an invisible force. Hiss. There was a burst of mist under the entire evaporation gate valve tens of centimeters wide, and another surging power of thought swept through. With a loud noise, the entire gate collapsed, and a huge gap large enough to accommodate one person entered and exited. No, this guy's going out. Damn it, call all the guards in the base. Number 5162 is completely out of control. The sound of panic spread throughout the entire large-scale experimental base. The harsh siren sounded even more, and General Marcus hurriedly left, dispatching the security personnel of the entire laboratory base to suppress it. Then Su Chen, who put on a white coat, walked out of the broken door of the experimental room. After going through the incident, his childish face has become somewhat indifferent, stern, not close to any human feelings, and vaguely, there is still a cold, murderous intent emerging. Su Chen wants to live. He promised his dead mother to live well. Damn anyone who prevents him from going out of the laboratory. I'll go to hell. Looking at the figures of soldiers emerging from the end of the corridor, Su Chen's indifferent and stubborn face was full of killing intent. He no longer cares about moral good and evil. Now he has only one thought. Anyone who intercepts him will have to die. Boom. One by one bullets flew from the end of the corridor. This time the bullet head became sharper, but it was capable of piercing armor. Obviously, in order to deal with the steel-like skin, these people took countermeasures. Su Chen's pupils contracted slightly. He raised his right hand, and a surging invisible wave condensed in front of him. Music momentum. He asked the system to summarize this invisible power fluctuation into the motivation of thought. Under the action of the force of thought, the sharp bullets are like sinking into the mud, unable to move in the air, and finally hovering in front of Su Chen. Let's go back. As Su Chen's right hand swayed slightly, the hovering bullets swept out, flying to the figure at the end of the corridor, making loud noises, and the thick body armor could not stop the armor-piercing bullets. In the blink of an eye, all the figures in front of him fell to the ground. It's all your fault. Su Chen's stubborn and childish face looked at the corpse under the ground, but he didn't feel any sickness. Anyone who blocks, you have to die. Boom. Read more at wuxiax.com. The figures of soldiers rushing in continuously fluttered out in a surging thought force, and the indifferent Su Chen even floated his feet, relying on the memory of the experimental base in the past, and ran towards the gate of the entire experimental base. The ear-piercing alarm device kept flashing red, and the noisy sound made Su Chen extremely uncomfortable. Under one of his thoughts, the alarm device hanging from the ceiling and the closed-circuit television all exploded. A door suddenly lowered in the corridor in front of him, as if a mechanism device separated various sections of the experimental base. But this is not difficult for Su Chen. Click. Under the more violent surging thought power fluctuations, the metal gate blocking in front of him burst open. Nian momentum +1. Nian momentum +1. The system prompts are a good way to visualize the evolution of gene mutations. Su Chen also understood very well that when he uses every supernatural ability, he will be tempered and grown, and he will become more comfortable with it. Obviously, this is an infinitely evolving mutant gene at play. That's it. Just under the collapse of the gate, a very tall and stalwart figure came into Su Chen's eyes. Whoosh. In an instant, his figure flew like a wiping arrow, and the figure staggered past, and the sharp blade in his hand directly pierced Su Chen's waist. Puff. Blood spurted out, and the body of steel that was difficult to penetrate by bullets was completely pierced by the opponent's blade. This guy who came from the assault was obviously extremely powerful. Unfortunately, the splashing blood seemed to be drawn by the position, and quickly flew back to Su Chen's wound, and healed so quickly in less than a second. What? The passing figure was dumbfounded. He frowned, and once again pierced Su Chen with the bone blade extending from his hand. This time, enough to penetrate any metal steel plate. Edmund alloy, which is known to be indestructible, actually broke a sharp corner with a bang when it touched the opponent's body. Impossible. He was dumbfounded, and he could not believe that the all-inclusive Amen's claws broke apart. Damn it. You must know that he could still cut through the opponent's skin in the last second, but why within a few seconds, the surface of the opponent's skin grew rapidly and became indestructible. Steel body +5. Steel body +5. Su Chen's brain system clearly summarized the genetic changes quickly. The opponent who struck suddenly had weapons that were sharper than bullets, but it was a pity that all these external stimuli made Su Chen's physique even more terrifying. Roll. Su Chen scolded coldly. In an instant, the attacking figure suddenly slammed into the back wall like a cannonball. The strong impact caused the back wall to directly collapse, and the whole person turned into a blood man. Su Chen was about to turn around and leave, but he glanced at the other side hesitantly, but he didn't expect that the other side would start to heal himself. It's not only you who have the ability to heal yourself in this world. The enemy who fell on his knees sneered, and he slowly stood up. Su Chen frowned. The childish 13-year-old face was full of anger. He was very angry. Why did these guys stop him? Why couldn't these guys just die? For a while, his emotions were a little out of control. Prior to this, the changes in reality caused by hysterical out-of-control emotions were summarized by the system as rewriting reality. This is a very terrifying force. Why can't you just die? In his anger, Su Chen unintentionally triggered the power to rewrite reality. In the blink of an eye, the figure in front of him suddenly broke apart with his limbs and head, as well as the Edmund alloy bone implanted in his body. The black powder dissipated in the air. Rewrite reality +1. Rewrite reality +5. In the use of abilities, Su Chen's horror ability involving reality modification was immediately strengthened. He didn't stay there any longer, so he continued to run towards the gate of the experimental base in the distance. The intercepted figure followed suit. It's just that under Su Chen's horrifying motivational fluctuations, the guards of these experimental bases are no opponents at all. They're like being attacked by an air cannon. Land. Su Chen's aloof figure just jumped over their bodies. Damn it, let me send more X-weapons to catch that guy. In the control room of this super large experimental base, General Marcus, who rushed in hastily, was very angry. Although there have been many experimental accidents in which mutants fled in the past, compared to this time, it made him feel very tricky. But at the same time he was furious, he also felt a sense of joy. Looking at the running figure in the surveillance video, General Marcus appreciates it more and more. OMG. He thought he had acquired a supernatural healing ability, an undead who possessed more extraordinary healing ability than Wolverine. As a result, he didn't expect the other party to burst out so many superpowers when his emotions were out of control. The intangible power of thought spread in the air. With a word of anger, the unknown terrorist ability that can take the lives of others. That steel skin that can withstand bullets. Not only that, according to the analysis of the laboratory personnel, this guy also has extraordinary evolutionary ability. In just an instant, his steel skin ability was once again transformed by the stimulation of Edmund alloy. The Edmund alloy, which was known as indestructible, broke down unexpectedly. OMG, such a terrifying existence is even more terrifying than the X-weapon. Be sure to give me control of him. I want to get him. I must get him. General Marcus gritted his teeth and roared. But compared to Marcus, who was extremely excited, the rest of the personnel in the control room felt extremely worried. Read more at wuxiax.com. The corridor barriers set up along the way were all demolished by violence. The security personnel sent there were wiped out. An X-weapon with high hopes stimulated the growth of the other party. But soon, an even more desperate news came, and the life signal fluctuations that tracked each X-weapon disappeared without a trace. They are dead. The X-weapons that were just dispatched are dead. The staff in the control room panicked immediately. This is the top security force for the entire experimental base. What frightened them even more was that a restraint that could easily fight against mutants was also directly ineffective. Something's wrong. The poisonous mist X, which can inhibit the mutant's ability, has no effect at all. In the past, the most effective way to deal with mutants was to suppress the X poisonous mist of mutant X genes. However, the young figure of the surveillance video is very relaxed and swaying his motivation, and the security personnel who came from the intruder is like a toy, easily dying. It was as if the opponent was not a mutant at all, or had quickly evolved resistance to poisonous fog. In less than a second, the entire surveillance video equipment was directly crushed by the other party. Although the opponent's image was lost, the control room personnel could still track Su Chen's specific direction with the life signal fluctuations. After a while, the opponent would be able to walk out of the entire base directly. Not good. The other party suddenly turned around, as if coming towards our control room. Someone screamed in panic. The life signals captured by the tracking actually changed the target. Did you lose your way or kill towards them? General Marcus's complexion paled suddenly. Prepare the Darkhawk fighter. He stood up directly, surrounded by a few cruel soldiers, and walked out of the control room. At this moment, he has clearly realized that all the cards under his hand have been played, and there is no effective means to restrain the opponent in his hand. Damn it. General Marcus cursed secretly, and when he noticed the other party's actions, he suddenly realized that this guy's retaliatory nature was a bit strong. So this boy must not stay. Although it is a pity that such an experimental material has lost the secret key to immortality, but there is no way. A person who cannot be controlled is the future enemy. It must be completely killed in the earliest stage. Activate the self-detonation device. General Marcus said coldly. This super large experimental base, standing on the snowy field, is equipped with a nuclear explosion self-destructing device. After it is activated, it is enough to obliterate all the evidence of evil here. Marcus has no doubts about the power of it. Just because the nuclear equivalent erupts in the middle, it is enough to wipe out any known creature. Okay, goodbye. A few figures that walked out of the secret road just got on the Darkhawk gunship on the roof, and the corresponding pilot flew into the air with General Marcus in this way. Looking down, you can see a white building standing on the deserted snowfield. After half a minute, the self-detonation device will end the countdown and explode completely. At that time, a bright mushroom cloud will rise here, and the surrounding snowfields will also completely collapse. Poor boy, I heard that you still have a younger sister. I really look forward to what surprises your younger sister will give me. General Marcus sneered. After half a minute, the self-detonation device was activated, and the experimental building located on the snowy field released a terrifying light group. The terrifying wave of destruction destroyed everything by itself, and the surrounding snowy field was completely wiped out. A shocking mushroom cloud just soared up, demonstrating its power. Boom. The earth trembled, and under the violent earthquake fluctuations, even the surrounding snowfields began to collapse in large areas. The power of the nuclear explosion is very terrifying. The first one to bear the brunt is to completely turn the entire building standing on the snowy field into a dark cloud. Under the rising mushroom cloud landscape, even the helicopter personnel far away feel a thrilling beauty inexplicably. Boy, fight with me. General Marcus, who put on his goggles, sneered. The nuclear equivalent of the self-detonation device broke out in the middle, enough to obliterate any existence in the world. Even a person with self-healing ability could not recover under such an instant bombardment. It's a pity that I worked so hard to gather the mutants. In this world, there are many experimental institutions specializing in the research of mutants, except for the famous General William Stryker. It is him, General Marcus. Experimental data cannot be brought out in time, but the black boxes of the central server are all preserved. I don't know if the black boxes placed underground can withstand this wave of shock. General Marcus is a little worried. The black box of an aviation plane is to allow future generations to understand what happened to the crash plane at the time after the plane crash, and what operational errors occurred in the cockpit of the plane personnel. It records all the data at the time, so the entire black box is very resistant. Shock. The black box of the super large experimental base naturally kept a variety of obscure experimental data samples, recording in real time what problems the laboratory encountered at that time, so that it was forced to activate the self-detonation device. Therefore, the black box is an important thing that General Marcus needs to obtain. Otherwise, the nuclear explosion is inexplicably started, and he does not have enough reason to report on his work. And he also needs this black box data to support his next action, which is to arrest the out-of-control sister of Su Chen on a global scale. Don't blame me, but blame your poor brother for rebelling against me. And this is the end of rebelling against me. General Marcus smiled coldly. In fact, there's one thing that General Marcus thought wrong. Su Chen's escaped figure suddenly turned back and did not rush to the gate of the laboratory base for the first time. It was not because he was looking for the murderer behind the control room to avenge him, but because he suddenly remembered the variants that were being held in the cell. Human figure. There are big and small, men and women, and they are all poor people who have been imprisoned. Read more at wuxiax.com. I have been in prison for more than half a month. Although I have not spoken to other prisoners, I still feel a little empathetic when watching their figures disappear one by one. I think they also have their own family members, and they must also have the same cuteness as their sisters. Give up your loved ones. Su Chen moved with compassion at once. They are all poor people. It's better to take them to escape from here. Thinking of his mother's childhood education to be a good person, Su Chen's heart became very firm, and he felt warm for his next action. As a result, General Marcus, who was judged to have killed himself, activated the self-detonation device in a hurry. Pain. After being completely swallowed by the terrifying energy, Su Chen only felt a long-lost pain from his body nerves. Under the erosion of the nuclear explosion, the skin of his whole body gradually disintegrated and shattered, but at the same time, his blood and blood billions of trillions of cells jumped for joy at this moment, and the whales swallowed and attacked all around. Horrible energy. 1 second, maybe 2 seconds. Su Chen's consciousness returned, and at the same time, he could no longer feel any pain. He lowered his head and spread his right hand, only to find that his disintegrated skin was healed again, just like looking back in time. The broken body was once again intact, even if the surrounding area still has nuclear energy. Steel body plus 500. Steel body plus 500. The constructed system clearly informs him of his genetic transformation. The continuously evolving genetic codes seem to have found the direction of evolution, eagerly swallowing the majestic energy that swept from all around. 1 inch, 2 inches, or even tens of square meters. The surrounding energy area of hundreds of square meters began to be attracted to and swallowed by one's own body, just like a black hole was formed in one's own body, greedily absorbing external energy. The new ability, energy manipulation, has been generated. The complex gene chain has generated brand new changes, and the constructed system is a good way to express this change in a simple and clear way. Suchin understood at this moment that he could absorb or release any form of energy. Ever since, he lifted the tip of his right finger, and all forms of energy around him gathered and poured into his fingers. Soon, the majestic nuclear explosion light began to dissipate, and the terrifying mushroom cloud also directly collapsed, and even the light began to be distorted when swallowed by a whale that looked like a black hole. In the end, Suchan saw that he was in a huge pit of thousands of square meters, and all the building structures a few seconds ago were completely vanished. The plan fell through. The plan to rescue others just failed. The entire cell area disappeared without a trace, and even the bones of the prisoners could not be found. Why? Why are good people imprisoned, sent to be slaughtered as poor lambs, and why bad people can do whatever they want? Suchan's shoulders shrugged a little, his words trembled, and tears flashed in his eyes. In the end, his stubborn and childish face gradually became indifferent, and his expression of pity gradually rushed towards the endless killing intent. He gradually raised his head and looked into the distance. Under Suchan's pupils, he could easily see that one was moving. A gunship going away. Go to hell. Suchan's fingertips suddenly flashed a terrifying light, which turned into a terrifying beam and rushed towards the sky. More than 10 seconds ago, the same sight fell in the eyes of the personnel inside the Darkhawk gunship. General Marcus was a little stunned, because the mushroom cloud rising from far away began to collapse, and the bright light caused by the nuclear explosion on the ground disappeared suddenly. What happened? His heart suddenly beat violently, because an unknown answer appeared in his mind. Could it be that damn boy who caused the scene? Impossible. That kid is absolutely impossible to survive. No one can survive in the heart of a nuclear explosion. Everyone in the gunship was taken aback. It was only more than 10 seconds before the self-detonation device erupted, but now, the mushroom cloud that was rising had instantly dissipated. From the perspective of everyone's bird's eye view, they saw a super huge crater on the snowy field. Like a bottomless crater. It's not right. There seems to be a figure there. A soldier wearing a tactical eyepiece roared, and a figure suddenly appeared in the pit under the cover of the smoke and the energy shock wave. It's him. General Marcus turned pale with fright. At this moment, he was no longer surprised by Suchin's wonderful performance. After all, his extraordinary healing power and the ability to constantly evolve and evolve were all within his imagination. But what is the concept now? A person who was able to stay in the center of a nuclear explosion without any harm was far beyond the limit of his imagination. This does not belong to the category of human beings, or even creatures at all. This is a devil, a monster. Suddenly, General Marcus remembered Dr. White's hysterical words before his death. Let's applaud the birth of God. God. Soon, with the straight eyes of General Marcus, a bright light gleamed in the pit in the distance. It was Suchan who raised his right hand, and the light bursting from his fingertips instantly magnified and turned into a thick and incomparable golden beam of light, which suddenly tore through the sky, blasted through the sky, and directly blasted the distant one. An aerial helicopter is listed as the target. Do not. All the personnel, including General Marcus, roared. Read more at wuxiax.com. It's a pity that the bright light that rushed into the sky swallowed their figure and the entire fighter plane. Under the solid beam of energy, even the X-weapon with the healing ability on the fighter plane's upper body can only be transformed in an instant. For nothing. Boom. The orange-red flame light just bloomed, appearing in the sky like a firework. The bad guy should all die. Why do you kill so many people and think about leaving? Suchin's stubborn face was telling the indifferent killing intent. He withdrew his right hand. With energy manipulation, he can swallow and release all forms of energy from the outside world, including nuclear energy, and all the kinetic energy shocks that attack him can be absorbed by him. It's getting stronger. Suchan squeezed his right hand, and a surging force continued to rise from the palm of his hand. Under the baptism of the nuclear explosion just now, the whole person's physique has been strengthened again, and besides it has also brought more enormous physical strength. Susan. After successfully escaping from the imprisoned cage, Suchan is now full of his sister's figure. After the death of his mother, he could only depend on his sister, but an accident separated them. I want to go back. Suchan stepped forward and gradually walked out of the pit. He promised his mother that he would take his sister to live, grow up healthy, and live a long life. He wants to live, and I have to rush back to my sister. But where exactly is this place? After walking out of the bottomless pit, Suchan looked at the endless snowy field around him. The whole eyes were a white tone. Snowflakes were falling, and the world was vast. 13-year-old Suchan couldn't tell where this snowy landform was located. He can only walk 1 foot deep and 1 foot shallow in the snow. Half an hour. 1 hour. The surrounding world is still white and vast, and the endless snowy landscape is like a world prison. The thriving immortal body can't feel the cold, because the cold outside stimulation makes his body full of freezing resistance. However, Suchan's heart was cold, and his stubborn face wanted to collapse. Where exactly is this place? He felt that he could not go out. Surrounded by the energy of his body, his long black hair hung upside down, his feet got off the snow, and he moved forward, but a few hours later, it was still a white color, and no one around him could be seen. The damn experimental base was actually built in an unknown snowfield, so that he could hardly get out of this endless snowfield on his own feet. Suchan's heart was out of control. After his mother died of illness, he has vowed that he will not cry anymore, and will be a strong man with his sister to support the whole day. He can't cry, but the unfamiliar snowy environment around him seemed to mock how ridiculous his behavior of wanting to see his relatives was. He doesn't even know where it is. He can't even find a figure. Even the world is bullying itself. Damn bastard, can't you let me see a figure? Suchan's emotions suddenly got out of control. Less than a second. The colors of the world change instantly, and the surrounding tone is no longer a piece of white, but a piece of colorfulness. At this moment, Suchan only felt that his eyes were blurred for a moment, and he was in a city under neon lights, with the figures of people walking through the streets. The out-of-control emotions indirectly triggered his mysterious ability to rewrite reality. Suchan was a little surprised by the changes in front of him. In less than a second, he was located in an endless snowfield. In the next second, he just appeared under a city alley under a neon light. Rewrite reality. He immediately realized that it was this ability that caused the change in the environment. In the experiment room, he was completely emotionally out of control when he was bound, so much that he deprived many people of their lives just by words. The word roll caused all the surrounding figures to be thrown away. The word death is enough to make the body no longer exist. This is the power of rewriting reality, mysterious and unpredictable, ethereal and intangible, yet possessing terrifying lethality, as well as a huge power that cannot be captured. In the emotional out of control just now, Suchan wanted to see the crowded city, so he completely triggered the ability to rewrite reality. Suchan suddenly disappeared in the city under neon lights. He walked out of the lane, looking curiously at the surrounding tall buildings. Towering skyscrapers rise from the ground, and the neon lights outside the surface of the building completely illuminate the city at night. The city has not only changed, even the sky has changed. 13-year-old Suchan naturally knew that this was a change brought about by geography, and he quickly figured out why he rewritten reality and came to the city in front of him. This is downtown Manhattan. Suchan gritted his teeth and said bitterly. He recalled the dream he told his mother on the side of the sick bed. He dreamed of a top-notch apartment in Manhattan, driving the best car, becoming an upper-class person, giving his mother the best treatment, and having a happy life. For the rest of your life. But now he came to the city so abruptly for the first time, but he was alone and alone. The bitterness gradually dilutes the novelty, and Su-chun now only wants to find his sister. She is not in the city. As they parted, the two said goodbye to a town on the west coast. Unfortunately, the arrest itself lets Susan, who has the ability to shuttle in space, escape by herself. Susan must not dare to go back to her hometown. As for the vicious aunts and relatives, the 11-year-old Susan was dissatisfied and would not go to flee. Thinking of Susan's ability to penetrate everything, Su-chen's uneasiness was finally flattened out. But what can he use to get to her side? Communication method? No. Can only rely on the power of rewrite reality to bring her here? Su-chun carefully studied it and felt that only the ability under his control could fulfill his wish. It's just that this ability is not something I can control at will. Su-chun gritted his teeth. Read more at wuxiax.com. No matter how he wants his sister to bring him here or go to where his sister is now, he can't make this ability work. The ethereal ability to rewrite reality is very difficult to control. The previous series of behaviors were only caused by the explosion of oneself out of control. If you want to dominate this ability as you like, your current self is obviously not enough. I need to focus on this ability. Su-chun sighed secretly. Under the Immortal Constitution, there is the genetic potential of unlimited evolution, but the direction of evolution is originally disordered and uncontrollable, and the new abilities that suddenly emerge are entirely caused by disorderly mutations of genes. Without stimulus from the outside world, the current Su-chun could not control the evolution direction of his genes in the micro world. As for the system, that's not the golden finger in the novel. It doesn't have any ability. It's just that Su-chun imitated the behavior of a genius detective in constructing a memory palace in his mind, thus constructing a system of recording genetic changes in his mind. Maybe it can only be done if strong emotions are out of control. Su-chun is a little frustrated. He is not the moody women on TV. How can he suddenly lose control of his emotions? And I'm afraid it may not work. Gulong. At this time, a more realistic question came, and he was groaning with hunger. Looking at the late-night snack shop on the street in the distance, Su-chen's sharper nose caught the very sweet smell, and Su-chun felt his taste buds continue to slobber. So hungry, but he was penniless, not even a dime. Go grab it. Su-chun just feels that there is a bewitching word in his mind. Go steal it. The world can't stop you at all. But looking at the hardworking little girl in the shop, Su-chun only felt that his conscience was condemned. They are all poor people. Su-chun shook his head. It was so sad that a girl who might be younger than herself had to work all night in the shop. My mother used to teach herself to have empathy and be a good person. Su-chun suddenly realized that his wanton snatching behavior was still not good. Hey kid. At this moment, a word came from not far away, and saw a teenager in a denim sweater walking over. You're hungry. You don't look very good. At first glance, you look like you have run away from home. He was holding a bag of donuts in his hand, and directly stuffed such a bag of food into Su-chen's arms. Su-chen's complexion was a little confused, and the other party's familiar performance did make him a little uncomfortable, but his clothes were damaged, and looked like a child who had run away from home. He didn't know how to deal with it. Eat. You are welcome. I also ran away from home a few years ago. I know how you feel now. Don't worry, there are still a lot of these donuts. Don't worry that I won't be able to finish it. This self-acquaintance boy looks like his elder brother. At this time, another word came from the depths of the dark alleyway. Hey, Matthew, what's going on? Come and watch the show. I see. Matthew responded. Watch the show? Su-chun was a little startled. Boy, you don't know. The stripper shows and nightclubs are only open in secret shops in various lanes. You can't miss this. Let's check it out before going home. Matthew invited it directly. Striptease show? Su-chun had watched some clips on restricted TV channels, but his sister Susan switched the channel with a serious face. Su-chun was also very interested in the hormones who are in the growth stage. Su-chun always feels a little warm in his heart when he thinks that this self-acquainted big brother is so kind and giving him donuts, and it is hard to refuse. There are still good people in this world. He was full of joy and followed this elder brother for a few steps. Only, the gradually stronger body has also brought about an improvement in perception. Not only the sense of smell, but also the ability of hearing has been strengthened. As a result, he heard some detailed words deep in the tunnel. In the next second, Su-chen's childish face became more and more cold, and a cold shadow filled his expression. His footsteps stopped directly. A pair of cold eyes with killing intent looked towards the back in front of him like this. The world is not worth it. Can you tell me what is human organ trafficking? After the young Su-chun walked out of the experimental base, he was somewhat discouraged. A single shadow only descended on the lanes of the city and met a kind-hearted brother. The hot donuts, and even the restricted level show outlined by the other party, made Su-chun extremely happy and longing. There are still good people, but in the next second, the warmth that Su-chun held in his heart disappeared without a trace. A nuclear explosion is like a tempering. Under the strong stimulation, not only the physical strength becomes more and more terrifying, but also the terrifying perception that comes with it. A keen sense of smell allows him to capture the sweet smell of late-night snacks on the streets in the distance. And the same sensitive hearing ability suddenly allowed him to capture the whispering words of strangers in the laneway. There are no secret shops deep in the aisle, nor a stripper show, but an illegal private hospital clinic. $6,000. The organs of that child's body are yours. The stranger who had called the eldest brother just now was whispering. And in the store hidden in the night, there was also a rough and cold tone, and the two responded in this way, and reached an agreement in whispers. A lost lamb like Su-chun is so ignorant that he is deeply trapped in Matthew's deceit. If you are an incompetent wanderer, I am afraid it will inevitably come to a tragic ending. Unfortunately, what are you saying? Matthew turned around, but his expression was extremely natural. Although he couldn't know how the other party saw through the scam, the difference in power brought about by the age difference between the two made him not panicked at all. On the contrary, his eyes watched Su-chun with a bit of playfulness, just like watching an insect trapped in a spider web. Struggling only makes the other person die faster. But within a short while, his expression suddenly solidified, his hands bitterly covered his neck, and his complexion suddenly became red like pig liver. Do not. Matthew's heart was roaring. At this moment, he only felt that his neck was confined by an invisible palm. Less than a second, a sharp pain came from the heart. What? His painful words swallowed in his throat like this, and it was difficult for him to say a single bitter word. What made him even more desperate was that his heart was exactly the same, and he was squeezed by an invisible hand that could not be seen or touched. Right. And the appearance of these people completely dispelled the trace of goodwill in Su-chen's heart. Humans in this world seem to be hopeless. Under the power of rewriting reality, it was like erasing a person's figure with an eraser, and the black doctor in front of him disappeared into the air, turning into a handful of gray mist. Ding! The scalpel held in panic just fell from the air, making a crisp sound. Life and death are determined in one word. The poor guy has no bones left, and the world has evaporated. The figure of Su-chun walked into this dark clinic opened in the lane. Although he was young, he had heard the rumors of the betrayal of human organs. In order to change a mobile phone to sell his kidney organs, it can only be said that others are stupid and out of reach. But trying to deceive a person's body organs for no reason is simply unforgivable, and it is difficult to obtain a trace of forgiveness. Scum like this shouldn't live in this world. Su-chun scolded. He looked at the entire black clinic. The square space was full of debris, an operating table was placed in the middle, and Sun Lung's surgical tools were placed on both sides. The walls are covered with X-rays and color pictures. The keen sense of smell also caught the smell of blood coming from the compartment. Su-chun frowned. I'm afraid this dark clinic has already done something to other people. What a damn scum. For a time, 13-year-old Su-chan felt a bit of disgust for the city he had longed for since childhood. Money. Su-chan looked at the stack of banknotes in the drawer, but he didn't have a trace of shame about this kind of ill-gotten wealth. After going through so many things, he has realized that the world of tenderness is finally full of rules of the weak and the strong. Without the genetic potential of infinite evolution, then his pitiful immortal physique will probably be reduced to a sample in the experimental base of others. Even if you pass this level, if you don't have enough powerful ability, you will be fooled by the sinister routines in the city if you are ignorant and young. The world is sinister, unpredictable. Su-chan put a full stack of tens of thousands of dollars in cash into his trouser pocket. Then, he put on a coat to cover some tattered clothes in the underground, and his slender figure walked out of this dark clinic and walked towards the street outside the lane. With the money, he first went to a shopping mall off the street. Su-chan clearly needs a new set of clothes. Soon, under his aesthetic, he wore a black hoodie and a pair of loose slacks on his lower body. Read more at wuxiax.com. After washing his face, Su-chan looked very handsome underneath his slightly childish face, with a soft long black hair dangling down. Some young and mature scents are just a pair of clear black and white eyes showing a cold meaning. The impersonal indifference radiates out. The waitress wanted to tease this handsome kid who came alone, but she didn't dare to say anything when she saw the cold look of the other person. After buying the order, Su-chan just walked out of the mall. Of course, he did not forget to buy himself a new mobile phone. He put on a black hood and headphones on both ears. His angular, handsome face showed a trace of seriousness. He looked at the phone in his hand intently. If Su-chan held a skateboard on his right arm, it would be like a street mess. Cool boy. Even so, his appearance on the street has attracted the attention of many girls, and the rate of turning back is extremely high. So handsome. Much more than the stunned handsome guys in our school. The focused look and the indifferent complexion are so cool. Some of the ladies passing by talked in a low voice. On the streets of Manhattan under the neon lights, there are already many party animals going to the nightclub to play. Looking at the figure of such a lonely cool boy, there are always some ladies who are eager to try. Little brother, is it the age to drink? Would you like my sister to take you to play? A beautiful white-collar worker in a white professional shirt stepped forward to hook up. Su-chan shook his head indifferently, amplified the volume of the phone, and left without anyone else. What a ruthless kid. The beautiful white-collar worker turned around and left in a disappointment. Looking for the capture of the smell, Su-chan's footsteps gradually accelerated, and soon his figure appeared outside a shop. Boss, here's a bag of donuts. The cash in his hand was quickly exchanged for a bag of donut delicacies. As for the food delivered by the vicious person just now, he had long been thrown on the ground, and he didn't even want to eat an extra piece. In the empty restaurant, Su-chan's figure sat on a soft seat, swallowing delicious donuts in his mouth. At this moment, this was actually his happiest time in most of the past half a month. Damn it, before that, he couldn't even breathe a trace of fresh air. Hunger is quickly filled. Su-chan's top priority is to arrange his next life and goals. This is the fine tradition he inherited from his mother. The things that need to be dealt with each day should be divided into time, clearly organized, and try to complete the academic and life problems within the time period. First, she is naturally her younger sister. Second, revenge. He lost his contact information. He was located in Manhattan on the east coast of North America, a full continent from the west coast. There was no communication method, no identification document, or even an adult. He could not find a convenient way to go back. And his past house is definitely not safe, and Susan will show up nearby without any reason. When I thought of my sister Susan blinking her eyes and riding the smell of a sly little fox, Su-chan's indifferent face gradually showed a smile. This little guy who used to give him a headache is not so easy to get caught. In the dark, Su-chan always felt that his sister was not in any danger. This is a kind of intuition, and it is also an unknown meaning on the spiritual level. It is like when the other party has an accident, it will inevitably arouse one's own alertness. Su-chan remembered that when his mother died of illness, the sense of alertness he had sensed in advance made him extremely uncomfortable and anxious, and finally watched his relatives pass away in silence and helplessness. He shook his head, hiding these painful memories in his mind. So it's revenge? Su-chan's complexion was grim again. In fact, after he was arrested, the base he was sent to at the first moment was not a large-scale experimental base on a snowy field. After less than 2 days, he was transferred to another experimental base. As for the arrest of himself and his sister, and the owner of the first experimental base, Su-chan remembers his name very well. General Stryker. Even the search bar of the mobile webpage can clearly and unambiguously write down the brilliant resume of the General Schwana. William Stryker. This big name can be said to be a big name, with a reputation all over the world. The most important achievement was to offend the entire mutant race. The extremely representative Magneto King Eric hated him deeply. Even the conservative mutant Professor Charles had no small opinions on him. Through the search of the mobile phone, Su-chan directly learned about the mutant race from the related entry of General Stryker. According to what Professor Charles has always said, that is that every human body may have an X gene. The difference is that the X gene of the mutant is completely expressed, which is why an ordinary couple gives birth to mutant children. I am not a mutant. Su-chan frowned slightly, which is why he was suddenly transferred to another experimental base. But for mutants with supernatural powers, he still has a hint of goodwill, perhaps because of empathy. After all, they have also suffered unfair oppression. Boom. At this moment, a bottle of lemon soda was placed on his desk, and there was a clear sound. Hey, how can anyone patronize a bag of donuts without feeling thirsty? A girl with 2 golden ponytails in front of her joked. She was sitting across from the bar just now, and she was very interested in such a handsome little boy who loves donuts. Mindy's delicate face was full of curiosity, and said, "It's so late now. Aren't you going home yet? Have you finished your homework? No need to go to class tomorrow." After the soul asked 3 times, Su-chan was speechless for a while. It's not that her topic completely shocked her, but, please, you're not too old. Who did you learn from the old-fashioned tone? Humph. Dissatisfied. When my sister was as old as you, I did more than one big thing, and I swept the whole city from heaven to earth. Mindy looked at Su-chan's speechless face and gestured immediately. Not to mention that this head swing does seem to have some fighting skills, enough to bluff people. This cup of lemon tea is for you. Remember to go home as soon as you finish drinking. Mindy didn't pay much attention to the indifferent young man, and he turned around and left, a pair of golden ponytails dangling. Under his small and exquisite lowly figure, it looked a little cute. For a while, Su-chan thought of his sister. Half an hour passed. Su-chan, who had solved the hunger problem, walked out of the restaurant. It was late at night. Now he was looking for a place to stay, but a real problem was oncoming. That's the question of how to stay. Ordinary hotels require ID cards, and some irregular residences are even more difficult to find, and a minor child may not be welcome. Read more at wuxiax.com. Su-chan thought about it, but felt that the night accommodation could be put aside. The immortal physique originally means that the cell activity is extremely full, and the surging life-healing power always allows him to maintain sufficient physical strength at all times. Even how mental exhaustion can relieve this problem, and the body after the nuclear explosion stimulates, Su-chan didn't feel tired for the time being. The most important thing is that I want to find out how to find the whereabouts of my loved ones as soon as possible. Boom. A steel pewter bounced out of Su-chan's right hand, rose into the air, and then slowly fell back. But when it accurately landed in the palm of his hand, the entire coin disappeared without a trace. In less than a second, it was like a trick, and another brand new coin appeared in the palm of nowhere. Then, boom, there was another crisp sound, which was bounced by Su-chan. At this moment, the entire coin disappeared completely in midair. The invisible fluctuations of rewriting reality are simply difficult to capture, and the invisible power just makes a coin appear in Su-chan's hand. This is not a dazzling technique. It is that Su-chan himself is using the ability to rewrite reality as much as possible. Infinitely evolving genes are indeed disorderly mutations. It's just that past experience has also told Su-chan that under external stimuli, or even excessive use of this ability, the direction of genetic evolution will find an attraction. Generally speaking, only when emotions are out of control can the power of completely rewriting reality be used too much. However, if a coin is constantly illusioned and disillusioned like this, appearing out of thin air and directly obliterating it in reality, it is natural that there is no need to rely on changes in emotions. Rewrite reality +1. Rewrite reality +1. More practice can evolve. The constructed system records the information of gene transformation very well. Walking down the night street, Su Chun wears a black hood, a black windbreaker, and earphones. A coin in his hand is constantly flipping and jumping, illusion and disillusionment. The mysterious, slender, and thin figure walks so arrogantly. Right, going around all the way, watching the night scenery brought by downtown Manhattan. It's just that the beautiful life that I dreamed of a few years ago is gradually fading in my mind. If you and the people around you can't grasp the life and death, how will your life unfold afterwards? He wants to become stronger. Only the strong can crush all stumbling blocks. At this moment, there was a blast of sparks from the roadway not far away, and the bullets that burst under the muffler were very muffled. Su Chen's sensitive hearing captured all this. His indifferent face did not show a trace of movement. After experiencing human organ trafficking, he saw a lot of robberies while shopping along the way. There is too much filth hidden behind the bustling city. This also gave him a slight change in his understanding of the world. His mother has been teaching him to be good, and he used to agree very much. But the series of encounters over the past half-month has made him feel a little numb. In the bottom of his heart, he also decided whether to take revenge. On the one hand, he longed for a peaceful life and longed to return to the ordinary warm family of the past. On the other hand, he couldn't calm down the resentment in his heart. Why should he suffer so many hardships for no reason? And why the bad guys can still get away with it and unscrupulously hunt and kill people like him? Su Chen's heart made waves. He was thinking. Next second, Su Chen's footsteps stopped. His eyes were still looking at the laneway not far away, and he saw a girl wearing a black cloak and leather jacket with purple hair constantly leaping among the enemies. With a samurai sword in one hand and a butterfly sword in the other, several people who committed the crime in the future were killed one after another. Su Chen didn't know that this woman's nickname was Super Killer. All he knows is that this woman wearing a purple wig and a black suit is the girl who gave herself a glass of lemonade in the restaurant before. What a coincidence. Su Chen frowned, but relying on the instinct of fighting in the dark, he realized that the girl was going to suffer next. Picture, Super Kill Girl. Boom. A bullet burst out of the barrel under the silencer, and the stumbling lorry figure had no time to hide in the air. With a bang, her figure lost its balance and fell from the air. But what is unexpected is that the black leather coat of this lowly girl has bullets inlaid outside. Oh, with an angry grunt, the lowly girl who fell to the ground shot a butterfly knife backhand. This precise throwing technique was jaw-dropping. In an instant, it hit the three figures in the throat. Killed directly. For a while, the alleyway was filled with suit figures, and only a murderous little lowly was left. Su Chun, of course, did not know the super killer girl who has recently gained fame in Manhattan. As for whether this lowly girl punishes evil and promotes good, or gang fires, Su Chen subconsciously feels that it has nothing to do with him. He is just a passerby. Su Chen took a look, then turned and left. That kid just now. The super killing girl Mindy looked at the slender and thin back not far away, and frowned. She glanced at the watch. It was a full midnight after 12 o'clock. The little kid who was eating the donut just now turned out to be. Haven't returned home yet. Putting on a purple hair set and a suit, Mindy was not afraid of revealing his identity, and threatened not far away. Hey, kid, what are you looking at? Don't you get me home to find your parents? She was purely teasing and wanted to molest the young and mature guy. Old-fashioned, indifferent without saying a word. I am not afraid that you will pee. After speaking, Mindy also gestured to the samurai sword in his hand. The cold edge under the moonlight was dripping with blood, and the scene before him was indeed very scary. What? But within the next second, the super killer's complexion changed, and she quickly shouted, Hey, kid, get away, pay attention to the car in front. Su Chun turned his head when he heard the other party's words, and at this moment, a white car was so full of the accelerator, like a running wild horse, wrapped in a terrifying momentum, just rushing straight into it. Don't think too much. This car that suddenly comes at full speed must be a trouble for finding super-killing women. Coincidentally, Su Chen's figure was stopped right in the center. For the underworld emperor Jin He, what an innocent person could tell. His subordinates were even more unscrupulous about this. In order to retaliate against the super-killing girl, they just stepped on the gas pedal regardless of whether they were on the road or ignored the pedestrians on the road. They just rushed toward the lane. It can be so rampant. Su Chen's indifferent eyes looked at this Mercedes-Benz car like this, and the car lights in the night shone directly, covering his thin figure completely. The driver of the car with his hands holding the steering wheel was full of excitement. In his eyes, the boy in front of him seemed completely frightened and motionless, almost like a second stunned boy. At this moment, he had expected that the boy's figure would be thrown away. Hundreds of meters, blood spilled over the sky. But why is this guy's eyes full of mockery? Die. In a whisper. Boom. Read more at wuxiax.com. There was a dull loud noise that resounded between heaven and earth. Suddenly, it was like an air cannon falling out of thin air, and it was like being beaten by an invisible hammer. The white car in front of the Mercedes-Benz turned into a pool of discus, and the entire ground was directly sunken. The depth of the meter is as if it was hit by a meteorite. The super killer Mindy opened her eyes wide, and her eyes under the tactical blindfold were completely filled with shock. She was dumbfounded. Dare to feel that this lonely and indifferent cool boy is a superpower? Is it a mutant? This is too strong. What are you looking at? You don't want to go home for me to find your parents. Su Chun gave this sentence back to the stunned super killer. You. Mindy's delicate face blushed suddenly, but the loud bang just now made the car's sirens in the whole block sound, and the lights of the houses in the dark were constantly turned on. Obviously, he wanted to see what was happening outside. Don't stay longer. In a loss of consciousness, she even found that the lonely figure of the other party had disappeared into the dark night. Damn. Sooner or later, I will ask you for a cup of lemon tea. Obviously, he invited people to drink before, and Mindy also felt that he was a thief in order to find the place. After dozens of minutes, Mindy's compact lowly figure has come to her safe house. The black leather jacket that could withstand the impact of the bullet was replaced, and after the purple wig was removed, a golden shoulder-length short hair fell down, and the super killer put the weapons in her hands on the workbench one by one. In the entire safe house in front of them, the cabinets on the three walls are full of guns of various types. A super girl who combines a master of guns and a master of fighting. She thought that there was only one cool girl like herself in the world. A grim lowly killer in her early teens. Such a person's ideas and thoughts are full of feelings. But she didn't expect she met a teenager with such exaggerated ability this evening. Daddy, can you help me find the identity of this teenager? Mindy returned home. Damon, the father who prepared supper for him, looked at the mobile phone photo handed by his daughter, and suddenly smiled and said, unexpectedly, my daughter started to miss men too. Father, Mindy blushed and said with some annoyance, I didn't mean that. This teenager has a terrible ability. He directly crushed a car into a discus out of thin air. Oh my god, this is an exaggeration. As for why there is a photo of Su Chun, Mindy will naturally not say that he secretly photographed others when he was in the restaurant. This is too hard to tell. Mutants. Dad's interest suddenly became stronger. He opened a white toolbox from the living room with a secret computer hidden inside. By inputting photos into it, he could find any information about the teenager from the backstage of the Intelligence Bureau, and even call various cameras in Manhattan. This face recognition captures the real-time trace of the other party. When embarking on a career of revenge and thoroughly training his daughter to be a ruthless killing machine, Damon has inextricably linked with the intelligence agency and other violent agencies, so he can collect so many types of weapons. It is even easier to find someone. Something's wrong. Damon was surprised. What's wrong? Father, someone is also looking for this Su Chen's information in the back end of the server. Damn, we hit the line. His authority level is so high. Quickly exit. In a hurry, Damon immediately shut down the secret computer. The frightened Damon wiped the cold sweat on his face, sighed, and said, some of his information has been hidden, which means that it is the focus of attention from above. What has your friend done? He is probably very dangerous now. after the complete crash of a large test base standing on a snowy field. The Ministry of Defense forces also rushed to the scene as soon as possible to investigate what happened. The snowfield base activated the self-detonation device, and it was suspected that it had suffered an uncontrolled blow. General Marcus was killed in his service and was buried in the escape plane along with some staff. The black box in the experimental base was successfully recovered. Start transferring information. Preliminary results show that the prisoner Su Chun, base number 5162, was out of control when preparing for an autopsy in the experiment room. Multiple monitoring devices lost their signals and were suspected of being destroyed, so they could not accurately represent the situation at the time. Someone from the Ministry of National Defense quickly parsed out the black box message. A shocking news followed. As for Su Chun, who survived the self-destruction of a nuclear explosion, the answer is yes. Because satellite equipment outside low Earth orbit, and even the surveillance equipment in Manhattan, successfully captured the traces of Su Chen's face. Damn, he's still alive. Everyone is stupid. After all, what is the concept of being able to survive a nuclear explosion? Is the opponent's physique really immortal, able to survive such a terrifying self-destructive power? What is even more amazing is how the other party managed to cross most of the Americas in less than half a day, and came to a bustling Manhattan city from the snowy terrain countless kilometers away. Interesting. Many generals of the Ministry of National Defense have already reaped this news. I declare that this number 5162 is mine. General Rose stood up directly. Damn it, that number 5162 should have been my subject. My vision was not wrong at all. The hunting operation was the first one I launched. You snatched the subject from my hands, and the guards were incompetent. Caused the opponent to escape successfully. General William Stryker protested angrily. In the conference room, there are many generals who have a lot of opinions on this. But what is creepy is that Su Chun has his own name. But in the mouths of these big people, they are constantly yelling in the name of number 5162. It's like Su Chun, a young man, doesn't deserve to be called a human being. In their eyes, it's just a random shop. Yes, everyone on the scene was very excited about this. Such a tenacious experimental body is really fascinating to get answers from it. The final result soon followed. At the direction of the Secretary of Defense, General Ross stationed in the nearby area waved his fists and celebrated. Obviously, he had obtained the ownership of the experiment. Close to the water tower, first get the month. General Ross, who has been tackling the mystery of gamma rays and Hulk, just took his troops and rushed to the Central Park in downtown Manhattan in the dark. Read more at wuxiax.com. Downtown Manhattan, Central Park. Under the night. Everything here is very quiet, and the hustle and bustle of the day has long disappeared. Su Chun, wearing a black hood, was sitting on a bench in the park, playing pop songs with his ears and earphones. He lowered his head like this, and his right hand was slowly stroking a stray cat from nowhere. Not long ago, this poor stray cat was rubbing his trousers, and while meowing, it rolled around his feet. This clingy little milk cat suddenly reminded Su Chun of the cat that was raised at home. Because the doors and windows were not closed properly, the cat ran away and was hit and killed by a car on the street outside. Su Chun remembered his sister at the time. This cried for a long time. Why? He sighed slightly. Unexpectedly, after coming to such a longing city, in this big night, there is only a poor stray cat to accompany him. Rewrite reality +2. Rewrite reality +2. The constructed system continuously reminds the information of gene transformation and ability enhancement. In this lonely night, Su Chun kept floating coins around him, appearing out of thin air, and then obliterated in an instant. In this illusion and disillusionment, he constantly uses this ability to rewrite reality to promote transformation. Compared to the target of revenge who doesn't know where, it is even more critical to be the first to find his sister. Despair. At this moment, the clearer and clearer footsteps came from far and near. It's you. Su Chun frowned. Isn't the lowly girl in front of me who is breathing distractedly running and supporting her knees with her hands is the little girl who kills people at the entrance of a lane? One side of the fate. No, it is the third time we have met each other now, and every time I met, it seemed more exaggerated. The other party was killing last time. This time, it was Central Park at 1 o'clock in the middle of the night, and two boys and girls in their early teens had a conversation. You stupid, you shouldn't go shopping casually on the main road. Don't you know you are wanted now? The super killer Mindy complained very much. After learning about the situation from Dad, she couldn't help but ran. Although some key information was concealed, Mindy still learned that this was a figure who had escaped from an obscure experimental base. Mindy felt very bitter when he thought that the other side's lonely and indifferent figure must have been hurt a lot. Many people who can feed stray cats under Central Park must also be good people. Quickly follow me. I will take you to a safe place. Mindy said nothing. The sturdy chick just stepped forward and grabbed Su Chin's right hand, trying to drag him out of this unsafe area. Su Chin frowned, but he was a little bit resistant. A few hours ago, an unfamiliar big brother with a gentle face gave himself a bag of donuts. At that time, he felt extremely warm in his heart, but the conspiracy behind him broke his heart. The ghost knows if this woman is catching her attention behind her back. Even the cat at Su Chin's feet started meowing, as if protesting against this savage lowly girl. Go. Mindy turned around and looked at the motionless figure, tears flashing in his eyes, and the smell of begging was very obvious. Su Chin's heart was immediately touched. Only, boom. A sniper rifle sounded from a kilometer away, and an armor-piercing bullet instantly hit the center of Su Chin's forehead. In order to deal with such a so-called immortal existence, the snipers under General Ross specially used armor-piercing bullets constructed from Edmund alloy. Rest in peace. The power of a sniper rifle is naturally much stronger than a pistol. In particular, the anti-material sniper rifle is more than enough to penetrate an armored vehicle from a kilometer away. After using the bullets cast from Edmund alloy, its power is even stronger. Boom. The nearly 1 meter long barrel suddenly shot out a sharp bullet. The strong recoil was enough to make the soldier's shoulders suddenly sore. From a rooftop a kilometer away, he shot directly at Su Chun on the garden bench. Less than a second. Boom. Su Chin's forehead was hit by a bullet instantly. What? The lowly girl was shocked instinctively, but the scene before her changed her complexion. She saw that sharp bullet was so slightly embedded in the middle of Su Chin's forehead, and the majestic instant penetration was so sudden. However, most of the projectile was exposed to the air. Ding. The bullet couldn't stand at all. It just fell off. As for Su Chin's forehead, there was not even a trace of blood blooming, and the surface of his skin was just a little bit of blood. But in such an instant, even the blood stasis on the surface disappeared. Steel body +2. For the damage caused by the instant penetration force, Su Chin's skin strength has undergone a slight transformation. Obviously, compared to the previous nuclear explosion, the Edmund sniper bullet in front of him is still not enough to see. This? The sniper on the roof was stunned. Through the eightfold mirror, he saw a strange scene in the next. Not good. I saw on the bench in the park in the distance, a bullet was inexplicably pulled by the invisible force, and it rose directly into the air. In an instant, it was given terrifying energy by the target. With a swish, the whole bullet followed just now. Track, fly upside down. Whoosh. As if electromagnetically accelerated, the entire bullet left a pale track in the air. In less than a second, it pierced the eightfold mirror and passed through the head of the rooftop sniper. No need to go. They have surrounded this place. Su Chun, who was still sitting on the bench, said so slowly. What? In the instinct of a professional killer, Mindy also felt the surrounding atmosphere of Central Park became quieter. She gritted her teeth and was quite sure that if she put on a night vision goggles, she would definitely be able to see a bunch of figures lurking in the dark and approaching slowly. It's a pity that Mindy was in a hurry and put down a fan dress all over his body. As far as the equipment was concerned, only a few butterfly knives tied to his legs under the skirt. What should I do? Read more at wuxiax.com. For some reason, Mindy is full of dependence on the men around him. Compared to the slightly nervous Mindy, Su Chin's indifferent expression has a calm expression on his face, as if he himself is really coming to the park for a walk, strolling in the courtyard, leisurely, and without any sense of panic. Come and kill one by one. 13-year-old Su Chen did not notice much of the surveillance equipment scattered all over the city streets. However, after experiencing the nuclear explosion and escaping from the criminal experimental base, he was very calm and composed. There is always a solution to a problem. Since the other party is willing to come, then I don't mind sending all these people to death. Let's kill one by one. Mindy's smile became more bitter, and this guy's tone was more arrogant than his own. He was just a gangster facing the underground world, but what he had to face was a modern army. You hide. It is much harder for Su Chen to say a word to this girl who kindly reminded him. After all, he doesn't want to involve other people. As for the stray cat rubbing against him, Su Chen himself pushed it out. In the battle that is about to break out, staying by your side is not a wise move. At this moment, a bright and whitish searchlight illuminates in this way, and Su Chen and Mingdi's figure in the dark night are completely illuminated. Mindy didn't dare to look directly at the high-power searchlight in front of him. The blazing bright light on the body was enough to make people feel the temperature, and the eyes were enough to blind people. Number 5162, raised your hands and immediately surrendered to me, accompanied by the blessing of a tweeter. Number 5162, Su Chen suddenly remembered that this was the number he was bound to when he was in the experimental base. My name is Su Chen. He is not a merchandise to be manipulated by others, to be labeled as meaningless humiliation. At this moment, an invisible wave rippled around Su Chen. His cold eyes looked directly at the figure behind the searchlight, and coins appeared out of thin air in the palm of his right hand, which instantly turned into sharp needles in the plasticized state of the power of mind, flying directly to the surroundings. Whoosh! There were waves of howling sounds in the air, accompanied by fireworks blooming around the muzzle. Under the tacit understanding of each other, the two sides did not declare war. Puff! The sound of penetrating flesh and blood continued to burst, and the flying needles wrapped by the power of thought had terrible penetration. When they flew around, they instantly pierced through the shadows hidden in the dark. The high-power searchlight not far ahead made a bang, and the light source was destroyed by the sharp needle shui. As for the bullets and fireworks that bloomed at their muzzles, they came from all directions, dense as rain. It's a pity that a few meters away from Su Chen's whole body, an almost invisible barrier was just supported, blocking all attacks. Mindy watched the rippling waves around him, and suddenly realized that this indifferent guy had sheltered himself within this barrier. Carefully, but at this moment, her pupils shrank slightly, and a giant figure surged from the ground in front of him, and every step of his movement caused a big earthquake and tremor. Roar! Accompanied by a roar, the monster body that looked like a small mountain tore through the barrier in front of him, and directly rushed towards Su Chen's figure. Roar! Accompanied by a roar that shook the sky, an extremely large monster rushed from the sky. Its condescending figure cast a huge shadow. The moonlight was completely obscured, and the figures of Su Chen and Mingdi were all shrouded in it. Wow! His body, like a small mountain bag, was wrapped in a very shocking energy, and it smashed the invisible barrier in front of him. Roll! There was a ripple in Su Chen's eyes, and the fluctuating thoughts in his body caused the air around him to slowly rise. In an instant, boom! An extremely terrifying air cannonball bombarded the monster in front of you completely under the rush of thought power. With a bang, the momentum that was pouring in front of you suddenly stopped, and the entire monster's body flew upside down, many meters away on the ground. Call! Mindy breathed a sigh of relief. God knows what she has just experienced. Even the super-killing girl who grew up in the gang slaying since she was a child is terrified by the sudden monster in front of her. This is not a person. This is obviously a monster. Oh my god, what exactly is this? A word fell. Mindy's face changed. Under the hazy moonlight, on the ground more than 10 meters away, a monster that looked like a mountain bag stood up directly. The body a few meters high was covered with rotten skin, accompanied by his breathing, like a molten the pungent smell of sulfur, like a pulp, just hit his face. I'm about to throw up. Mindy forcibly covered his nose, but an impression appeared in his mind. This seems to be Hulk. No, it should be a similar monster. Hulk's news report was published at least 2 years ago, and the biochemical monsters created by the accidental experiment of gamma rays have once become a nightmare in this country. The figure of General Ross was also frequently reported on major news headlines, announcing that Hulk, who was circulating around the world, was wanted worldwide. The recent experimental progress has ushered in a breakthrough. General Ross's top subordinate, Emil Bronsky, successfully implanted cells with gamma rays, and was promoted to a terrifying existence called hatred. Kill him. General Rose, who was hiding in the dark, gave the order coldly. Roar! He roared loudly and slapped his hands on his heart to show his response. Compared with Hulk, who is out of control rage, the hatred after transformation has wisdom. Let's start. Under an order of General Ross, he was lying in ambush in the woods around Central Park and saw a special vehicle equipped with a radar device, and suddenly there was a harsh sound. Read more at wuxiax.com. The impact of sonic waves even directly caused ripples in the air. This was a sonic device designed to deal with Hulk in the past, but it is now used by General Ross to beat mosquitoes with cannons. What? Mindy fell to the ground in pain at this moment. She covered her ears tightly and rolled desperately on the ground. Damn it. At this moment, even Su Chen's complexion was distorted when he was in the focus of multiple sonic devices. The harsh sonic noise disappeared. Boom. At the same time, Su Chen kicked the ground and looked at the monster coming. He was actually not afraid, but went up to the front with full fighting spirit. Just rely on you. Disgusting and silent ridicule. The whole person's physique crashed like a train moving at full speed. Compared with his giant physique, Su Chen's 13-year-old physique, once compared, is simply a difference, one place every day. But the collision between the two happened completely in an instant. Boom. Su Chen shook his fist and knocked out without accident. But what surprised the people present was that the hatred of rushing also contained the momentum of the impact at this moment, and the whole person actually stopped under the opponent's fist. Impossible. General Rose's face changed drastically, and he did not dare to imagine that the invincible hatred in front of him was actually blocked by a child's fist. That's it. Su Chen was thrown into the air with a cold face. His right toe hit the air, and faint ripples filled the bottom of his feet, and he saw a supporting force that made him soar into the air. This kind of use of the surrounding energy can be said to be amazing. Disgust was a little dumbfounded, but his straight eyes also noticed the figure that the opponent had rushed into the air. Impossible. How does the opponent's thin body achieve such great strength? He couldn't believe it. Inexplicably, I even felt that the collision between the two just now was an illusion. The expression fell into a daze. Disgust waved his huge fist and blasted directly at the figure in front of him. See you in my pity. I hate that bulky fist is thicker than Su Chen's waist. Boom. Under the strong contrast between the two, it soon ushered in the second collision. Boom. Abomination only felt the boundless power rushing in front of him, as if it was an overwhelming blast. In less than a second, his two big feet standing on the ground broke away from the ground in this way, but the entire huge physique blasted out directly under Su Chen's punch. That's it. The cold sarcasm, the relentless mockery of hatred, until his figure fluttered to the ground. Hatred then angered why the opponent's power soared so much in an instant. This is impossible. Compared with the fist blow of the frontal contact, the mental distress is the problem that hates this time. He couldn't believe that the little boy in front of him blasted himself with a punch. The huge difference in physique is simply huge difference. But this guy's fist seemed like a huge mountain blasted by, and his body couldn't resist it at all. That's it. Su Chen's playful words were repeated again. His toes were a little bit, and the wind provided the supporting kinetic energy under his feet, and the slender figure was suspended in the air again. As for the absorption and release of all energy from the outside world, Su Chen has no small insights. The warm wind around him can provide assistance. His figure is like adding a pair of wings, suddenly flying towards the figure in front of him. Here we go again. There was a trace of anger under the disgusting face. His temper was already irritable. Under the influence of the gamma rays in the cell, although he was not dazzled by the anger like Hulk, the hatred behind him was still a little hard to control his anger. He can't tolerate a little boy as big as a beanie to humiliate him. Roar. An angry roar of hatred. Just like this with his feet on the ground. The huge physique as big as a mountain bag rushed into the sky, vowing to completely blast the flying little ghost. Boom. There was a huge roar in the air. The surging flocculent waves swept all around in a shockwave. What? A voice full of pain just yelled from the sky, and the figure of hatred hit the ground like a cannonball. Boom. The violent blasting momentum even completely destroyed the lawn ground of the park, smashing a terrifying pit. Damn bastard. He hated rage, and stood up from the dusty ground. It was just a violent shot that was even more unreasonable. The thin body burst out with a terrifying impact, and it hit him again with a punch. Fly. Whoosh. At this moment, the fluttering hatred broke many thick trees one after another, and the rotten skin covered with scales burst out foul-smelling plasma. Strength plus 50. Strength plus 50. Steel body plus 50. The constructed system continuously records the metamorphosis information at the genetic level. Su-chun collided with his loathing body, which made his strength rise continuously. Read more at wuxiax.com. What's more, after the nuclear explosion, his physical strength has risen to a terrifying level. Under the physique of a 13-year-old boy, every cell contains majestic and abundant power. So what is the tall hatred? You are a monster from human beings. I see human cowardice in your pupils. Su-chun said coldly. His figure stepped on the forest road and walked unhurriedly, as if the hatred in front of him had been completely reduced to a Chinese meal, which did not affect his patience in the slightest. From time to time, bullets flew from the woods under the dark night everywhere, and the dull sniper sounds continued to sound. It's just that Su-chun was like opening his eyes on his back. A bullet could not approach his body, and was completely forced to stop in the air by an invisible thought force fluctuation. Die. Accompanied by a thought of him. The hovering bullets, under the control of Yin power, returned to their original owners, piercing the heads of the soldiers in the dark one after another. Roar. There was another roar, unable to bear the arrogant hatred of the young man in front of him. Rage rose again. Great earthquake trembled. He rushed forward, and his tightly held right fist hit the figure in front of him like this. Too slow. Su-chun's handsome and childish face does not have a hint of fear, and the improvement of physical fitness is all round. At least, his pair of clear black and white eyes possess extraordinary dynamic vision capabilities, directly converging the opponent's coherent movements into the eyes, and splitting them into frames of movie pictures. As you can imagine, the opponent's movements seem a bit slow. Boom. Su-chun, who was not moving, stretched his right hand forward, and the second hair came first. The tightly pinched fist was wrapped in violent power and hit the opponent's fist head-on. Click. In an instant, the opponent's knuckles broke directly, and the bones of the entire arm were completely dislocated and cracked at the moment of the collision. What? Abhorred the pain and screamed. But what made him feel extremely embarrassed is that the opponent's right hand directly grasped one of his knuckles, and the boundless force that came in seemed to be completely broken off this finger, and driven by this force, he hated the huge so far off the ground. Whoosh. He drew an arc in midair and fell heavily on the side of Su-chun's other transformation. As for the finger that borrowed the force, in the end it was directly pulled off abruptly. Really poor guy. Su-chun's cold expression didn't have much emotional fluctuations, and the hatred in front of him was severely injured in his body, and his figure began to shrink, and the bloody monster in front of him quickly turned back into a sturdy man. Compared to Hulk, who can constantly grow stronger through anger, hatred obviously does not have this terrible anger effect after having wisdom. Rage again and again only got another shame. And, still a multiplier effect. Sure enough, it is the monster after the transformation. Su-chun's eyes flashed with killing intent. Despair. He snapped his fingers, and without much hesitation, it turned into a spray of air cannon and completely shattered the opponent's head. Then it was the other people's turn. Su-chun's gaze swept to the garden area in the distance. The personnel who had been yelling with loudspeakers before seemed unconscious and began to evacuate secretly. But how could he easily let them go? To Su-chun's surprise, the lowly girl in the pink dress did not hide. Instead, she was chasing the enemy, and a butterfly knife that she took out from nowhere was accurately thrown through the head of a soldier. Whoosh. Although this lowly girl was wearing a pink dress, her chasing movements were not slow. A butterfly knife tied to her leg under her skirt was thrown out by her casually, hitting the enemy's back one after another. Not to mention that she picked up an automatic rifle from a corpse in the forest road. Click. After loading, he quickly pressed the trigger on his shoulders, and the whole action was done in one go. The precise shooting ability, like cutting the grass, killed the enemy's figure and fell down. This girl, Su-chun, was also slightly surprised, but he could not think of a young lowly who was probably only a little older than his sister, but she was proficient in so many firearms and surprised him with her superb throwing skills. After solving the abomination monster, Su-chun's next target is naturally the person who just spoke. There was a gust of wind on the flat ground. Su-chun's long black hair hung directly upside down, and his feet were off the ground. At this moment, his figure soared into the air, following his keen hearing ability, and flew directly towards outside of Central Park. Want to escape? For the general who kept calling himself with the number of the experimental base, Su-chun's eye showed a cold, killing intent. Not good. The driver of the armored vehicle who had just driven out of the forest road suddenly yelled, and he saw a figure out of the window of the car as a direct bombardment like a cannonball. Boom. Under the horrible impact, the right side of the armored car sank directly, and the whole car rolled several times in the air and was completely overturned on the ground. The reason for all this is just because Su-chun collided with his body. His slender and thin physique is already stronger than a steel plate made of stainless steel, and his body is full of surging vitality. A slight pinch of his right hand can feel a surge of power. Not to mention an armored car, even a train, Su-chun is confident that it will completely overturn it. Boom. The gunfire suddenly burst, and the figure in the driver's seat kept pulling the trigger. It's just that the poor pistol bullet fell on Su-chun's skin, and the bullet burst directly, and then the bullet flew out. Asshole, what's the matter with this guy's body? This is a concept that all soldiers cannot imagine. From the beginning of the formulation of the action, they all found that the number 5162 to be arrested did not meet the definition in their minds. The information recorded by the black box is very limited. After all, the monitoring equipment in the laboratory aisle was destroyed by Su-chun a lot. According to General Stryker, who took over at the beginning, this is nothing but a self-healing person, at least hundreds of times stronger than Wolverine's cell activity. Its vitality is amazing, and it is the so-called key to immortality for human beings. He was not too surprised to survive the nuclear explosion, because Wolverine also had such a feat in World War II. But Wolverine was dismissive in the eyes of their military. In the past, they were successfully concocted into a killing machine and successfully launched the X-Weapon project. Read more at wuxiax.com. So for this number 5162, everyone knows that some changes have taken place in his body, but he still disdains it from the bottom of my heart. What kind of waves can a 13-year-old kid make? But now, the hatred fell. Even General Ross may not be able to escape to death. Whoosh. Su-chun's thought. The figure in the driving seat was broken by a majestic force of thought. Then, the figure of the general in the rear compartment was dragged out of the inside by an invisible drag force. What? He screamed in pain, because his feet were just stuck, and now he was dragged out by a force, causing the bones of his feet to be completely broken. It seems you are not General Stryker. Su-chun's words are a little cold. He searched through his mobile phone and naturally knew what the infamous General Stryker looked like. The image of this guy in front of him obviously doesn't match. Damn little beast. Number 5162. Don't think you can escape our sight. General Rose scolded. Even under the control of others, this cold, iron-blooded general is still cursing the enemy in front of him, without the slightest intention of begging for mercy. Su-chun's childish face did not show a trace of movement, just a pair of eyes fixed on the other's face, and he said word by word, "Remember, my name is Su-chun, and I will be a dog in my next life." Click. Without saying much, he directly broke General Rose's neck out of thin air. It seems particularly puzzled. The air cannon, which was turned into a power of thought, directly blasted his body without a hole. The large experimental base on the snowy field, and even the bound number 5162, seemed to have become a dream of the past, and it seemed that all nightmares were completely over. But the enemy who came suddenly told him that there was no end to it. This moment, more and more revenge thoughts emerged in Su Chen's heart, and the original intention of shaking disappeared without a trace. Unless everything is completely ended, the peaceful life I want will never come. The killing intent on his face became more and more diffuse. Su Chen, a gentle word came from behind, but the super killer Mindy who had witnessed everything came over. She probably understood what happened to this young man, but the tenderness that emerged in her heart made her want to hug this young man very much. Let's go. Mindy extended an invitation to him again, and his right hand directly held his palm. Central Park can't stay any longer. Although in the middle of the night, the movement here is difficult to be noticed by the outside, but the enemies who are chasing after will come sooner or later. With her rich experience as a killer, she was able to take the teenager to her safe house without risk. This time, Su Chen didn't avoid it, because he knew that this girl was the first good person he met in downtown Manhattan. But what the two of them didn't know at all was how big trouble awaiting them next. The trajectory of destiny will move from here to another turning point. In fact, when some intelligence agencies of the Ministry of National Defense started investigating Su Chen, it was not only Daddy Damon who accidentally hit the line. Besides, it has been working to unearth the secret mysterious organization behind the Ministry of National Defense, a rising tide organization that gathers elite hacker members from all over the world, and is also secretly observing what surprises these secret intelligence personnel can bring to them. Don't underestimate these hackers. Even S.H.I.E.L.D. has secretly recruited many of these elites. The future Shockwave girl Daisy John news is the best example. Come, here, there may be big news. Not long ago, a left-behind hacker immediately observed that the backstage of the Intelligence Bureau kept calling major camera equipment to track a teenager in Manhattan. These bold and careful members are bold and bold. Under the encryption algorithm, they are not afraid of revealing their identities and directly forcibly crack the official backstage. Wow, Jesus is on. It's a superpower who escaped from a large experimental base. Now the arrest is taken over by General Ross. Destination, Central Park in downtown Manhattan. Go guys. For an instant, a member of the camera team took the vehicle to Central Park. They will take pictures in secret and then sell the material information to major media at a large price. In addition, the secret file information that the Influx organization cracked by itself will also be perfectly packaged and sent to the Ministry of National Defense. Why send it to them? Naturally, it is not a good deed. This comes from the direct blackmail of the rising tide organization to the military. No, then continue to sell to the media to further supplement and hype the whole incident. Soon, a good news came from the front. Members of the High Tide organization successfully took some pictures and also picked up cameras on the heads of many soldiers. It didn't take much time, and a rough edited video was sent to Manhattan TV. The TV station personnel were taken aback. You must know that whether it is an accidental car accident or a gunfight fire, the exclusive photographic material that can be captured in the first time can be sold to the TV station. After all, they also need these eye-catching exclusive news for coverage. With such a demand, it naturally gave birth to many photojournalist jobs. But the video footage given by the High Tide organization is really shocking and exciting. Oh my god, immediately transfer the money to the Rising Tide organization. We need this material. Be sure to report it exclusively. At this moment, an extremely eye-catching title emerged in the head of the female director. Shock. Our country's army can't stop a young man's attack. What happened to this country's army? Su Chen naturally didn't know that the development of things deviated from his imagination. At this time, he was taken to a secret suburban house by the figure of superkiller Mindy McCready. Su Chen also knew her name. Read more at wuxiax.com. In a blink, their figures have come to a small single-family courtyard. This is my safe house, Mindy introduced. The lowly girl directly opened her locked door and invited Su Chen into the door. Along the way, Mindy, who is very experienced in investigating, has long ensured that the two figures will not be exposed to any surveillance probe. Welcome. Just like showing off the toys in his hands to friends, Mindy introduced Su Chen to all of the safe house. Barrett sniper rifle, M16 series fully automatic rifle, carbine. These outside markets are not available. Looking at the various types of guns hanging on one wall after another, Su Chen was still a little surprised. How did this girl spend her childhood? This is too sturdy, too cool. My house is not far from here. Generally, before dispatching missions, I always come to this safe house to change equipment, put on plain clothes, and set off directly. Mindy smiled. How old are you? Su Chen is very curious. It just passed my birthday. I'm 14 years old. She patted her heart, a picture of a little adult. I really admire you. Su Chen praised from the bottom of his heart, a 14-year-old grim lowly killer, who is extremely ideological. I just admire you. You are much cooler than me. You just overturned an army. Mindy patted Su Chen on the shoulder and gave him a thumbs up, a vivid image of a jumping girl. Su Chen has become acquainted with her, and the chattering box has been opened a lot, and the previously indifferent face is a little relaxed. How handsome you are like this. Mindy, the jumping girl, also stretched out her hand to pinch his face, but she was a little elder sister. But when she thought of the other person's cold and merciless slaughter before, she still didn't dare to be too out of the ordinary, stuck out her tongue cutely, and withdrew her hand. Correct. Forgot to call. She suddenly remembered an important thing. That is, she forgot to contact her father. She went out in a hurry just now, but forgot to bring her mobile phone. But now after dialing back to the house, there is no call for a long time. Hurry up and answer the phone. Mindy suddenly became anxious. Su Chen frowned at this time, and suddenly realized something was wrong. But after a minute, there was still no response. Not good. Daddy may have something wrong. Mindy's delicate face was full of nervousness. She hurriedly picked up a large caliber automatic rifle from the wall, put it on her back, straddled one foot on the stool, and picked up the throwing knife from the table. Butterfly knife, uniformly hung on the long leg straps under his skirt. Su Chen did not hesitate, and directly followed her figure all the way out of the safe house. Mindy's house is not far from the safe house. Walk along a laneway, and you can see a detached villa not far away. Mindy jumped in through the back door very quickly. Someone broke in. Mindy pressed his footsteps and quietly walked into his living room. But the overturned tables, and even the tableware scattered all over the place undoubtedly showed that there was a fight here. Damn, they took my dad away. And no matter Mindy searched the entire room, he couldn't find the figure of Big Daddy Damon. At the same time, the secret computer hidden in the toolbox disappeared. Mindy was very anxious and found a mobile phone directly from a drawer on the counter. In order to prevent one of us from being caught, Dad and I will wear a micro tracker on our clothes. After returning from Central Park, I went through the safe house to stay for a while, which took a lot of time. But it takes some time for the other party to follow the address on the computer background to arrest people. It is very possible that his father has not been completely taken away. Everything can be completely retained. Whoosh. A car just rushes out of the street. For a super killer, driving such a car is much simpler than shooting the enemy accurately. It's not far. Mindy stepped on the gas pedal, and the 14-year-old Lolita was extremely small and exquisite, so it seemed that Mindy in the driver's seat was about to stand up. This is an inexplicable cute spot. However, Su Chen didn't feel funny in his heart. After all, if he guessed right, the other party's father might be implicated because of him. He can only pray from the bottom of his heart that the other party will not have trouble. Damn, if he can accurately control the power of rewriting reality, he will not be as passive as he is now, and he will travel directly through the space to reach his destination. However, the immediate goal is not too far away. Mindy's sturdy elegance caused the entire car to swing more than 90 degrees and steadily stopped at the top of a road. Wrong. She suddenly felt teased. Mindy opened the door of the car and pointed to the map clearly according to the location specified by the phone's tracker. But in front of him was a spacious road with no trace of humans. Only Only a conspicuous trash can appeared in sight. Asshole. Mindy scolded and kicked the trash can that was as high as a person in front of him. Among the pile of trash that fell, he had to have a gray t-shirt. The big old man's clothes were thrown away. This is a trick to tease myself. The eyes of Superkiller suddenly turned red. At this moment, she suddenly remembered that her enemy was not those stupid gang members at all, but the state machine that was crushing on her shoulders like a mountain. How can these clumsy skills be used by military personnel? Mindy gritted his teeth and dialed another number on the phone. That was the friend of Daddy Damon, who was once a close friend of the intelligence agency, who also entrusted his channels to obtain a lot of weapons and equipment. Toot. As a result, 2 or 3 calls were made, but no one answered them. An ominous meaning permeated his heart. Perhaps he had also been implicated and was completely arrested. This bold concept of synergy made Mindy's heart awkward. Hurry up, it's not safe here. Ming Di Shengsheng endured his crying and sat firmly in the driving position. Su Chan, who looked in his eyes, only felt a little pain in his heart. If it were a stranger, he wouldn't be so uncomfortable. But the indifferent and vigilant heart just let go of some guards, ready to accept a new friend, but a ruthless answer came, and he seemed to have killed the friend's family. He has caused too much trouble to others. Read more at wuxiax.com. At the moment when they were confused, the two came to the safe house like this. As for Mindy's old house, naturally he couldn't stay. Inside the safe house with 3 high walls full of guns, compared to the joyous atmosphere before, after returning here, it was a serious and solemn one, and the words of conversation were much less. The lowly girl who had been happily jumping out became extremely silent. She was able to kill 7 in and out in the underground garage of an underground gang last year, without changing her face. But for the enemy she is facing now, she feels powerless and unable to start. She can't even find where her father is hiding. After all, they are just 2 children, without a background that can reach the sky, no extraordinary means, facing Damon who has evaporated from the world. They can only wait here helplessly. The sky outside the window has gradually brightened. The new dawn has arrived, but the light waiting for the 2 people in the house has not arrived yet. I will definitely help you. Suchin didn't know how to comfort each other, but could only give promises. How can you help me? Can you go bomb the barracks? Against this country? Against this world? Mindy choked directly. Under her uncontrollable emotions, there were tears in her eyes, and her delicate face was full of tears, and the depression that had been suppressed for a long time broke out. After all, he is only a 14-year-old child. No matter how rich he is, he still can't resist the departure of his relatives. At this time, a worse news came. The TV screen that has been turned on has switched programs. Now we will broadcast a piece of news for all citizens. It is reported that there was a war in Central Park in downtown Manhattan in the early hours of this morning. General Ross's troops were fighting a mutant, and the result was tragic extinction. General Ross himself was even more on the scene. This sensational news immediately shocked every viewer in front of the TV. In a peaceful age, can an army be unable to strike a mutant? Is this another terrorist attack launched by the Mutant Brotherhood? Or is the army arresting a mutant who was brutally killed? Soon, the exclusive TV station broadcasted the battle scenes of Central Park that night. The flying shuttle's sharp needles overwhelmingly took the soldiers' lives, and a thin young figure hit a heavy monster into flight. Although the picture taken by the camera is black and white, all of this makes people feel more exciting than Hollywood blockbusters. Under the spread of private news, the ratings of TV stations suddenly increased. The military department was caught off guard. It was impossible to think that the despicable Rising Tide organization would play with them, but they quickly reacted and immediately launched a PR to the TV station. After learning about it, the military representative relayed the news to our TV station. At this time, the host appeared on the screen, and he recited the handed note without any haste. The suspect is a new member of the Brotherhood of Terrorist Organization, and he is a vicious extreme mutant, a Chinese teenager, named Su Chan. What awaits him is the highest level S-Class wanted order. In other words, he has nowhere to go anywhere. In order to make it easier for the audience to recognize, the black and white image of Su Chun is magnified in front of the TV. See this. Su Chun, who was standing in front of the TV, was already distorted. Central Park is adjacent to the most prosperous area in Manhattan. Naturally, I can't hide the reports from the outside. In fact, Su Chun even has a trace of hope in his heart, hoping that the media or other people will clean up his identity and completely rehabilitate him. As a result, he was an innocent experimental mouse, a military experimental subject who had escaped from the dead. Just today, he was completely wanted globally and transformed into a mutant member of an extreme terrorist organization. This is nonsense. He squeezed his fists, his breath became more and more rapid, his eyes were red, and his shoulders rose and fell slightly, as if he was enduring some great grievance and pain. In an hour, the newly renovated dome building in the first city will hold a press conference where the specific details of the suspect will be announced. The host's voice continued to talk in front of the TV. The reason for choosing the dome building is that this is a high-tech prison newly renovated by the military, which has not yet been put into use. Today's unusual appearance is also to show the criminals that this is his future home. The irony is full of strength. The next news was to completely collapse Mindy beside him. But the good news that can be revealed is that an accomplice of the suspect has been completely killed when he absconded in fear of crime. One of the suspect's accomplices has been completely killed when he absconded in fear of crime. At the same time that the TV station broadcasted, the head of the old man was also prominently posted. This moment, Mindy finally couldn't contain the pain in his heart, and the tears accumulated in his eyes suddenly vented like a gate. She knelt down uncomfortably, and she lay on the ground and started crying loudly. For his father, Damon, the super killer Mindy grew up rebellious, somewhat resentful. The toys bought by other people's daughters are all Barbie dolls, and her toys are all forms of guns. The daughter of someone else's family played in the world since childhood and enjoyed a cheerful childhood. In her childhood, she trained hard and became a top female killer. After she grew up, she finally understood that she was just a tool for her father's revenge, a slaughter machine that she had dedicated her efforts to forging her mother's death. Sometimes, she can't tell how much Damon loves her daughter. Perhaps the eldest dad wants to return to her mother more than herself. So when it came to the rebellious period, Superkiller had a little resistance in her heart. She wanted to truly return to campus and integrate into the expected student life. But now, just because of a low-handed photo act and a willful internet search, it led to a very tragic tragedy. The reason is the boy next to him. I blame you. If it weren't for you, nothing would happen. I hate you. The Superkiller rage in front of her stood up and slapped Su Chun in front of her with her hands. Su Chun was speechless, just lowered his head. His face was gloomy, and he didn't know what he was thinking. He wanted to comfort her, but when he thought that the other party complained about himself so much, he probably wouldn't have to do it in the future. Maybe he would become an enemy in the future. Thinking of this, Su Chin put his arms around the other party and put them down. Tears soaked his black sweater. The flapping hands had already stopped, and the lowly killer, who had escaped the first time I met, was so helpless and pitiful at this moment. At this time, Mindy reminded Su Chun of his sister. After losing her mother, Susan also burst into tears. Mindy hung in Su Chin's heart, sobbing desperately. I don't know how long it has passed. She just fell asleep in Su Chin's arms with tears on her face. It seems that the excessive accumulation of pain made her fall asleep in a daze. It's okay to fall asleep. Su Chin glanced at the clocks on the wall, and there was not much time left before their press conference. The dome is located in Capital City. Although both are on the east coast of Manhattan, there is a certain distance between the two places. Even if it is a car, it takes at least a few hours. At this moment, Su Chun, whose tenderness had faded away, had no expression on his face, as if he had been hit by reality in a mess. Do not. At this time, countless waves have already been set off in his heart. Just like the sea under the stormy night, countless waves rolled over. There was even more boundless hatred in his mind, like a bottomless abyss, gradually exuding an aura of evil and despair. Wanted worldwide. The poor laboratory mouse turned into a mutant member of the terrorist organization. Read more at wuxiax.com. Aggressive enemies do not give themselves a chance to breathe at all. The longing for a peaceful life has gradually become a luxury. Even the only person in Manhattan who treats himself well has suffered misfortune because of being implicated. Why is it me? Why is it always me who suffers? My mother passed away, my sister disappeared, and a series of sufferings seemed to torment me. Suchin doesn't understand. The 13-year-old didn't want to figure it out either. At this moment, just thinking of revenge and murder. Give yourself all desperate enemies, and those who stand in front of you should all go to hell. At such a desperate moment, Suchin's slightly delicate and handsome face gradually faded away from his childishness, and his indifferent and merciless killing intent became more and more apparent. He didn't want to give in. I will return your share back. Looking at Mindy, who was sleeping, he walked straight out of the safe house. Goal, dome building. If Su-chun just rushes past, I'm afraid it will be too late for the press conference period to completely catch up. However, Su-chun, who was extremely cold-faced, was already in a state of emotional breakdown. His heart was completely blackened, and he directly recalled how he could instantly move from the snowy field to the city of Manhattan hundreds of kilometers away. Suddenly realized in the heart, invisible ripples emerged around the body. A force of change involving reality made him directly open a door to space. Su-chun stepped forward, and the street scene in front of him changed drastically. In this way, he came to a city far away in an instant. Capital City. Looking at the magnificent building not far away, like a dome, building with a sharp sword straight through the sky, Su-chin's indifferent expression did not have any emotional ups and downs, and he walked forward like this. Despair. The sound of footsteps resounded in this land. He put on his black hood, and the drooping black bangs couldn't hide the murderous intent in his eyes. Soon, the sound of footsteps disappeared. His figure is still striding forward, but at this moment, every step of his fall is in the air, and the space in front of him is like an invisible staircase to heaven, allowing Su-chun to walk in midair. Oh my God, look, who is this? God, this boy is walking in the air. This is too beautiful. At this time, outside the National Defense Headquarters building, many reporters had already rushed in. At this time, they witnessed this mysterious and weird scene one by one. Damn it, isn't this a wanted criminal from that terrorist organization? Oh my God, you guys are really big-hearted. This is not the young wanted criminal reported in the morning. A word to wake up the dreamer. Everyone was even more excited when they heard the words, and the SLR in their hands suddenly flickered. Compared to reporters who watched the excitement, the faces of the security guards outside the building changed drastically. The gun insurance was opened one by one, and everyone's muzzle was pointed at the figure in the air. Damn it, the other party killed it. No one thought that Su-chun, who was just announced as the world's most wanted S-class criminal in the morning, was so unscrupulous that he appeared in everyone's field of vision under the eyes of everyone, and rode a mysterious power to ascend the ladder. Boom. A round of bullets went into the air continuously. Su-chun turned a deaf ear to a wave of thought power outside his body, which was like an invisible barrier supported around his body, and all the bullets were shot out. He didn't have the slightest fear, just walked in the air like walking on the ground, and came to the high sky with such an unhurried step. At this time, he was able to easily overlook the entire building and the earth. Now, let you feel the pain I endured before. A radiant light lingered from his body. Gradually, a wave of terrifying energy rose directly, resembling a volcano that was ready to erupt, and set off a terrifying momentum. No one knows where the nuclear explosion that bloomed in the large experimental base before went. In fact, it's not disappearing. It was Su-chin's body that absorbed the energy of the entire nuclear explosion. Therefore, during this period of time, he was walking in Manhattan like a humanoid weapon. He is too kind. This time, he decided to play a big wave. It's time for them to feel the pain of being baptized by a nuclear explosion. The super killer Mindy, who had fallen asleep in a daze, suddenly woke up in a nightmare. She dreamed of the death of her father. But soon, the picture in the dream turned again and turned into a hell picture of Su-chin's bloodbath. Su-chun. Mindy's face changed. But in the safe house in front of him, there is no such thing as Su-chun. She suddenly remembered that she had said a lot of bad words when she lost control of her emotions. After her reason came back, she realized that she had lost her mind. After all the roots and mistakes were not in Su-chin's body. He is also a victim. His own words can only penetrate his heart like a sharp sword. Suddenly, she turned and looked at the TV next to her, and saw that the upcoming press conference was being reported on the screen in real time. But what no one expected was that the young man who had just been declared the most wanted criminal in the world was just like that. Over the sky, Su-chun. For a while, Mindy's delicate face showed a completely shocked look, and she looked at it in disbelief. Su-chun, don't do stupid things. Mindy knows how much wrong Su-chun has suffered under his indifferent and ruthless face, and how much pain he has endured in his heart, and how much killing intent has been suppressed for a long time. After reading some information on the backstage, she naturally knew that Su-chun was a laboratory mouse who had escaped from the dead, and was not a heinous enemy at all. But once a landmark building is attacked under the eyes of the people of the world, then nothing can be turned back. Turn around? Su-chun, who was so disappointed in the world, never thought of this term at all. From this moment on, he just wanted the world to experience the pain he endured. Nuclear explosion. It was these guys who bestowed it on themselves. Not many people can imagine that a person's body can completely store the power of a nuclear explosion in a person's body in an instant. External energy is like water, and the body is like a wooden barrel. To carry so much vast energy in an instant, it is natural to need an extremely strong body. Su-chin's body is invincible. After undergoing the baptism of nuclear explosion, the reorganized and healed physique has developed a new resistance, can perfectly adapt to the horrible energy shock, and the muscle strength of the body has climbed to a new stage. Therefore, he can walk in the city with a vast and majestic energy like a person who is okay. It's time to return all of this to you. Su-chin couldn't hear the panic of the people below. The continuous energy fluctuations in his body made the fluctuations of the surrounding air flow more and more chaotic, like a typhoon passing by, raging between the heaven and the earth. Read more at wuxiax.com. Soon, the lingering energy gradually penetrated out of the body and continuously spewed out from his body. At this moment, Su-chun, who was full of light, was like a rising sun. The blazing daylight light covered everything in the line of sight in an instant, and the majestic energy contained in the light also destroyed everything here. Do not run away. The guards on the ground scurrying around. They didn't expect the figure climbing in the air to explode. Moreover, the burst of energy was like a pouring sun blasting in, and the entire magnificent building, like a sharp blade out of its sheath, evaporated instantly like a snowman under the summer sun. What? The figures running on the ground, and even the reporters joining in the excitement, could not escape this catastrophe at all. Their figure also evaporated. Soon, the light of the nuclear explosion that swept out perfectly covered the entire area of the building, slaughtering the building, as well as all the soldiers and staff in it. From a distance, you can see a vast and magnificent mushroom cloud rising above the ground. No one thought that this building, which was placed high hopes by the military to ridicule criminals, would come to the end of being approved. Oh my God, what is this? God is on. Isn't that young man blew himself up? Damn, I was absolutely right. The wanted criminal turned into a sun, releasing a very dazzling light. The audience in front of the TV station was also completely stunned. However, the satellite signal was cut off on the screen at this time, and the live broadcast screen could not be transferred at all. No matter how stupid people are, it is vaguely aware that the light released from the young man's body just now seems to have turned into a terrifying explosion and attacked the entire landmark building. Of course, the citizens of the capital city saw this scene very clearly. A creepy mushroom cloud rose above the ground far away. Oh my God, our country has suffered a nuclear explosion. Soon, someone sent the camera mushroom cloud image to the social platform via mobile phone. Shock. The building designed by Iron Man was nuclear exploded. The military was slapped face to face. This scene is really spectacular. For a time, the number of hits broke hundreds of thousands in an instant, and more people know that Washington, D.C., which is popularly known as the capital city, has been attacked. Wait, isn't this a joke? In downtown Manhattan, Tony Stark in the Stark headquarters building almost squirted water out of his mouth when he heard the news. The safest facility in the world will never allow any criminal to escape from prison, but hasn't it been put into use yet? Is it just nuclear exploded at close range? This made Tony feel an extremely slap in the face. Looking at the video images reposted from various sources, Tony, who has become Iron Man, became extremely curious. Jarvis. Yes, sir. Jarvis, the artificial intelligence butler, immediately understood his owner's intentions. Through the satellite equipment linked to the low Earth orbit, Jarvis immediately calculated the nuclear equivalent value. The mutant power that is suspected to be energy absorption has stored the world's most wanted criminal with a terrifying nuclear equivalent. However, according to the scale of the self-detonation, this teenager can no longer survive. Well, it's pretty obvious. Iron Man Tony complained. After all, this really doesn't need to be calculated. As long as anyone with a brain sees this scene, they are basically sure that the other party has blew himself up. No, sir. There is also a very conspicuous life fluctuation in the nuclear explosion area. In less than a second, Jarvis's ruthless answer was to reward him with a slap in the face. Impossible. At this moment, even Tony, who had always been calm, stood up in shock. At the same moment, I saw a slender figure surrounded by invisible waves in the mushroom cloud that was in full view of the incident, just like an ordinary person, and walked out of the nuclear explosion unscathed. Boom. The terrifying mushroom cloud just stood on the ground, and the magnificent building that symbolized the sturdy military exploits in the past was completely smoothed out. The cloud of death hung over this area. One eye was silent, but in the deadly silence, amidst this terrifying nuclear haze and explosive fireworks, a figure lingering around invisible waves just walked out of it unhurriedly. No one thought that a slender figure could walk out of the center of the nuclear explosion. Wearing a black hood, with a black bangs covering his forehead, a pair of black and white eyes are full of coldness, and there are not many emotional fluctuations under his indifferent and ruthless face. It's him. Oh my God, that self-destructed global wanted criminal is unscathed. Frightened by the radiation of the nuclear haze, citizens in the nearby area have already fled in a hurry. But after all, there are still reporters who are not afraid of death. In order to obtain first-hand information, they take the photographers directly to bring first-line reports to the world in a helicopter gunship. He earned it. The reporter who was thinking of shooting the scene of the nuclear explosion at close range did not expect to see the stock figures coming out of the nuclear explosion. It's him. It was the man who was declared as an S-class global wanted criminal by the National Defense spokesperson this morning, and was listed as an extreme mutant member of a terrorist organization. He single-handedly led the nuclear explosion, but now, he walked out of it unscathed. This is too shocking and shocking. It is reported that this Chinese teenager Su Chun just killed General Ross and his special forces in Central Park in downtown Manhattan. And now, this young man is absolutely lawless. He didn't see the law in his eyes. He even completely corroded a building in a strange way under everyone's eyes. The host held the microphone and said. The master carrying a camera even gave a close-up shot from the air, taking all the indifferent figure and face of Su Chun into it. Less than a second. The cameraman suddenly saw from the lens that the teenager who had come out of the nuclear explosion raised his head and looked at them with indifferent expression. Noisy. The blackened Su Chun has clearly heard the voice far away in the sky. Lawlessness. There is no trace of legal ethics. These harsh words strengthened Su Chun's will to revenge. Didn't they claim that they were mutant members of extreme organizations? Then as they wish. Su Chun raised his right hand and saw a light flashing from a fingertip. In the blink of an eye, the light was completely magnified, and it instantly turned into a thick beam of light and blasted into the sky. Do not. The helicopter far out in the sky has no time to make too many evasive actions. Read more at wuxiax.com. The speed of the beam is too fast. Boom. The propeller of the entire helicopter was immediately damaged by the beam of light, and it lost its rising support. The entire helicopter fell straight toward the ground like a meteorite. Boom. Soon, an orange-red flame suddenly rose up on the ground in the distance. In such a crash, the personnel in the helicopter can't even think about surviving. At the same time, in the area in front of them, more and more military vehicles are constantly driving here. However, the soldiers who wanted to play a role in blocking the scene did not expect the survivor to be able to get out of the nuclear explosion, and they were also the initiator of everything. Everyone pays attention and fires immediately. The first batch of biochemical troops that arrived simply ignored the blockade of the scene. The enemy appeared, and in cold sweat, they immediately turned a gun at the arrogant figure. Raise your hands up immediately. The commander's subconscious habit uttered cautionary words. He always blushed, facing such a lawless member of the extreme mutant who caused a nuclear explosion. Such warning words are meaningless. Fire directly. Boom. The untidy gunfire continued to bloom, showing that everyone's mood was a little flustered. Many people who were breathing unconsciously even felt their scalp numb, and their whole body tremors nonstop. Nonsense. This is the monster that came out of the nuclear explosion unscathed. What does the bullet do? However, the soldiers who came to blockade the scene and maintain the order were also suffering in their hearts. Suddenly they encountered such a horrible situation. Under the order of the officer, they could only shoot repeatedly at the figure that was walking forward. Whoosh. One bullet pierced the air and kept hitting the front. The invisible power of thought fluctuated in front of him, blocking all the bullets in front. Following Su Chen's thought, these bullets quickly flew to the soldiers not far away in a hurry in an accelerated manner. Puff. The sound of bullets penetrating flesh and blood continued to sound. The figure of the soldier in front of him quickly fell. Suddenly, a round of cannonballs from a long-barreled cannon cart blasted in continuously, roaring loudly, and the large-caliber cannonballs wrapped in a huge impact so that they continued to fall around Su Chen's body. Give me a barrage cover. Boom. One round of cannonballs enough to smash a building resounded around Su Chen one after another. The blazing flame burns, the majestic thermal impact, and the metal jet composed of countless iron pieces bloomed all around Su Chen. It stands to reason that Su Chen can completely avoid it by means of mental motivation. However, at this moment, the body that has completely released all the nuclear explosion energy in the body is empty. Su Chen needs energy from the outside to supplement it. For a while, he was lingering in visible fluctuations, just like swallowing, absorbing all the heat and kinetic energy around him, and all forms of energy were drawn in. Under such an astonishing draw, even the light was distorted. Energy use +5. Energy use +5. The built system quickly feeds back the improvement and changes in capacity. Coming. There was a shimmer in Su Chen's eyes. He directly raised both hands and saw two luminous cannons brewing in his palm. The next moment, boom. The incomparable light cannons condensed the horrible energy beams and thus opened a terrifying chasm on the ground, covering all the gun carts and even the soldiers in the distance, destroying and killing them. In such a short period of time, the troops that came to maintain order in the first place were completely wiped out and completely lost their organization. The satellite equipment far away in space also captured this scene very well. For this reason, the entire country directly raised the alert level to the highest level. Immediately dispatch Shield Bureau. Send all the special forces. I don't care what you do. Anyway, within today, I must see the tears of this extreme mutant confessing to this land, and I must have him dead without a place to be buried. The president suddenly scolded and issued the latest order. The young man who came out of the nuclear explosion so recklessly wiped out an entire biochemical force. Soon, the national alert level has been adjusted to the highest level. For the Chinese teenager Su Chun, who succeeded in the local nuclear explosion, he was directly upgraded from the S-class global wanted criminal to the SSS class. As the National Land Strategic Defense Attack and Logistics Support Bureau, SHIELD, has also dispatched a rapid reaction force to mark Su Chun as a special dangerous level, which means that no one with the authority of a 9th level agent can read this person's information. Contact Iron Man Tony. SHIELD. Director Nick Fury immediately contacted the most popular superhero in recent times. Since Tony Stark successfully solved the troubles in his group and announced to the people around the world that he is Iron Man, this guy has become the most popular superhero. At this difficult time, the people need heroes. The people need someone to stand up. This heinous extrajudicial fanatic needs to be brought to justice, or killed quickly. After all, even the most arrogant extreme mutants in the past, the leader of the Brotherhood, and the famous Magneto were unable to achieve such a feat. Even Magneto himself was successfully arrested by military personnel and detained in an underground prison for a period of time. Damn it. Under the eyes of everyone in the world, this young man was so lawless and nuclear exploded in the mainland at close range. No one could bear such a shameful shame. This boy must win. For a time, the whole country quickly sent more special personnel to Washington, D.C. Whoosh. Over the East Coast, more than a dozen Raptor fighter jets swept across the coast, moving towards the nuclear explosion site at supersonic speeds. Firepower attack is authorized. This is a flying combat team under the Atlantic 7th Force. They set off directly from the aircraft carrier far away at sea and quickly reached the battlefield. Regardless of the scarcity of numbers, just such a flying formation, its gunpowder warheads, and the rapid supersonic flight speed are enough to suppress a small country and kill 7 in and 7 out of its territory. But now, they encountered a problem. For a teenager who can survive a nuclear explosion, can their fire suppression work? They are not cleared. However, in order to contain the enemy, hold the opponent's pace, and trap him in this area is their most important task. Fire. After receiving the authorization order, the fighter pilots activated the launchers one after another. Click. Under the bomb bay of the Raptor fighter, a mounted missile device suddenly popped up. In less than a second, the tail of the missile was completely ignited and the mounting device was suddenly released. Whoosh. Read more at wuxiax.com. In this way, the missile cut through the sky and bombarded precisely at the target on the ground. Fighter. Su Chun looked up to the sky. Speaking of which, he also had a combat pilot in his childhood dreams. Looking at the approaching missiles, Su Chen's eyes suddenly became cold. With just one thought, the power fluctuations turned into an invisible giant hand, and the swift missile was held in midair by him. Middle. Boom. The whole missile was crushed by him out of thin air. But for a moment, more and more missiles flew from the end of the horizon. From a small black spot in the distance, it quickly approached and turned into a breathing warhead. That's it. Su Chun raised his right hand and gently patted to his side, obviously shooting in the air, the seemingly meaningless action, but it has a very strange effect. I saw a missile approaching from far away skew like this, and in an instant, it completely deviated from its trajectory and fell to the ground far away with an invisible force. Boom. The urban area of the first city was immediately greeted by its own missile bombing. Many high-rise buildings collapsed, and orange flames rose. Damn, the driver cursed secretly. They also didn't expect the other party's weird power abilities to be able to get all the missiles that attacked in the future so easily. This will only increase innocent casualties. Delay for half a minute, and then all will return. Sending out such a flying formation had no intention of destroying this young man. The original intention at the beginning was only to delay the opponent. Relying on the advantage of high altitude, and even the supersonic flight speed, there is no need to worry too much about the enemy's attack from the ground. But their ideas are still a bit too simple. When multiple Raptor fighters finished firing their missiles and whizzed past the area above Su Chen's head, the sound of the engine starting resounding through the sky made the indifferent boy frown. At the first time, he did not have much to deal with fighters. Because it's too fast, it's too high. Of course, the other party has no means to check and balance himself at all, but it's still too noisy. Su Chen's indifferent face showed a trace of killing intent, and he couldn't bear the sound of the supersonic engine roaring back and forth in the air in his ears. This made his mood a bit bad. As the saying goes, blackening is 10 times stronger, and whitening is weaker by 3 points. When Su Chen's mood was completely reversed and he embraced the abyss, he became more comfortable with the use of abilities. Let them fall. It's like saying what you say. An invisible wave of power began to interfere with reality. After Su Chun in the darkened state became a little irritable, this ethereal and invisible force immediately acted on the reality, directly altering the reality. There are always people in this world who are curious about how to modify reality. Someone has put forward a good answer. That is, to modify the probability that nature already exists. For example, the engine device of a fighter jet has a malfunction, even if the probability is very small under maintenance. But this indifferent and ruthless boy is like a god, throwing probability dice, leading the realistic answer to the worst situation. Ever since. No, why did the fighter's engine suddenly fail? At least, at the same time, multiple fighter pilots made desperate calls. Under an invisible force, they just ushered in the worst ending. The fighter's dual-ring engine all failed at the same time and could not be started. For a time, an expensive Raptor fighter jet fell towards the ground in this way, and within a few seconds, there was a loud explosion in the city and even on the sea, and the orange-red flames completely bloomed. Still not skilled enough. Su Chen glanced at only half of the fighters left in the air. It was obvious that the almost insoluble reality tampering just now did not fully take effect on all fighters. But he is not depressed, because this ability is really unsolvable and BUG. Even if he has a lot of experience now, it will take some time to fully grasp it. Retreat. Retreat now. The pilot of the Raptor fighter suddenly shouted. For unknown reasons, the 6 fighter jets flying high in the air encountered the problem of engine failure at the same time and fell directly to the surface. The incident happened hastily, but 3 people did not eject out of the cabin in time. But even so, these drivers who floated in the air on parachutes did not usher in the end of death. What? Such a slowly floating target unit. A surging thought force fluctuations directly emerged, as if an invisible giant hand was completely held together. Boom. A blood mist bloomed. Su Chun didn't even need to use too much force, just gently poked the opponent's parachute, and directly gave the opponent a vertical acceleration landing package. Damn it. The rest of the fighter jets who managed to escape from the dead did not dare to turn their heads at all, so they flew back towards the distant sea carrier. Amazingly, the inexplicable crash caused them to cry out in a cold sweat. This is certainly not an accident. It must be caused by the teenager who walked out of the nuclear explosion. Sir, maybe the enemy you are about to face has some kind of magical skills. Jarvis, this is not in line with your usual rigorous speaking logic. Tony Stark soared in the air wearing the latest Mark armor from the Stark Group building in Manhattan to Washington, D.C. He could easily reach it in less than a minute. Through satellite equipment in low Earth orbit, Jarvis, an artificial intelligence, is monitoring the teenager at the place of the incident in real time. However, after the pursuit incident was triggered, even the rigorous and scientific Jarvis system could not argue why this was. It's as if it caused an inexplicable crash after the other party was irritated. Hey guy. Tony laughed a little after hearing this. When you say this, I thought the other party was a god. When I get angry, the world will fall apart. Jarvis continued to respond without any mood swings. The disaster like the collapse of the sky and the earth can still be seen, but there was no obvious sign of energy in the crash just now, and it made the engine completely malfunction invisibly. The underlying code of artificial intelligence is about logic. Now, encountering an attack that interferes with reality, it is indeed a little confused. Invisible and without a trace, all forms of energy from the outside world cannot be detected, which adds a huge problem to Jarvis. We have 5 seconds to reach the battlefield. Jarvis issued a reminder. The Mark armor driven by a microreactor, when in flight, is much faster than the previous Raptor fighter. Soon, the gorgeous gold-red suit just flew all the way over the city of Washington, D.C. Wow, it's Iron Man. Read more at wuxiax.com. He is finally here. I love you, Tony Stark. Iron Man. Forever. For a time, the people of the city on the ground suddenly shouted. From his birth to the open exposure of his identity, the arrogant and confident Iron Man has been the most popular superhero. Many children ran out of the house wearing clothes with Iron Man logo printed on them, raising their hands high and shouting to Tony, who was soaring in the air. Jarvis, do you want to help me test how loud the cheers of the citizens are? By the way, help me test the happiness index of the citizens. Even on the battlefield, Tony is still so humorous. Jarvis was accustomed to his own master style, but did not respond, reflecting the performance of high intelligence. Okay, back to the topic. Tony's look under the mask immediately became serious. Whoosh. His figure slanted across the mushroom cloud area created by the nuclear explosion. With the help of the nuclear haze, he immediately ejected a miniature missile from the position of the magazine on his shoulder. Like the bees coming out of a honeycomb, a bunch of miniature missiles passed through the smoke as vast as the rain, and all flew towards the target on the ground. Boom. In the blink of an eye, the ground seemed to be bombarded by a group army. The ground broke apart, and orange-red explosions and fireworks raged up. Sir, thermal energy, kinetic energy, and all impact energy are rapidly disappearing. Through Tony's bird's eye view from the air, you can immediately see that the fireworks on the ground begin to dissipate quickly, just like looking back in time. The surging fireworks and even the impact of explosions quickly disappear without a trace. Sure enough, the other party's energy index has exponentially skyrocketed. It has been determined that this teenager has the ability to absorb and release external energy. Please deal with it carefully, sir. This temptation also strengthened Tony's idea. As a high IQ genius, one naturally thinks of how the other party brought the energy of a nuclear explosion to the National Defense Headquarters and detonated it, and the use of energy is the best answer. This mutant seems to have a lot of abilities. In this way, Tony felt a little tricky. In addition to the motivation to read just now, there is also an inexplicable and strange ability. The young man in front of him has at least 3 abilities. When did mutants have so many unmatched abilities? But there is a big exclamation point in my mind. That's how the other party absorbed the nuclear explosion? After all, that is something that the country strictly controls, and ordinary people can't reach it at all. We have successfully cracked the National Defense Database by brute force through a background program. Jarvis, who had a good heart, set out to arrange this wisely and naturally. This is easy for Tony, who has perfect hacking skills. In addition, many of the security facilities of defense agencies are built by Howard, and it is very natural to leave a backdoor in secret. This investigation made Tony feel a little speechless. Unexpectedly, this turned out to be a child who had escaped from a large laboratory and almost turned into a mouse for human experiments. Obviously, the official identities of the extreme mutants previously announced are obviously fabricated. Tony was speechless. For these military representatives, he had long been upset, and he did not expect that this tragedy was still indirectly brewed. No matter what, this boy still went the wrong way after all. The bombing of the National Defense Headquarters has become an established fact. In any case, the boy must give an explanation. Arrest or the least. Most, the death penalty is exempt. Call. Tony took a deep breath, softened his inner guilt a little, and then immediately called out Jarvis. Afterwards, I will offer to hire the best lawyer. But, now activate the family party plan for me, and give this teenager a curtain call for the final party. Iron Man Tony's family party plan is officially launched. Through the remote operation of artificial intelligence Jarvis, the Mark armors placed in the Stark Industrial Building have already activated themselves. Whoosh. In an instant, more than 20 steel robots soared in the air, skimmed over the ground, and flew directly toward the nuclear explosion area. Lively and full of excitement, this is Tony Stark's family party plan. It was also the curtain call for the last party that he gave to Su-Chun in front of him. Since the target absorbs external energy, it can only bind him, imprison him, and not give him a chance to absorb any energy. Plan B begins. At this time, the people in the urban area saw so many steel robots coming through the air at a glance, and the cheers grew louder and louder. There are a large number of steel suits with various color codings soaring, which naturally attracted most people's attention. After all, this is the first time that Tony has exposed other types of marked suits to the public's perspective. Superhero Iron Man. Su-Chun naturally knew his origins for the golden red steel suit that flew in the air. Speaking of, when he was a child, he was very envious of the existence of superheroes. After all, everyone has the heart to act as a hero. Ironically, he is now a supervillain. In order to deal with him, the Iron Man even took out his whole cards. Boom. In an instant, 2 black-coated steel suits flew from the left and right sides of the field of view. Driven by the microreactor, the speed faster than the supersonic speed actually made Su-Chun's dynamic vision all of a sudden. Can't keep up. Boom. A sense of impact that was enough to smash the ground came head on. Su-Chun was expressionless. Like a rock coming from a stormy sea, his figure standing on the ground didn't move at all. Under the baptism of the nuclear explosion, his terrifying physique had already been tempered for thousands of years, and the impact of supersonic speed was nothing. Dynamic vision plus 10. Dynamic vision plus 10. The constructed system once again continuously displays the information of evolution. Su-Chun's face was cold. A surging thought power fluctuation burst out of his mind. In the blink of an eye, the 2 steel robots that came by assault were rejected by a terrifying force, and they flew out. 100 meters away. And this time, in the field of vision in front of him, several steel battle suits fell on the ground so steadily. Mark Armor - 24 Heavy Tank. As the name suggests, the Mark Armor of the heavy tank model is very cumbersome and tall, and the visual effect is even more bloated, without any aesthetic feeling. Read more at wuxiax.com. Tony designed such a heavy combat suit to deal with Hulk. But now, in order to completely imprison Su-Chun who can absorb energy, he has to move him out. Boom. When the heavy robot with a height of nearly 3 meters in front of them was moving, the ground trembled. Soon, these cumbersome guys immediately accelerated and ran towards Su-Chun. Su-Chun frowned because he inexplicably felt an enemy behind him. This seems to be the ability of an infinitely evolving mutant gene to be newly generated in recent days. Predict the enemy's attack trend. Godlike intuition. Battle intuition. At least the built system displays it like this. Su-Chun has something to understand. Sure enough, as conveyed by the intuition of battle, there was no trace of the back area, and there was no fluctuation in the presence of it. A steel suit was unexpectedly ushered in inexplicably. Mark Armor 15 Sneaky. The invisible person under the family party package is perfectly adapted to covert assassinations, anti-radar, anti-energy detection, and other means. Click. At least at this moment, this sneaky steel robot, who came close without a trace, just hugged Su-Chun with a pair of steel arms around his waist. At this time, multiple heavy tank Mark robots have also rushed to the front. They directly hugged Su-Chun's arms with their bloated and heavy metal arms. Little devil, enough is enough. Iron Man Tony's voice came from the robot in front of him. There are more than a dozen Mark steel robots of various types flying high in the sky. In order to avoid giving a little bit of energy to opponents who can absorb energy, Tony relies on pure close confinement and prepares to take him to a prison of his own. That's it. Su-Chun sneered. What? In Tony's incredulous tone, Su-Chun's hands were held backhands like this. His right hand grasped a mechanical arm, and he didn't see how hard he was. The whole metal armor that could resist the baptism of artillery shells was just scratched by his abrupt hand. With a gush of strength, Su-Chun grabbed one of the arms of the heavy tank in front of him with one hand. Are you kidding? Even these tatters dare to imprison me. Before that, Su-Chun, who had never shown his physical advantage, began to show off his power. The right hand, who had lost its confinement, squeezed a fist suddenly. Whoosh. With a punch, there was a sonic boom in the air. The 13-year-old boy's fist was wrapped in majestic and terrifying power, and it smashed the head of the heavy tank in front of him. Oh! Su-Chun roared and shook his whole body. The surging energy fluctuations surged out of his body, and the sneaky robot that hugged him around the waist was blasted out from behind. The last remaining heavy tank robot suddenly activated its thrusters at this moment, trying to drive Su-Chun in front of it to fly out of the land. Humph. Su-chun gave a cold snort. After being taken away for more than 10 meters, his feet stood firmly in the air under the influence of Nien motive. Then he clenched his fists and moved towards the head of the bloated and bulky robot. Fist went. Boom. An unpretentious fist, even a fist without a trace of combat training, shattered the head of the robot in such a brutal and incomprehensible manner. This moment, Tony looked silly. The Plan B project has officially failed. The opponent has an indissoluble physique. It has not yet been analyzed how the opponent has so many abilities. Jarvis's words without any emotional fluctuations deeply hit Tony's heart. Damn it. What should I do now? Click. Su-chun stepped forward with his right foot and completely trampled on the steel robot that was still moving after falling to the ground. Perception plus 10. Nien motive force plus 30. Awakening. Super distance touch. Awakening. Low light vision. The infinitely mutated genes have once again found an evolutionary direction. The invisible sneaky steel robot could not be detected just now, but Su-chun now has evolved corresponding restraint characteristics. There were ripples in his clear, black and white eyes, and shimmered. Soon, not far from Su-chun's side, a figure of a robot that was also lurking in the dark revealed its traces. This is not available in the past. Not only that, in order to further restrain this kind of stealth unit, Su-chun's perception has also undergone a transformation. That is, ultra-distance touch. Tactile sensation is the change of feeling caused by human skin contact. The ultra-distance touch is naturally the invisible and invisible perception that can give oneself a certain amount of feedback on all objects that pass by. Just like now, the perceptual power spreading behind him outlines a slender and thin figure of a man in Su-chun's mind. He holds a samurai long sword high in his hand, and is stepping towards him step by step. The katana slashed to his neck. At such a critical moment, I saw that this completely invisible samurai sword was completely grasped by Su-chun's right hand suddenly stretched out. The killer who completely exposed his figure from stealth didn't know how the other party could see through his whereabouts. He is puzzled. I also didn't understand that Su-chun, who was a few seconds ago, couldn't see his figure at all. It was because of the stimulation of sneaky robots that he developed restraint characteristics. But what made him feel even more panic? The opponent's grip is terrifying. Boom. The samurai sword that was slashed towards the neck, cast from Edmund alloy, was easily squeezed by him. Damn. Seeing that the opponent just turned around and felt the strength of the enemy's body was a bit exaggerated, he immediately hid in the air again and quickly escaped from the attack range of the person in front of him in a state of invisibility. Not good. The opponent's cold eyes were full of sarcasm, and the attention of his eyes fell completely on his body, as if the teenager had completely seen his invisibility trail. Boy. The masked killer sneered at this moment. Read more at wuxiax.com. Do you think you were special? Next second, his figure disappeared completely without a trace under the ripples of the invisible space. Interesting. Su-chun's indifferent face revealed the meaning that if he was interested, could the enemy who was killed suddenly be able to teleport? It's too late to say, then it's fast. A terrifying wind hit from behind again, and the killer figure teleported behind Su-chun, took out another slender blade from his waist, and slashed at Su-chun's back. However, when this extremely sharp blade fell less than a few centimeters on Su-chun's back, it was resisted by a weak wave. Its swaying and falling power is also slowly disappearing. The killer only feels his own wrist weakness, and suddenly realizes that the other party has swallowed his own power. Damn it. He cursed secretly again, and within the next second, he completely dived into the space and disappeared from Su-chun's field of vision again. It runs really fast. Su-chun frowned. This moment, around him, a flashing teleportation figure greeted him. He kept looking for the vital points of his body and shot. When he was found, he could run fast and disappear into the air in an instant. Is this someone from General Stryker? Tony, who was soaring in the air, was also slightly surprised, but he soon realized who the spoiler came from. In the area surrounding the nuclear explosion, all personnel had long since been emptied, and all the personnel arriving now were all reinforced special forces. There are many superheroes among them. The first to take over was a special force under the name of General Stryker. In the past, the brothers Wolverine and Saber-toothed Tiger had worked for him and joined this special force. Now, after mastering most of the mutant X genes, General Stryker even hatched and created a large number of elite soldiers. You must know that most mutants have only one ability for their X gene. The existence of two or more mutants like Chin Golay who showed telepathy and mind power was very rare, and this was still the development of Phoenix's power. However, the newest type of X-weapon soldier, under the hand of General Stryker, successfully blended a variety of superpowers. Stealth, teleport. The killer in front of him kept jumping in Su-chun's field of vision with ease. We took over the scene. On the ground not far away, several military armed vehicles stopped and walked off a number of figures wearing black vests and suits. General Stryker was worried and did not dare to arrive at the scene. Of course, an X-weapon unit under its banner has already arrived. Su-chun naturally didn't know that the people who came suddenly were all under General Stryker, but he now knows very well that the battle is urging him to evolve quickly, especially under the stimulation of the enemy's various abilities. His infinitely evolving undead physique is like finding the direction of mutation, opening a new transformation in the body. Awakening, space exploration. In a short time, Su-chun's clear black and white eyes once again ushered in a brand new change. This time, he can see the materialized spatial structure around him. The warping, folds, crevices of the space, and other conceptual structures fell in his eyes, and the figure hidden in the folds of the space was also captured by him. It's really noisy. Despair. Su-chun kicked the ground with his right foot, and the ground instantly cracked into a pit, and he saw his figure advancing as fast as a cannonball. Die. The broken blade that he had just grabbed by his right hand penetrated into the void in front of him. It was a coincidence that the assassin who had just teleported here was as if he had died personally, pressing his forehead against this broken blade. Puff. The high-quality Edmund's broken blade penetrated his head like this. This is impossible. He didn't understand what had happened until he was about to die, and his consciousness was so completely blurred. The whole person died suddenly. The assassin didn't know how the other party predicted where he would appear in the next teleport until he died. Too difficult. He went directly to hell with confusion and incomprehension. Jarvis, did you notice what happened just now? Sir, I can't get the insight for the first time. Tony Stark, who soared into Yukong, frowned. There was an unsure understanding in his heart. It seemed that the young man on the ground was constantly learning in the battle, absorbing nourishment from it, and beginning to evolve. This idea sounds incredibly absurd, but when I thought of this young wanted criminal, he started to face the trance of the teleporting killer to suddenly violently kill. That one is very spicy. That one is determined. It made Tony feel very cold in his heart. Maybe this enemy is more difficult than he thought. But no matter what, with the arrival of the people under General Stryker, Tony could only helplessly stand by in the air. The enemy is a bit weird. Everyone needs to be careful. The personnel who got off the military armored vehicle quickly entered a state of alert. It's okay. I promise you will be a meatloaf soon. A bloated waist is like a wine barrel. The fat man laughed strangely. There was no greeting at all, and he rushed to Su-chun not far away along with a thin man beside him. At the same time, a psychic energy that could not see a trace of fluctuations only eroded into Su-chun's mind. Su-chun frowned. At this moment, he suddenly felt a surge of spiritual fluctuations in his mind, which plunged into his head like a sharp needle. Not only that, but a harsh sound wave attacked his ears. It's a pity that such a sonic attack that can penetrate the eardrums of others has been completely immune since the last time I faced General Ross. As for the mind attack, less than a second, his infinitely evolving mutant gene has transformed into a restrained corresponding ability. Awakening, mind barrier. The pain of the heart that pierced his head like a needle disappeared. Even the mental fluctuations that tried to tamper with his own will were completely isolated by an invisible barrier in his mind. You have a lot of abilities. Su Chen's indifferent face showed a hint of interest. What he likes the most is to fight against the capable. Damn it. The Banshee and the Mind Catcher looked at each other, but they didn't even dare to believe that their combined attack was directly neutralized. Read more at wuxiax.com. But the pain that the other party endured just now didn't seem to be fake. The Soul Catcher frowned. Boom. The earthquake trembled, and the fat man who looked like a wine barrel in front of him slammed in front of him. Little devil, let me get down. The guy codenamed Fat Fatty stretched his fat hand over. Although he had sensed that the Mind Catcher's attack had suddenly failed, the scene before him was not enough to stop him from attacking. For an instant, his physique suddenly skyrocketed, as if the fat all over his body suddenly increased. In the blink of an eye, a giant monster several meters tall came into view. Fatty's ability is super endurance, the monster that claims to be the most capable of resisting blows. In response, a thin figure shot out from the diagonal stabbing, and he was the most critical killer. Compared with Fat, Su Chen's combat instinct is a clear feedback of crisis. Obviously, the unknown ability of another person is dangerous. Roll. Su Chen's thoughts moved, and a majestic thought force gushed out, directly bombarding the fat giant in front of him. The fat-filled physique of the other party directly sank and trembled. Inexplicably, all the power that fell on his physique was removed. The air cannonball that was enough to completely shatter a heavy tank, but only shook it back. More than 2 meters away, the power of thinking begins to change. Su Chen ignored the fat boy. A serious face looked at the figure that had been killed on his side, and saw a very surging force of disintegration emerging from the opponent's arm. Decomposition Master. His ability is to break all tangible and intangible matter into the simplest molecules and atoms. Su Chen, who has no trace of fear, did not show a trace of cowardice. On the contrary, facing the enemy who was killed, Su Chen, full of fighting spirit, rushed towards the enemy like this, full of energy, and the power of thought formed an invisible coat all over his body. He raised his fist and slammed into the killer. The thin man who came. Boom. The man in front of him was suddenly knocked out like a tattered doll. Click. However, Su Chen's fist bombarded him and exploded a series of fine cracks, and a faint bloodstain appeared. You must know that his physique that has been tempered by a nuclear explosion is extraordinary. If it weren't for the power of mind, and the energy of the whole body added 2 layers of insurance, I am afraid that the other party's terrifying force of collapse will inevitably cause a lot of harm to him. The cells of the body begin to metamorphose. Body strength starts to increase. At this moment, the infinitely evolving genes of its own also began to develop resistance to it. The opponent is enough to collapse matter into the simplest molecules and atoms. Then the molecular density of one's body will become more sophisticated, and the strength of the entire body will begin to move forward to a whole new level. And the fine wounds on the fist had completely recovered in less than an instant. Certainly, in this short period of time, Su Chen's motivation for thinking has also successfully completed a new transformation. Awakening. 9th power plasticization. The constructed system clearly informs Su Chen of the genetic information of the metamorphosis. It's over. His mind once again released the surging thought power. The fat who had been killed again in front of him was completely ignored, grinning, and he just relied on super endurance to kill him. It's a pity that the thought power fluctuations that blasted away this time began to be plasticized. The hideous and sharp thorns appeared in the air very indifferently. Thousands of spikes traversed in the air, completely hit the enemy in front of you. Puff. In an instant, the whole body of this fat was suddenly pierced by arrows, and the whole body was filled with blood. Such a change in the power of mind is beyond anyone's imagination. No, something is wrong. Looking at the young man who was constantly fighting and evolving, he seemed to think of something. Damn it, this should be human at all. Finished. His imperfect body collapsed like this. The fat with super stamina and super endurance just fell. In the past, this fat and strong guy has always played the role of a meat shield in this special team. Even if it is a cannonball that is enough to blast through a fortress, it is still a precise bullet, and it will be completely bounced out by his fat skin. Even the most famous boxing champion in the world, with a full punch, can only be completely relieved of his strength by his fat body. But now, he fell, as if 1,000 arrows were fired, piercing his whole body with blood holes. As for another thin man who could destroy the atom, his ending was also ushered in. Nice ability. Su Chen praised sincerely. After all, after experiencing the nuclear explosion, he really couldn't think of any external stimuli that could stimulate his physical growth. And now, this guy has done it. The invisible power fluctuations began to condense in Su Chen's right hand. After the power of mind was plasticized, he directly fabricated a spear with indifferent traces out of thin air. Damn, how did you guy do it? The figure lying on the ground clenched his fists and said very angrily. In the previous confrontation, the opponent was unscathed. You need to know the ability of your own atom to collapse, but you can decompose all matter into the original atomic state. Decomposing everything is invincible. But the ability that was unsatisfactory in the past has completely hit a wall under the young man in front of him. And he himself was just an ordinary body of flesh and blood. Naturally, he couldn't hold the punch of the monster in front of him. The whole person collapsed to the ground, but it was difficult to move. Monster, what a monster. Su Chen ignored the aggrieved guy. His eyes fell completely on his neck. I saw that the skin there was covered with cracks from the operation, extending all the way from the back of the neck to the back of the head. Experimental body. Su Chen realized in a daze, where did these guys come from? He couldn't understand why these poor guys would work for that kind of beast. This made him very puzzled and very annoyed. Puff. Ever since, the spear in his hand penetrated his head. Your presence makes me feel sick from the bottom of my heart. It was like the last death announcement. Boom. As Su Chen's right foot slammed on the ground, his figure suddenly shot forward like a sharp arrow. Not good. The members of this special team suddenly panicked. A tall and strong man took the lead in the battle, and his ability seemed to have something to do with animalization. The whole person became a bit like a giant bear. Read more at wuxiax.com. Boom. It's just that his body can't stand the impact of a 13-year-old child. It was like a train running at full speed crashing into it, and his figure was suddenly knocked out hundreds of meters away. What? At the same time, screams continued to be emitted. It was a sonic attack from the Banshee. At close range, you can even see the sound waves set off violent ripples in the air. Su Chen, who was the first to bear the brunt, was like a okay person. You should do it soon. I have done it. The Soul Catcher said anxiously. Sonic immunity +1. Mind barrier +10. Su Chen calmly placed himself within their attack range. With his cold eyes, he also saw a slight change in the space gap at this moment. A figure descending from the space is about to appear behind him. When Su Chen thought, an invisible giant hand formed behind him. The figure that moved along just appeared, and was completely grasped by this giant hand. This performance of God's anticipation simply shocked everyone present. Another teleporter. Su Chen's eyes flickered with a chill. Was it such a coincidence that he encountered 2 people who were born with teleportation in a row? Let me go. The figure held by an invisible giant hand was struggling. His feet were completely separated from the ground, and completely suspended. He tried to transfer out, but the sudden surge of thought momentum caused his body to be twisted like a twist, and his bones were completely broken at this moment. You should not be born mutants. Su Chen stared at the back of the head of the other killer. There was a centipede-like surgical stitch on the bald head. Needless to think about it, these guys are all artificially made superpowers, experimental products that came out of a certain laboratory. So you are all under General Stryker. Only the infamous existence knows the mutant X gene so well, and is very skillful in mass production of mutant abilities like an assembly line. It really makes me feel sick. Su Chen frowned slightly. The anger in his heart couldn't be suppressed at all. Under emotional rage, the ability to modify reality is almost as casual as breathing. Die all to me. Under an order, the mysterious force that interfered with reality just affirmed their death. Boom. At the same moment, all the people in front of Su Chen exploded without exception. The blood mist bloomed, and Su Chen, who was in it, supported and opened an invisible barrier to keep all the blood out. So you all belong to Stryker? Suchin looked into the distance. In the already blocked area, more and more reinforcements have rushed to the scene. Roughly speaking, there are hundreds of people. After learning the previous lessons, the reinforcements rushing here are basically the elite of each unit. Many people have unique skills. Of course, if they were all under General Stryker, most of them were not eligible. But Suchun, who was indifferent and ruthless, didn't tell them any reason. He didn't see what he did, and there were no visible energy fluctuations. Boom. The elite reinforcements in front of them covered their hearts in this way, and a terrifying mysterious force grabbed their hearts in this way, squeezed them hard, and quickly squeezed their hearts. Puff. The figures fell to the ground with a dazed look of fear. Until dying, everyone didn't know what the other party did. The terrifying power of reality modification just appeared unreasonably in front of the world. Died. Reinforced troops in front of them. They all covered their hearts under inexplicable circumstances, and then fell to the ground with a mournful cry. Heart palsy? Sudden death? Has everyone had a heart attack? Soaring in the sky, Tony Stark, who had been on standby, looked dumbfounded. Sir, this is exactly the same as the situation just now. An unintentional, mysterious power without even a little energy fluctuation caused their deaths. Oh my god, what the hell is this? Tony was very puzzled, and even his always indifferent face showed a solemn, even panicked look. This is a very serious blow to the existence of such a recognized global IQ among the top 3. Even Jarvis, the artificial intelligence butler, is unable to identify what kind of power this is under the big data of various occults, and even the ability samples of various mutants. But what is certain is that every time this mysterious power appears, it is the time when this teenager has angry mood swings. What kind of shit analysis? Jarvis' words made Tony smile very wryly. Isn't this tantamount to telling yourself not to offend this young man? Should I coax him with a lollipop? Still use a beautiful toy suit to please him? Tony vomited. Sir, none of what you said is in line with the needs of 13-year-olds. Oh, I was wrong. After all, when I was 13 years old, it seemed that I was almost graduating from college. There really is no concept of other people at this age. The humorous Tony Stark still couldn't help but pretend to be forced. But now we still have to solve the problem. Boom. A gorgeous golden red suit just fell from the sky. Hey, man, I don't have any malicious intentions. In order to express that he didn't care, Iron Man spread his hands directly to the sides. Not only that, his steel mask also stretched in, revealing a middle-aged uncle's face full of vicissitudes and a carefully cut mustache. I know the reason for all this. The guy General Stryker brewed the beginning of all this. And you are not an extreme mutant at all. It is a crime of framing and grafting. You are just an innocent teenager who escaped from the experimental base and ascended to heaven. Facing such a mysterious monster, Tony swore that he would definitely use the most emotional language in his life to impress the young man in front of him as much as possible. Even without a heart rate test, Tony knew that his heart rate had increased a lot. Secretly, he also asked Jarvis to test the other's mood swings. After all, he is taking a risk. He is betting. No matter what, the other party is nothing more than a 13-year-old boy. In the rebellious period, the 3 views have not yet formed time. Read more at wuxiax.com. Looking at the opponent's blackened face, Tony felt that everything could be saved. The fault is not with him. All the evils originate from General Stryker. It stems from the persecution of mutants in this world. I can end it all. As long as I push a button, I can thoroughly expose all the crimes of that large snowfield experimental base to the public. General Stryker will also be brought to justice. Tony took a deep breath. On his right-hand side, there is a virtual screen with holographic projection projected into the air. The secret file that was directly violently cracked. As long as he had a thought, Jarvis would be able to spread it to the media and TV stations all over the world. The world will return justice to him. You are not a sinner. On the contrary, you can be a hero, and you can do it easily with your abilities. Tony swears that this is also his peak speech moment as a speaker. This is enough to impress him. The young man quickly changed his mind. Tony's heart was shaking. Sir, the other party's mood swings are not biased towards the index of anger, but unfortunately, he did not have any confusion or regret in your speech. In other words, his conviction is very firm. Jarvis' words suddenly plunged Tony's heart into the boundless ice cellar. Looking at the cold face of the other party without any mood swings, he gave a wry smile. He suddenly remembered that when he was 13 years old, he also ran away from home because of a little conflict. At that time, it took him half a month to be rebellious before he started to change his mind. What's more, the other party suffered so much. Furthermore, his strength is so unpredictable. Why should he swallow this breath? Do you think I need you to wash it off? After listening to so many wonderful speeches, Suchun sneered at this moment, but his unwavering mood showed his firm will. The human beings in this world are so hypocritical, they always start to retain all this when they are suffering. If I had known this before, why bother in the first place? He doesn't need anyone's sympathy. No need for mercy from anyone. His strength is strong enough to ignore all this. Whoever makes his mind difficult to calm down, let his fists and strength tell him the consequences of offending him. It's not me who is wrong, it's the world. Roll, Suchun said blankly. Boom. In less than a second, a majestic and endless thought-powered cannonball blasted towards the Iron Man Tony in front of him. Not good. He closed the armor directly in a haste. Unfortunately, this force is really extraordinary, and he completely tore the armor of his whole body at once, and the whole person's body was completely blown into the distant sea. It's not me who is wrong, and I don't need any salvation. Suchen's face was cold, and this time, among the pile of reinforcements that fell in front of them, there were more than 10 figures, gradually struggling on the ground. The people with healing ability are enough for Suchun to understand. Sorry, he is here. It's just that the man in front of him is wearing glasses, gentle, like a middle-aged man dressed up as a university professor. But he looks at Suchun apologetically. Less than a second. Not only did his heart fully recover, the whole person's physique suddenly became bigger and giant. His green skin and knotted muscles undoubtedly showed his identity. Hulk. Roar. A snarling roar came from the monster in front of him like this. No one thought that the university professor who was gentle in the last second turned into a huge and tall Hulk at this moment. Today's Avengers naturally has not yet been established. It's just that S.H.I.E.L.D. has been sending personnel to contact the university professor. It happened that Bruce Banner appeared nearby, and under the leadership of strong curiosity and S.H.I.E.L.D. personnel, he rushed to the place where the incident occurred. Hulk. Suchun naturally heard of the reputation of the monster in front of him. After all, Hulk had fled the world for several years and escaped the pursuit of General Rose. Not to mention the young Suchun. I'm afraid people all over the world have heard of Hulk's name. But I didn't expect this monster who once used the city as a playground to wreak havoc and killed an unknown number of military personnel, so he stood on the opposite side of him. This is naturally a very absurd fact for Suchun. This world is not only the official slandering him as an extreme mutant and vowing to arrest himself. Even the super criminals wanted in the world have to be their enemies. Am I abandoned by the world? Whether it is good or bad, does the existence of the whole world have to be enemies of itself? Boom. The earth was shaking, and every step of Hulk in front of him caused earthquake-like waves. Looking at the figures that continue to gallop, Suchen's stern face is full of deep chills. If that's the case, then you go to die too. Whoosh. Facing the monster that claims to be the strongest creature on the surface, Suchen didn't have a hint of fear at all. On the contrary, he was full of fighting spirit at the moment. The perplexed anger made his blood boil. Aren't you claiming to be an invincible monster? Well, I will use my fist to beat you to pieces. Boom. His figure suddenly slammed into the Hulk in front of him like a cannonball. Boom. The two collided in one instant at this moment. As if a meteorite hit the ground, a terrifying wave of power spewed out, and the terrible impact wave even caused substantial ripples in the air. Boom. At the moment of the head-on collision, no one thought that the aggressive Hulk was the first to be knocked out. Some of the survivors present were all dumbfounded. Even if they were implanted with healing genes, they couldn't guarantee that they would survive 3 rounds under Hulk's hands. The past record of this monster is truly brilliant. The military sacrificed many people in order to arrest him. It is a waste of tens of billions of dollars. Read more at wuxiax.com. But now he was completely moved by S.H.I.E.L.D.'s words. He came back white. also be beaten. Su Chen's punch just hit his face hard. Roar. Hulk roared unwillingly. He stood up quickly from the ruins on the ground. His terrible resilience made him look unscathed. What's more amazing is that as Hulk's anger and emotions continue to rise, his strength also rises. Unfortunately, Su Chen, who didn't care about this concept at all, came in like this. As if he was not forgiving, and he didn't give the other side a chance to breathe, his figure suddenly rushed into him. There are no fighting skills and no traces of training. Su Chen, who simply vented his personal anger, just hit the opponent with his unpretentious fists. Boom. At this moment, under the collision of the two, Hulk fell into a disadvantage again. His figure flew out, smashing the hyperactive buildings in the rear one after another. Damn it, it's Hulk. My god, why does this monster appear here? The people in the city who had not been completely evacuated suddenly panicked. Compared with the extreme mutants who just succeeded in the nuclear explosion, people are more panicked about the Hulk raging in the city. After all, Su Chen looks like a teenager no matter what. But Hulk is tall and sturdy, as tall as a small hill, and out of control. He often vents his anger to cities around the world. This is simply a demon. Ironically, this Hulk is now on their side. Banner wanted to return to a normal life on Earth. He thought he could manage Hulk's emotions. But under Su Chen's relentless punch, Hulk's face was completely ashamed, and the irresistible anger instantly tore through the prison of reason. Kill him. I want to kill him. Banner's painstaking practice of meditation skills suddenly broke, and his own master character could no longer control Hulk. Roar. Hulk, who became angry with anger, grew taller, and his muscles became more knotted. Boom. His feet squatted slightly in the ruins, and under the terrifying jump force, his figure suddenly leaped towards Su Chen in the air. Boom. Su Chen continued to collide head-on with his body, without a trace of fear. This time, the unparalleled physique he had tempered and retreated suddenly more than 10 meters. Very good. Su Chen smiled without anger. Body strength 50. Physical strength 50. The constructed system is very good at presenting the infinitely evolving genetic information instantaneously. He didn't know much about Hulk's principle of becoming stronger and the stimulating effect of very high and deep gamma rays on cells. But Su Chen knows that if the opponent can continue to grow stronger, then he will definitely welcome it with his hands, let alone the other party's ability to stimulate his body to become stronger. It would be great to have such a sandbag for venting anger, a sandbag that is not so easy to break. Let me see which string is missing in your head that makes you stand on the opposite side of mine. Su Chen thought he had become a supervillain, but Hulk, who was already a heinous crime, actually shot himself. Well, since the world is going to be an enemy of himself, who dares to stand on the opposite side of himself, he doesn't mind sending him into the earth. Roar. Successfully smashed his rival Su Chen. Hulk thumped his chest with both arms excitedly. It's just that his punch just now didn't cause any substantial damage to the enemy. If looking at the other party with interest, without a trace of fear on his face, Hulk only felt that this was the enemy's provocation against him. Ever since, he didn't hesitate at all. The unusually developed muscles of the bottom plate suddenly exploded with terrifying power in an instant. Hulk repeated his old trick, relying on his incomparable jumping ability, leaping into the air, and the entire Warhammer-like thick arm smashed the figure on the ground fiercely. Take it to death. He roared, and the blood boiled at this moment. The body that smashed in was even more engulfed with immense power, as if a mountain tumbling over. The heavy shadow immediately enveloped Su Chen's figure completely, and the suffocating aura condensed in the surroundings. Good job. Su Chen became more and more courageous as he fought. Boom. His feet stared at the ground, and the ground broke directly. The tip of the needle is to the maimon. Facing the rushing figure, he jumped directly, just like that head-on. Boom. Su Chen's clenched fist hit Hulk's body like this. It stands to reason that the physical gap between the two people is so huge. One is as strong as a small hill, while the other is of a normal 13-year-old physique. But it's just such a huge gap. The result of another head-on was that Hulk was knocked out. Boom. His body flew out like a cannonball. Under the impact of this terrifying fist power, Hulk's body actually smashed more than a dozen buildings in succession before officially releasing this power. Roar. Hulk, full of dizziness, stood out of a ruined building very slowly. This time he failed to condense the fighting spirit, and his trembling body seemed to fall down completely in the next second. Yes. At this moment, Hulk did feel an unprecedented level of fear. He was scared. Ever since, his injury is simply difficult to recover. The whole person couldn't even produce a trace of will to resist, so that he was completely beaten unilaterally by Su Chen. Coward. Su Chen smiled. Boom. With another punch, the Hulk in front of him fluttered tens of meters away. He fell heavily into the ruins. At this moment, he couldn't stand up, and his whole body was dripping with blood. No one thought that the Hulk in front of him would be so scared of being beaten by Su Chen before he met his old enemy Thanos. Compared to Hulk, who had completely lost his confidence, Su Chen completely transformed his body into success again in this battle. His instinct tells himself that even if it is not covered by the power of thought and the energy barrier, his body alone is enough to counter the power of a nuclear explosion, and being in it, there won't be too many wounds. I haven't waited for Su Chen to feel the physical changes in it. At this time, a huge willpower suddenly came. Enough, boy, see what the cities around you are like. The battle between you and Hulk is so fierce, everything around you is almost in ruins. At this time, a majestic willpower came. His words were very gentle and did not show a trace of hostility. I really regret that I didn't find you the first time and let them brew all the sins. Trust me, I know you are innocent. Su Chen frowned, because he couldn't tell where the sound came from for the first time. There was no clue, no trace. It was so abrupt, and it appeared in his mind so clearly. For a time, Su Chen was thoughtful, vigilant as he was facing an enemy. I am not an enemy. Just as the words fell, Su Chen's vision suddenly changed. The surrounding area was no longer the ruins of the city, but came to a palace hall full of classical colors. An elderly figure in a wheelchair appeared in his eyes. Professor Charles. Su Chen instantly recognized who this person was. He searched the story of General Stryker on his mobile phone, and most of the relevant entries were related to Professor Charles and Magneto King Eric. This is a mutant leader, known as the Master of the Soul, and it is said on the internet that his brain is the most valuable brain on the entire planet. As long as he has a thought, he can even link the spiritual world of all people around the world with the help of the brainwave intensifier. Most people live and die, even between his thoughts, under his moral judgment of good and evil. This fact is extremely creepy. It's just that Su Chen has no fear in the face of such an existence. He knew that at this time, he had been pulled into a spiritual world by the elderly Professor Charles in front of him. In this regard, he did not feel a trace of fear. Spiritual energy 100. Mind resistance. Mind barrier plus 100. The constructed system is presenting the genetic information of the mutation very clearly. The emergence of this spiritual master in front of him, on the contrary, made Su Chen's own spiritual energy and even resistance to the spiritual level more and more enhanced. You shouldn't find me this way, Su Chen said coldly. No, if I didn't follow recently, I would even stop what you did for the first time. Read more at Luxiax.com. Everything can be saved, my child. Professor Charles still looked like a good old man, and continued to speak heartily. So you came to stop me too? Su Chen laughed unconvincingly. Less than a second, the elegant and majestic hall around it suddenly began to tremble, as if it had suffered an earthquake. Professor Charles frowned, because he knew it was the opponent's spiritual energy resisting. This is a spiritual world, a spiritual palace, an illusion created by oneself. But now he began to resist. The marble floor covered with blankets suddenly cracked, the dust on the entire ceiling fell even more, and a piece of stone slab collapsed from above. Everything that holds here is beginning to become weak. Professor Charles opened his mouth wide and stared at the scene in disbelief. He knew that the other party didn't have the spiritual ability in this area at all before this. But now, the 13-year-old boy in front of him has begun to continuously raise his physique in his spiritual world. This is a very powerful manifestation of spiritual energy. So why can you stop me? me. Su Chen sneered. In such a world of spiritual power competition, all illusions can be realized, and the nature to rely on is one's own spiritual energy. Under the mental stimulation of Professor Charles, Su Chen, who further developed his evolution, not only consolidated his spiritual barrier, but also illuminated the use of spiritual energy in his mind. At this moment, his body turned into a heavenly giant. Suddenly, it was like a stalwart god. His divine eyes looked down at the figure sitting in a wheelchair on the ground. Impossible. Professor Charles still felt weird at this moment. He couldn't understand it all. How could a mutant who survived a nuclear explosion through the absorption and release of energy suddenly be born with abilities about the type of mind? In the battle with Hulk, this guy with no trace of fighting training just relied on the strength given by the opponent to continuously grow his body and defeat his opponent? I didn't expect his abilities to cover so many fields. Oh my god. Professor Charles couldn't even express his shock in words. And he also basically has his own principle. That is, when others disagree, he will not casually probe other people's memories, so he is not even sure what the other party's ability has for a while. Of course, he didn't come here to fight. Looking at the great idol standing in the sky and earth in front of him, Professor Charles finally gave a wry smile. You brothers and sisters are really surprising. The moment the words just fell, Su Chen's huge hand covering the sky suddenly stopped the act of grasping the opponent. What did you say? Su Chen's mood became more and more unable to calm down. Under the violent mood swings, the surrounding spiritual world collapsed more and more rapidly, as if the entire illusion would be completely shattered in the next second. Professor Charles raised his right hand with ease, and everything that had collapsed around quickly stabilized. Your sister Susan has been in my college for a while. Not only that, when she saw you on TV, she deliberately prevented our X-Men from appearing for the first time, and even prevented other people from waking me up in order to prevent me from taking action. This indeed sounds very much in line with the style of his sister's little witch. The little witch with her sly gaze was very noisy in the past. You better not deceive me. After learning this news, Su Chen's mood could no longer calm down. In the next second, he recalled the address of Xavier Genius Academy that he had seen on his cell phone in the past. Without a trace of hesitation, under the violent mood swings, the terrifying power of interfering with reality took effect instantly, and his figure disappeared without a trace. Su Chen's brain has already been developed, and his intelligence has also been improved. The best manifestation is that all the things seen in the past, all the details, all the insignificant little traces, can be easily recalled now. To be honest, when searching for relevant information on his mobile phone, he really didn't care too much about the address of Xavier Genius Academy. His eyes were just a glimpse. As a result, one thought now recalls the relevant content with great ease. Under the mood swings, Su Chen is a good use to modify the power of reality. In the blink of an eye, his figure instantly disappeared in the ruins of the city, and even the giant figure in the spiritual world disappeared without a trace. Located in a small town in Yorkton, there is a magnificent manor house. This is the inheritance inherited by Professor Charles, and it is now the location of Xavier College of Genius. The boundless space rippled and fluctuated, just like this in the academy, and saw a thin figure wearing a black sweater, just like this. My god, what's going on? No, the academy has been invaded. The students on the school aisle suddenly saw a strange figure that suddenly shuttled over. Even the school's detection device sensed a huge energy fluctuation and appeared in the manor. Wait, isn't this the guy? A sweater with a black hood and a pair of casual pants set off his slender figure very well. Under that sharp and handsome face was indifference, full of impersonal taste. Isn't such a familiar face just an extreme mutant who just appeared on global TV stations? Really handsome. Many girls screamed. Wearing a black hood slightly covers Su Chen's black bangs, and there are two white headphone cables hanging around his neck. Such a demeanor is like a very popular cool kid character in the school, and it fits the handsome boy positioning that these girls dream of. Don't be nympho. Hurry up and be on guard. No matter what, the boy who suddenly arrived in front of him has just refreshed the history that the mutants could not set in the past. Give me everything back. There was a sound of anger. I saw a tall man wearing tactical eyepieces walking directly towards Su Chen. Damn criminal. You dare to appear in front of us. Read more at wuxiax.com. If you are not brought to justice, that would be the biggest humiliation to our X-Men. It is because of your existence that humans from the outside world hate us mutants so much. The laser-eyed Scott who came suddenly said something like this. Or does it mean to continue to say hello? He didn't even bother to greet each other. In an instant, the tactical eyepiece of the laser eye flashed a bright red light. This red light was magnified and instantly turned into a thick red beam of light, blasting towards Su Chen in front of him. Is it just this level? Su Chen said indifferently. He gently lifted his right hand forward, and the energy fluctuations that came out made waves of ripples. The beam of energy coming from the collision was like falling into a black hole, and the huge energy disappeared quickly. Damn it. Laser Eye Scott also felt the radiant energy he condensed quickly fade away. He clenched his teeth, riveted enough strength, and burst out the power accumulated in his body. He didn't believe that the other party was really so tenacious, able to hold a beam of light that could penetrate most of the town. You must know that even Edmund Alloy can't hold on for long under the high-temperature laser light. He stepped forward. Don't waste your effort. Su Chen's eyes were filled with contempt. Although the laser light in front of him is very penetrating, Su Chen himself is very handy and adept at absorbing and releasing external energy. No matter how much energy the other party spews, his body after undergoing the baptism of a nuclear explosion is enough to absorb it. Of course, looking at the other person's eyes can release such a terrifying beam of energy, but it also brings some inspiration to Su Chen himself. Su Chen, who learns and uses lively, tries to condense the energy in his body between his eyes. Soon, his cold, black and white eyes showed a hint of golden luster. Laser beam. My god, isn't this the ability of Teacher Scott? At this moment, all the students clinging to the windowsill of the teaching building saw an unforgettable scene. Teacher Scott's opponent, his eyes burst out with a bright beam of energy. Boom. Su Chen first appeared in the world's hot site, and just hit the opponent's laser beam. One golden, one red, two light beams of different colors collided with each other. But the balance between the two was maintained for only half a second, and the golden light released by Su Chen crushed the opponent's laser light. Boom. The golden light beam that hit him all the way, hit Laser Eye Scott's body mercilessly. Boom. In the blink of an eye, his figure was knocked out. Like a tattered sandbag, it smashed the pear wood door behind it, and the whole embarrassed figure fell to the ground. Miss Scott lost. It's too miserable. And is it still defeated by the ability that the other party has learned? The students hiding behind the big windowsills suddenly started talking. No one thought that the elite X-Men's backbone, Laser Eye Scott, would lose under the beam of the opponent's eyes. Damn bastard. The outbreak of the fighting between the two can be described as fleeting. The X-Men personnel who hurriedly found that their teammates had fallen to the ground. Beast, Storm Girl, Steel Warrior, Nightcrawler, and others all looked like they were facing an enemy. Elder brother. At this time, an untimely cheer came out from the mouth of a girl. Susan. Su Chen couldn't hold back the joy in his heart. Isn't the figure of the girl who ran up between the jumps just the sister who had been lost for many days? Whoosh. Like a bird throwing a swallow into the forest, the cheering Susan flew into Su Chen's embrace. Elder brother. Susan, who has always been naughty and strong, couldn't help letting a little cry in her words at this moment. Asshole, I thought I couldn't see you. Susan's eyes contained tears, and a pair of small hands gripped Su Chen's clothes tightly, as if afraid that he would disappear in the next second. Counting the time Su Chen himself was in custody, the two have not seen each other for almost 20 days. Since the death of their mother, the two have basically lived a life of mutual dependence. Thinking of the pains of the past, even Su Chen, who has been indifferent for a long time, can't help but feel sigh. It's It's okay, everything is over. Su-chun is much stronger than in the past. For more than half a month, his own training has not only been reflected in the evolution of the body, but even the whole person's mood has undergone a transformation. He is no longer as flustered and confused as in the past, but tried his best to comfort his sister. You should be okay. How are you doing during this time? Compared to himself, Su-chun cares more about how his sister is doing during this period of time. It's okay, the food here is pretty good, but it's much better than my brother's craftsmanship. Susan's words made Su-chun a little ashamed. Ahem. At this time, Professor Charles, who came in a wheelchair, interrupted their greetings. This old grandfather came to me. He is very powerful, but I was crying and begging him at the time, but I couldn't find you. Susan frowned and said very dissatisfied. At this moment, her little hand gripped her brother's right hand tightly, and her arm trembled a little. Obviously, she was a little nervous. Although Susan has always been eccentric and mischievous, compared to what her brother did on the TV station, those little jokes are nothing at all. No matter what the future is, no matter what she will face next, she is also very determined to stand by her brother. Everyone, go back to their dormitory. Professor Charles waved his hand to signal everyone to stop watching. This is too disappointing. I don't want to fight. Everyone seemed a little excited. After all, mutants are marginal figures in society. When they think that they have superpowers, they suffer from discrimination and injustice from outside humans. Naturally, many mutant children are very dissatisfied. Everyone is still young, blindly giving in to humans and bowing their heads to the outside world. It really makes them feel extremely discouraged and frustrated. Now, a teenager who is almost the same age as them is standing in front of everyone like this. Read more at wuxiax.com. He achieved an accomplishment that Magneto could not accomplish in the past. Fear and fear. Everyone can't help but look at Su-chun with a trace of admiration and admiration. Ugh. Professor Charles can feel the changes in everyone's mood. In recent years, cases of injustice against mutants have indeed become more and more rampant, so that people's hearts are a little impetuous. Professor. The X-Men gathered around one after another, and their vigilant eyes looked at Su-chun not far away. Scott's right shoulder is completely penetrated. As long as he deviates more than 10 centimeters, I am afraid that his entire arm will be completely shattered by this guy. The Storm Girl said angrily. As the X-Men and their partners for more than 10 years, most of the people present felt a bit empathetic, and they all felt the same hatred. Arrest him. Don't hesitate anymore, Professor. What he did is nothing more than a copy of Magneto, and his existence will only continue to sever the connection between the mutants and the human race. Hear the words. Susan became furious and said very dissatisfied. Are you guys used to being enslaved? People are staring at you, and you still want to continue to reconcile with them. Did my brother be treated as a guinea pig by humans? Is the hunt for the blame? You don't even think that Susan is only in her early teens, but she is witty, and her rebuttal is very beautiful. Many X-Men were not afraid of Su-chun's existence. They would almost be unable to control their temper. This naughty little witch. Gangly, she felt a little angry when she thought that she had used her own ability to remove a wheel of the fighter plane in order to prevent herself and others from setting off. We have communicated before. Professor Charles ignored the noisy words around, but calmly said to Su-chun, all the sinful things that General Stryker did, the X-Men and I will deal with them personally and give you justice. Do you think I need your help? The gentleness on Su-chun's face gradually disappeared. Professor Charles was speechless for a while, and he did achieve an accomplishment that many extreme mutants could not accomplish in the past. However, the size of this world is far beyond his imagination. At least this young man didn't know that he was not invincible, and there were more unimaginable existences in this world. No, you need to clean up the dirty spots on your body, and you need to stand in front of everyone in the world to eliminate the panic that you have caused. You are only 13 years old. You should go to school and enjoy your campus life instead of becoming a wanted man from around the world is running around. Professor Charles tried to redeem his determination. Do you think I would care? Su-chun's face is still cold. For so many days, he has thoroughly comprehended the law of the weak and the strong. He is better than others, so he doesn't need to care about any rules. No need for mercy or sympathy from others. It wasn't him who was wrong, and he didn't need any salvation at all. If his mind is not equal, then use his fist to pacify everything. As for the shackles that humans put on him, he would even break it himself. I will always believe in you. Susan's hands gripped Su-chun's arms so tightly. At this time, only the affirmation of relatives can bring a touch of warmth to Su-chun. So you still decided to stop in front of me? If it weren't for the sake of saving Susan, I wouldn't have so much thought to tell you more. Su-chun has issued the final notice. He didn't have the mind to continue to endure the painstaking words of these guys, but these were just in line with Iron Man Tony's argument. The words are not speculative. At this moment, even the gentleness on Professor X's face has gradually disappeared. Boy, you are too self-centered. At this moment, a tall and graceful red-haired woman came over. I know the pain in your heart. I have lost control of my emotions many times and almost completely destroyed the earth, so your ability is nothing to me. Admit it. Of course, you can rest assured that I will act as your guardian and will never let you have today's problem again. Phoenix Girl Jean Grey said so confidently. At this moment, this tall and beautiful woman revealed her strong will and determination to control Su-chun. Guardian? A beautiful woman in her 20s suddenly came up and said that she wanted to be her guardian, which made Su-chun feel extremely absurd. But in the next second, the woman with red hair reaching her waist made no secret of the fluctuation of her ability. This woman. Su-chun frowned slightly, and the awakened fighting instinct also told him clearly that this woman was really dangerous. Trust me, I have the ability to guard you, and naturally have the ability to control everything about you. In the face of this unruly, still indifferent child, the dignified and majestic Chinjirai has added a hint of threat in his words. The professor is right. You are too young. Your life has a broader future, and everything can be done from scratch. So, is my brother really going to jail? Susan couldn't help standing up and asking. Yes, you have to pay a price if you do something wrong. This is the order of this world. What's more, I have been working to add a bridge of communication between the two races of humans and mutants. Now, because of your appearance, the human panic about mutants will increase again. Professor Charles in the wheelchair changed his gentle expression and looked at Su-chun very seriously. Because of your appearance, our X-Men's efforts over the past few decades will even be meaningless. A terrorist-class mutant who succeeded in a nuclear explosion in the mainland. A wanted criminal who committed heinous crimes in the Magneto King Eric. It is conceivable how much human beings hate the mutant race. In order to repair the rift between the two races, the X-Men did not know how much effort and how many humans were saved before dismissing the discriminatory impression of mutants. Now the appearance of Su-chun has brought them a big problem. Professor Charles, who has always been peaceful, couldn't help being a little angry at this moment. There are not many years left in his life. He just wants to complete the peace between the two races as much as possible in his later years, so he will never allow others to destroy the situation in front of him. But my brother is clearly a victim. Susan's pupils burst with tears as she faced others using racial justice to put pressure on her. Facing other people standing on the moral high ground and accusing her brother, she really felt uncomfortable, and she felt the same. Susan couldn't help but want these mutants to accuse her. Unfortunately, no matter what your original intention is, what persecution you have suffered, but when you do something wrong, you have to pay a price. Just like your brother's heavy hand against Scott, he also has to pay a price. Storm Girl added coldly on the side. For a time, the atmosphere on the scene suddenly became a bit condensed, and the inexplicable killing intent was permeated around. In such an atmosphere, even the air velocity has become somewhat stagnant. The students behind the windowsill in the teaching building have long since disappeared. In this vast playground, only one X-Men dressed in uniforms gradually closed to the surroundings. Facing the opponent's unconcealed will to fight, Susan couldn't bear the words just standing on the moral high ground. She looked at the people in front of her, wiped away the tears in her eyes, and snarled very angrily. It is because of you people who are constantly patient that my brother was arrested wantonly. Read more at wuxiax.com. If it weren't for you, my brother and I wouldn't be hiding everywhere at the time. I can see you through, brother. Let's go. The wise Susan retorted very well. Sadly, she wanted to use her weak spatial transmission ability to leave the scene directly. What? Only in the next second, Susan frowned and called out in pain. It was Phoenix female Jean Grey who made the shot directly. Her invisible thought fluctuations directly contained Susan's thoughts. You dare to move her? Suchin suddenly got up, and his sister was basically where he was. In an instant, his mind was like an erupting volcano ready to go, and terrifying and boundless thought power fluctuations were about to brew. Don't think about it. But at this time, Professor Charles, the master of the soul, also followed suit. In the previous encounter between the two, although he was surprised that the other party was able to resist in his own spiritual world, he did not feel much fear. After all, Professor Charles himself has always abided by the creed of not using too much spiritual energy unless necessary, because he doesn't want to invade the privacy of others. Now, facing such a mutant with at least an omega level, he can only unscrupulously release his omnipotence. What? For a time, Suchin only felt that his spiritual realm was hit by a shocking wave. Compared with Professor Charles, the soul catcher I encountered before is simply a difference. The mental barrier constructed in Suchin's mind was completely broken at this moment. Boundless pains emerged violently. This psychic power even wants to snatch the control of its own body. Damn beast. Suchin was very angry. His roar kept roaring in his spiritual realm. At this moment, his infinitely evolving mutant gene began to constantly evolve into restrained ability under the stimulation of strong psychological ability. Mind energy plus 1000. Mind barrier plus 1000. Mental resistance plus 800. Awakening. Mind energy absorption. The constructed system continuously shows the changes of gene information. Even Professor Charles didn't understand what kind of monster he was facing. Maybe he will add a definition to this teenager's physique after the fact. That is the super Darwin's physique. Perhaps everyone has heard of Darwin's theory of evolution. After tens of millions of years of natural evolution, the ancestors of bird animals have evolved a pair of wings. As a result, they finally escaped from natural enemies on the ground and successfully obtained more resources in the vast sky. And Suchin's gene that is changing all the time, under external stimuli. It may take only half a second to complete a new transformation. Not good. Professor Charles suddenly panicked. He felt that the mental energy that he had invaded into the opponent's head was fading away. Not only that, but the opponent's spiritual realm has grown more and more resistant. And even the spiritual barrier that was destroyed just now rises up again in an instant, becoming more stable. Oh my god, what kind of monster is this? Professor Charles suddenly realized that he could no longer attack like this, because this seems to be urging the other party to evolve a means of restraining oneself. But when Professor Charles wanted to get out of his body, Suchin's spiritual realm suddenly swallowed up, swallowing bursts of spiritual energy. Jean, I need your help. Professor Charles exclaimed. Professor Charles encountered an unprecedented predicament at this moment. He had no idea that Suchin was able to absorb and release the energy, completely acting on his own spiritual energy. The psychic power he had invaded the opponent's mind just disappeared continuously. Oh, Shinjiri yelled angrily, and another huge willpower came to Suchin's mind. Professor Charles got away. Not only that, the surrounding X-Men have also taken action. Storm Girl's figure gradually suspended in the sky, her pupils gradually whitened, and the sky around her soon began to change. She called the wind to call the rain, letting thunder brewing in the dark clouds. The figure of Ganglishi quickly ran towards Suchin's figure. To say the fastest, none belonged to the Quicksilver and Nightcrawler in the X-Men. Whoosh. The speed of Quicksilver is comparable to that of thunder. During his bullet time, the movement of all objects is inexplicably slowed down, as if he was in a stagnant field of time and space. A drop of water in the air just suspended in midair, slowly sliding down at an almost imperceptible landing speed. The Steel Lux, who was running not far away, was even more than 10 meters away. Under such a time flow rate, Quicksilver can be said to be the only master in this field. Boy, he sneered, just approaching Suchin in front of him without a trace of fear. Quicksilver slammed his fist suddenly, and it landed on the opponent's back. As time accelerates, his strength will naturally increase. What? But when the punch fell, the slender figure in front of him was still tattooed, and there was no wave of vacillation at all. Oops. Only when I was about to win did I realize that the opponent's physique had experienced the baptism of a nuclear explosion. His face suddenly became a little embarrassed. However, with an idea, he realized that the opponent's body must also have weaknesses. Quicksilver showed a smirk, and he didn't believe that his hands suddenly inserted his eyes, and the other party was still safe. Just as his figure went around in front of Suchin, a sense of vigilance suddenly rose in his mind. Quicksilver's scalp was numb, because he actually saw the other person's eyes are looking at him, and the entire eye movement has been staring at his figure. Not good. He actually reacted. The life and death instincts that have been tempered over the years have forced Quicksilver's body to move immediately. When his figure appeared hundreds of meters away, the realm of bullet time ended like this. Read more at wuxiax.com. Quicksilver returned without success and was startled in a cold sweat. After returning to normal time, the figure from the Nightcrawler space appeared on Suchin's back. Whoosh. His thorny tail suddenly left a trail in the air, running through the back of Suchin's neck in front of him. One after another, you guys don't bother. Suchin sneered. He awakened a restrained countermeasure to the enemies who shuttled through the space. His gleaming eyes can see the warping, wrinkles, and even gaps in the spatial structure. It is undoubtedly an act of dying to daring to play in front of him. As if it was a god-level predictor, Suchin had already turned around, grasping the precise timing, and grasping the sharp thorny tail that penetrated. Not good. The Nightcrawler was suddenly shocked, and he could not expect the other party to react so fast, as if he had completely foreseen his actions. Run. Anxious in his heart, he suddenly wanted to use his abilities. It's a pity that the force dragging on the tail completely grabbed his figure from the ripples of space. Die to me. Suchin clenched his fist with his other hand, and slammed into the dark Nightcrawler in front of him. The surging power emerged in the fist, and under the sway, it directly tore the air, and a sonic boom sounded. Do not. There was a burst of exclamation all around. Boom. But at close range, the Nightcrawler couldn't hide, so he took Suchin's punch head on, and with a bang, most of his fragile soul was directly exploded into a cloud of blood. The power of this punch is really too powerful. It is beyond everyone's imagination. In this way, the Nightcrawler completely lost half of his body in one punch, completely collapsed to the ground, and became unable to move. Asshole. The figure of Ganglux is like a train crashing at full speed. He is cast with alloy steel, muscular, and as strong as an iron tower. He is the X-Men's physical power output, and even a flesh shield-like role. He roared, his red eyes staring at Suchin so tightly. His whole body was so fit, holding a giant body and rushing towards Suchin like this. Only you. In order to prevent his sister Susan from being affected, Suchin took a few steps forward, holding his right hand in front of him. Boom. He just leaned on the support of one arm, and he stubbornly blocked the collision of the Steel Lux figure. But Suchin's own figure did not even take a step back. Rage's Hulk is still subdued by him. What is the Steel Lux in front of me? Boom. At this time, the thunder that had long been brewing in the dark clouds on the horizon finally kept smashing and falling. Bright beams of thunder and lightning continued to fall from the air. Under the command of Storm Girl, they smashed into Suchin's figure. In order to avoid affecting her, a terrifying storm and rain engulfed Suchin's body. Oh, Phoenix female Jean Grey was also angry at this time, and after the tragic death of Nightcrawler, she could not hold back the power in her heart. A terrifying force mixed with the power of the Phoenix just descended on Suchin's head. Be sure to control him. Professor Charles in the wheelchair became furious. He felt a little misguided. He did underestimate his opponent. If he could put himself on his brainwave intensifier, he would definitely not become as passive as he is now. But no matter what, in order to control this murderous young man, he once again used his spiritual energy to make a desperate attempt to completely seize the control of the opponent's body. For a time, Su Chun, who was under the siege of the X-Men, hugged his sister Susan tightly. Under such power of heaven and earth, he was afraid that Susan would be affected. An invisible thought force fluctuation formed a barrier support. Yushinjo. But when the indiscriminate phoenix will come, Susan's complexion suddenly turned pale. Elder brother. In this situation, Su Chun finally couldn't contain the anger in his heart. When his emotional rage got out of control, he used the mysterious power of reality modification. Die. Under Su Chin's emotional rage, he directly used the power of rewriting reality. The mysterious and weird power began to interfere in reality. The attacks from the surrounding blessings disappeared in an instant. The flying storm girl was still calling the wind and calling the rain in the last second, in charge of the thunder, and the supreme thunder constantly slashed and beat the figures of Su Chun and Susan. But in the next second, she suddenly bleeds from her 7 orifices, her consciousness is suddenly dimmed, and the whole person's sanity is completely wiped out by an invisible wave. She screamed, and then crashed down from the air tens of meters high. Do not. The steel man roared. He opened his arms, but found that his steel-cast arm was gradually liquefied, like molten steel. The cells of his body burned with inexplicable high temperature. In just a moment, a billowing white smoke evaporated from his body. I don't want to die. Ganglishi stretched his right hand forward, but his right arm completely turned into a puddle of molten iron and splashed on the ground, and the terrifying temperature even pierced the surface of the ground. For a time, his entire body melted completely, and his proud and unbreakable physique was completely transformed into a pool of molten steel. Children. Professor Charles's complexion changed drastically. This moment, he looked at Su Chin's eyes as if he were looking at a demon. Under his wide red pupils, he felt his body becoming weaker and weaker. The eyelids are slowly closing. The whole person's sanity is getting more and more unclear. The memory is even more chaotic. He wanted to mention his mentality, but found that he couldn't lift a finger, and even the consciousness in his head became more and more depressed, and he couldn't even remember who he was. The deadline has come. Professor Charles suddenly realized that his consciousness was completely apathetic, but under a terrifying reality intervention, he first caused Alzheimer's disease, and then gradually became debilitated into brain death. The most valuable head in the world ushered in his ending. As the main attacker, the Phoenix female piano Jirai was not weaker than the others at this time. Compared with other people, her tenacious vitality attracted more and more real forces to interfere. You don't have to be like this. The Phoenix girl's delicate and dignified face was filled with a hint of fear, but she looked at Su Chun in front of her with complex meanings. The cold, ruthless, murderous face was like a reflection of her youth. Read more at wuxiax.com. But he has already stepped out. Why is the other party still persistent? Things shouldn't develop into such a bad manner. Do not. You never stepped out. It was Professor Charles. That old man completely sealed all your negative emotions. A voice rang in Qin Golei's mind. In the depths of her mind, the boundless smoke was permeated, and she was immersed in boundless darkness. And there was a figure of a lady who was imprisoned. That is herself. That is another personality of Qin Jirai. Compared with the dignified Qin Golei itself, the identical figure in the prison was full of charm. Black Phoenix. Professor Charles was very terrible when he was aware of the ability of the other party to lose control and change when he was young. It was a terrifying force capable of subverting the planet and even endangering the universe. For this reason, in order for Qin Jirai to control herself and become a good person harmless to the world, Professor Charles kept all her negative emotions and even bad memories of the past in a prison in the spiritual realm. Middle. Su Chin's interference in the reality of the force suddenly destroyed the prison like a dawn. The fragments of memory were awakened in Qin Golei's mind. I killed my parents. Qin Jirai suddenly recalled the worst scene. Because of her own temperament, she suddenly caused a car accident in a car driven by her parents, causing both parents to die. I once killed many innocent mutant students when I was 17. At the age of 19, I almost lost control and completely evaporated the lake in the college. One by one, the memory fragments of Professor Charles in the past emerged in this way. This is the real self. Black Phoenix's voice became clearer and clearer. Qin Jiriai's hands tightly covered her head, and in an instant, a surge of murderous intent surged out of her body, a force capable of disintegrating everything. Even the air molecules began to annihilate. Stand up. Soon, from her body, an invisible storm of annihilation burst out of her body. The earth began to decompose. Even the buildings of the manor in front of them began to collapse into patches of gray mist. Everything has returned to the simplest molecules and atoms. No, stop it. Qin Jirai roared. The changes in the current situation are simply beyond everyone's expectations. What is this again? Su Chin's complexion changed. His mind power barrier shattered instantly under the beating of this wind. He felt the power fluctuations in it with his right hand, but within a few seconds, he found that his body that had been tempered many times had wounds again. Puff. Drops of blood continued to fall off from the wound, but they were drawn by an invisible stand, as if retracing time. A drop of blood returned to his wound and quickly recovered. His immortal physique naturally played a role at this time. Su Chin frowned. This suddenly split personality seemed to become completely out of control under her own stimulation. Compared with the decomposing master before, the power of this Phoenix girl is really crushing the opponent. Elder brother. Susan screamed. Her hands clasped Su Chin's arms tightly. Under the out-of-control power of the Phoenix girl, not only the surrounding air began to decompose, but the thoughts of every creature around him began to suffer mentally. Of pain. Susan's face was pale, her entire face completely lost its blood, and she was obviously affected. Let's go. Su Chin glanced at the magnificent manor and began to disintegrate. A mutant student screamed in horror and continued to flee. The power of space caused ripples, and Su Chin no longer cared about the life and death of these people, and left this place of right and wrong directly with Susan in pain. Damn bastard. A red car drove on the highway, constantly heading in the direction of the first city. The super slaughter girl's small and exquisite figure almost stood in the driving position and started racing. Along the way, I don't know how much dissatisfaction aroused. For the super killer Mindy, everything that happened today is too horrified and can be called a nightmare. The death of the father's father, and even Su Chun, the friend I just made, actually did such a shocking thing in the first city under rage. The thought of what he said when he was angry, I'm afraid it hurts his heart. I feel a little embarrassed about the super killing girl. In any case, she must find each other. Unfortunately, the communication message in the first city in front conveyed that the other party's figure had long since disappeared after lying on Hulk. Damn it, this made the super killer Mindy a little at a loss. The red car was so confused by the wandering on the road. And at this moment, just when she was at a loss, on the road ahead, two figures suddenly appeared out of thin air from the ripples of space. Oh my god, the super killer was so silly that she hurriedly turned the steering wheel to the side, and the entire red car crashed into the side tree stump. Just as she cursed, her completely awakened head immediately reacted. Isn't one of the figures wearing a black sweater the same as Su Chin? This day, it is too extraordinary for most people. No one thought that a nuclear explosion resounded in the first city, and the magnificent building dome that had not yet been put into use would collapse like this. The most embarrassing thing was that the military representative had just announced that the young mutant was a most wanted man in the world. As a result, before the press conference was held, the military representative was buried under the opponent's hands. A 13-year-old boy named Su Chun resounded all over the world on this day. He has achieved an achievement that extreme mutants could not achieve in the past. Magneto King Eric can only bow down to the wind. Many mutants regard it as an idol. It's even more called Mutant 1. Certainly, Not many people knew what they regarded as a mutant idol and also attacked Xavier College of Genius on that day, including Professor X. Many X-Men were killed on the spot. What is even more frightening is that the Phoenix female piano Glay completely lost control, and another personality, the Black Phoenix, began to snatch the control of the body from the master. The entire magnificent Villa Manor collapsed more than half, and the mutant students fled in haste. More than 10 minutes after the incident, read more at Wuxiax.com. The wave that was enough to decompose everything disappeared, and the figure of the Black Phoenix also disappeared. No one knows where the existence that claims to be capable of subverting the Earth has gone. Perhaps hiding in the dark, continue to fight for the right to control the body. The SHIELD agents who heard the news were all disillusioned. It is immediately listed as a Level 9 authority event, and non-Level 9 agents cannot access relevant information. As far as Director Nick Fury was concerned, he knew exactly how terrifying power the Phoenix girl concealed. Even in his heart, if that woman really loses control, I am afraid that even the newly promoted #1 mutant Su-Chun will not be able to compete. It's really eventful. Now, the Avengers project will be launched immediately. In the original historical plot trajectory, the Avengers, which was originally established to face the increasingly severe alien threat, were launched ahead of schedule at this moment. The absorption and release of energy. This is his key ability to succeed in a nuclear explosion. Seeing through the movement of things and the trajectory of space, such a name seems inaccurate. But it is his key ability to predict teleport killers, indestructible physique, block the mental resistance of the mind catcher, sonic resistance, and even, that mysterious and infinite is enough to determine life and death in one word. In the Stark headquarters company, Tony Stark's figure appeared. His upper body was wrapped with a layer of gauze. If it were not for the airflow from the armor at the end, he might be immersed in the sea and swallowed completely. In the face of Su-Chun he met before, Tony still tried to find a way he could contend. But in the end, he felt extremely prostration. The opponent is too strong. If the inference of artificial intelligence Jarvis is really correct, then this teenager's genes must be extraordinary. It can only be announced. Tony sighed secretly, but he was about to completely disclose the hacker information obtained through hacking methods to the public. Today he can only hope that the 13-year-old boy can change his mind and stop blinding his eyes and walk the road to death. It is hoped that through the public's condemnation of General Ross, the killing intent in his heart can be alleviated. But it was first boarded by someone swiftly. Just as Jarvis was preparing to release the secret file globally, a young Chinese hacker girl from the world's top hacker organization, the Rising Tide organization, and the future Shockwave woman Daisy John, directly published the file completely. He was forced into this step by step by the evil men of the military. This is the persecution of mutants. General Ross deserves to die. Daisy condemned on the internet. Wow. Once the news was put on the internet, it immediately caused a huge sensation. One stone set off 1,000 layers of waves. What made a 13-year-old boy into a demon? Many people gradually reversed their impressions and began to condemn. He is speaking for the mutants. He is the hero of the mutants. Just when people are fighting for Su-Chun, another exact news spread on the internet. Su-Chun, the #1 mutant, killed Professor Charles, and several X-Men died in battle. The news came out. Reverse again. Haha, what about a good voice for mutants? What about a good hero? It turns out that your mutant hero will completely kill the leader of the mutant moderate. To me, he is a hopeless extreme mutant. Let him die. Whether Su-Chun is a mutant hero or a demon, for a while, it has aroused many heated discussions. After being immersed for a full week, unexpectedly, Su-Chun's figure disappeared from public view. Yorkton City, Manhattan City. In the dark night, a magnificent Fisker mansion just rose from the ground, straight into the sky, as if it had torn the night. This is the gangster empire created by the ruler Wilson Fisk, who is also the famous Golden Union. It appears that Fisker Building Group is a magnificent commercial kingdom, but in essence, the underworld Emperor Gene has dominated everything in the underground world, and his words can even reach his world without any decree. There's what he said. Thousands of gangsters were like loyal slaves working for him. Under such a splendid building, there are so many innocent bones buried, and among them, there is a corpse of the mother of the super-killing female Mindy. Hey, little girl, this is not where you can come. The super killer Mindy turned a deaf ear. With her small figure, she ignored the warnings of the bodyguards and walked into the first floor lobby of the Fisker building with a suitcase in the dark. Jingle. The alarm sounded suddenly, and the metal detection device at the gate directly detected a large amount of heavy metal materials. Damn, little girl. The two mobs in black suits at the door felt bad, and immediately picked up a pistol worn on the side of their waist and opened the insurance directly, but they hadn't waited for him to pull the trigger. With a bang, Mindy reflexed with 2 shots, with precise bullets directly through their heads. Everything should be an end. Call. The super killer took a deep breath and immediately unscrewed 2 fully automatic rifles from her suitcase. The muzzle of the rifle burst into bright fireworks, and the fully automatic rifle continuously fired bullets, killing all the gangsters in the hall. Soon, outside the lobby of the Fisker building, Su-Chun, wearing a black sweater, walked in with his sister Susan. Without a hint, or even a trace of fluctuation, a metal gate of the Fisk mansion closed so quickly. The reason has disappeared for a week. Read more at Wuxiax.com. It is because Susan's languid spirit has been recuperating for a full week, and Su-Chun is watching day and night, so naturally he will not leave. And now, the reason why he came to this Fisker mansion was that Su-Chun, who was slightly indebted in his heart, decided to fulfill the wish of the big dad Damon. Although he had never met and had no emotion at all, the other party died because of himself. Su-Chun naturally wouldn't let him die so wronged. In order to deal with the enemy underworld Emperor Gene Ben, who was looking forward to it day and night, the big daddy Damon trained his daughter Mindy into a killing machine. However, when you can get revenge with the strength of the Golden Union, it is like a giant mountain that is basically difficult to shake. Now, Su-Chun completely destroyed this huge mountain. A wave of thought power surges out of the mind like this, and in the plasticized state, one after another turned into a sharp blade with a light trace and penetrated the bodies of the gang members. In the blink of an eye, the figure in the entire hall fell to the ground quickly like mowing grass. These suit thugs and gangster bodyguards are simply not enough to be Su-Chun's opponents. At this moment, the lights of the entire building went out completely. Everything around was plunged into the invisible darkness. Be careful. Gina has a mysterious assassination unit called Shahewi. These ninjas have a very terrible assassination method. Mindy tensed his expression and became very alert. Susan cut directly into the state of molecular mimicry, which allows all damage and touch to pass through her body, unable to cause damage to it. Su-Chun's complexion was still calm, and a pair of eyes swept across the surrounding environment with such interest. His clear black and white eyes seemed to flicker with dim light, and the rapidly evolving infrared vision and even night vision capabilities completely understood everything here. Whoosh. At this moment, a ninja in red who was hiding on the ceiling, holding his breath for half a minute, suddenly leapt and fell. The katana in his hand was glowing with cold light, tearing through the night, just like this, slashing at Su-Chun's head in the air with a slashing posture. That's it. A hint of mockery appeared on Su-Chun's face. Less than a second, an unknown mysterious force completely intervened in reality, and the face of the figure slashing in the air before his eyes changed, and the whole person's body began to collapse, turning into a bunch of bubbles, floating in the air. Another ninja in red couldn't hold it back. He broke his breath holding effort from under the corner of the dark night. The experienced ninja quickly drew his sword from the scabbard in his waist, and the fiery light of the sword had not had time to flash in the air. The figure he threw in front of him seemed to have lost his whole body bones, and suddenly fell to the ground. With a thump, the whole person actually fell into a pile of donuts, spreading all over the ground. This, not to mention other secret killers. Even Mindy looked surprised and couldn't believe this amazing scene. Hiss. At this moment, many ninjas lurking in the lobby on the first floor were unable to hold their breath, and their numb pupils were filled with fear at this time. Such an enemy is really terrible. How did he do it? In such an environment full of killing intent and panic. Only Susan's laughter rippled around. Brother wants donuts, right? Su-chun heard the words and just rubbed Susan's hair with his right hand. Less than a second, the weird and mysterious power once again acted in reality. The ninja who had all exposed their breath trails in the previous moment completely collapsed, and the body turned into glass beads on the ground, sprinkled on the ground, and pulsed in a dim hall. The sound. Dee-dee-da-da. The sound of the glass balls falling to the ground continued. Only a week later, Su-chun has become more comfortable with the use of modifying reality. Obviously, he has learned a lot of nutrition in the past battles. Today, he can even easily complete actions that subvert reality under calm thoughts. Ding! Under one of his thoughts, the lights of the building that had been cut off were resounding like this. In such a short time, there were not many people in the whole hall. Da-da-da. Mindy, the super killer girl with red eyes, immediately pulled the trigger and shot all the remaining figures under the light accurately through the head. That guy must be on the top floor. Mindy gritted his teeth and said coldly. At this moment, inside the top office of the Fisker building, suddenly a sturdy figure like a giant bear was sitting on a sofa like this. His full-faced face was completely distorted at this moment, and the crutches in his hand were crunched by him. On the edge of the sofa, one of his men was beaten to blood, lying on the ground, unconscious. The reason for everything was just that the subordinate reported bad news, and Jinwei under rage shot him to death so quickly. As a being who possesses the theoretical limit of human physique, Jinbin's fist is enough to beat a tiger alive. The personnel who are just sparring are all world-class boxing champions and even elite special forces, but they can't survive 3 rounds under Jinbin's hands. He is still very dissatisfied with this. Because he knows the existence of superheroes in this world, they often have terrifying abilities. At least he is very envious of Mutant's abilities. The sudden crisis in front of him also made him realize that it seemed difficult to settle with his own strength. The first batch of hands-on association members lost contact. The bullseye has gone to stop. The other party has already been killed. One after another, bad news kept coming. According to the surveillance screen, the enemy is a super killer woman. In addition, there is also the extreme mutant Su-chun who was wanted not long ago. This news sounded like a thunder in Jinbin's ears. In the past, the super killing girl was nothing but an eye-catching little grasshopper that kept jumping up and down. But now, Su-chun, who came together, made him unable to remain calm and calm at all. His strong life and death instinct kept beating with warning signs, as if the god of death was urging his life to its limit. After all, it was a monster that was safe from a nuclear explosion. Read more at wuxiax.com. Damn bastard. Just prepare for the ceremony. Jinbin's huge figure just stood up. His completely distorted face was full of madness. Riding the underground world does not know how many years before successfully squeezing into the upper class. Now the underworld Empire State Building is facing the risk of collapsing. Jin and naturally refuses to catch it. No matter who you are, if you want to take everything from me, I can hold you at my worst. No one can keep you. Little shit boy, don't think you are the most special in this world. Boom. Along with Su-chen's punch, a figure in front of him smashed the wall in front of him like a cannonball. These gangsters of Jinbin, and even the members of the Shahewi could not resist Su-chen's move. Whoosh. The whistling sound of breaking through the air kept coming, and at this moment 3 darts were thrown very accurately at the vital points of Su-chen's body. This superb throwing skill is absolutely amazing. Unfortunately, before getting close to Su-chen's physique, he was completely blocked by an invisible force of thought lingering a few meters away, as if he had been trapped in a quagmire. The 3 darts couldn't make a step further and just hovered in the air. He is the target eye. His nerves are very abnormal. Super Killer Mindy said very vigilantly. In the past, the #1 killer under the banner of Jinbin can make that a headache. But now, in front of Su-chun, it was like a fish on a chopping board, letting him slaughter it. Not good. The complexion of the bullseye changed drastically, but no matter how he struggled, his body was driven by an invisible traction, and he floated directly in front of Su-chun. What? He screamed. His whole body just disintegrated, and under a terrifying reality interference, he turned into a lot of bubbles and dissipated into the air. Of course, only his unique spine structure was completely revealed in front of him. Spine bones cast from Edmund alloy. Su-chun stroked his chin. Just now, he had completely penetrated the extraordinary inside the target eye through his gleaming eyes. A product of the X-Weapon project again. Of course, the bullseye can be modified, but because another master surgeon related to it successfully implanted it. Under the extremely surging mental power plasticization, the sturdy Edmund alloy suddenly deformed like a cotton candy. In the blink of an eye, Su-chun succeeded in shaping a slender blade under the will of Su-chun. Next second, this flying sword completely broke through the air, shuttled between the corridors one after another, continuously running through the bodies of human figures. No one can stop Su-chun's footsteps. Soon, he took the super killer girl, and Susan came to the top floor of the Fist Mansion. At this moment, an unusually evil and surging dark power spewed out from the pair with gate in front of him. Su-chun frowned. This sudden emergence of evil power actually made his heart feel a little uncomfortable. As if something was coveting him in secret, Su-chun felt something. For a moment, he directly raised his head and looked at the ceiling. His black and white eyes seemed to see through everything and looked completely at the outside of the building. In the night. At this time, under the boundless darkness of the night, boundless dark clouds gathered together, forming a weird black channel. At this moment, a black vertical pupil appeared in the void staring at Su-chun like this. In the next instant, a surging evil force suddenly turned into a beam of light and began to descend. At this moment, the ancient evil god Beast believed in Shahewi. The existence named Haekong descended in the ceremony. However, what is surprising is that the will that came was originally the successor of the ritual, Jinbin. However, it seemed that Su-chun could smell better. He even abandoned Jinbin and directly descended to Su-chun's body. No, why did you abandon me? Jin roared unwillingly. And this time, as if the whispers from the devil lingered in Su-chun's ears. The injustice in this world is pouring over you. Let go of your heart, and I will give you the power to destroy the world. The evil god Haekong has an existence named Beast. In the Marvel event, Shadow Domain, it has completely appeared on the stage. The method of possessing and descending has controlled the Daredevil to completely lay down a group of superheroes, and the terrible demonic energy has completely corroded the hearts of the surrounding people. Daredevil's TV even mentions the existence of Haekong itself. No matter how, Cthulhu Haekong is in existence in another alien dimension. Alien dimensions, parallel worlds, and small universes are a very common thing for the Marvel universe. And now, Cthulhu Haekong completely descended from the sky in the ritual carried out by the hand-to-hand meeting. But a change happened like this. The heretical god Haekong didn't choose to drill into Jinbin's body. Instead, it flocked to Su-chun's body. This is the perfect boarding body. Young man, I feel the majestic anger and killing intent from you. The injustice in this world is pouring over you. Let go of your heart, and I will give you the power to destroy the world. The sky above the city. I saw the boundless dark clouds continue to gather, and in it, a large black vertical pupil stared at Su-chun's figure like this. In the blink of an eye, an extremely evil force kept coming. It was like an empowerment, constantly trying to flood Su-chun's head. Do not. Jinbin in the office yelled angrily. His eyes widened. In addition to the anger on his face, he was also mixed with inconceivable meanings. After all, he never thought that the evil god Haekong would abandon himself and choose other people as the host of the boarding. Damn it. How could that fellow, Hida, be able to get the favor of the evil god? Don't you guys do something? Jin was anxious. After all, if you want to open the dimensional tunnel, you have to take a big risk. I don't know how many resources are searched outside, and even oneself can become a container in the future. But now, the Haekong summoned by the members of the Hand Healing Association actually abandoned himself and turned to the young man who killed him. What the hell is this? Jinbin rage is full. However, the red-clothed ninjas of these hands-on associations knelt to the ground one after another, kowtowing their heads very religiously, because they felt the will of the evil god Haekong appear more clearly in the world. What? Something's wrong. At this time, the roar from the will of Haekong just roared. It's so wrong. He felt that the power of will that he had landed in the opponent's body was fading away, and the power of darkness continued to flow from his body. Impossible. How can you seize my power? Read more at wuxiax.com. Kong's roar was almost like an incompetent rage. He didn't even know that Su Chun had completely awakened the use of energy since he fought the Soul Master Professor Charles and the Phoenix Girl, involving the spiritual level. In other words, even if it is the mind or the spirit, the will-like powers that try to flood Su Chun's head will be absorbed by him desperately. For a while, the will energy of the evil god Kong turned into pure spiritual power and fed it back to Su Chun. There is such a good thing. Su Chun didn't expect to have such a big gift package as soon as he arrived. This is the power you gave me to smooth the world. Ridiculous. With such a little strength, I dare not stop barking in front of me. It's true that you felt the boundless anger and killing intent from me, but this time, I felt a scent of aggrieved and irritated anger from your body. Su Chun sneered. These words made the black sky will invade from the dimensionality. He came from outside the dimension, and he couldn't do it completely if he wanted to fully descend on the body. He could only slowly grow his own strength by staying in a container. Damn bastard. Kong angrily pulled his will from Su Chin's body desperately. In order to retaliate against the opponent, his will finally fell into Jin Bin's body. You finally came. Coming. I finally feel the power. In the office, Jin Bin laughed arrogantly. At this moment, he finally felt the endless dark power permeating his body. Compared with the physical strength that he had tempered over the past decades, it was nothing short of cloud and mud. This is power. At this moment, Jin only felt that he could knock down a hill. Can be the next second. Do not. His face became more and more hideous and distorted, and the evil god Kong simply didn't bother to pay attention to this self-blaming Jina. After the will was completely poured into his mind, he completely occupied all of his consciousness. The poor underworld emperor is now reduced to a container of the evil god's will. Boy, I will let you die. Kong's wisps of will control Jin Bin's body in this way, and suddenly rushed forward. Boom. Unexpectedly, Su Chun, who was outside the door, was the first to collide. His body that had experienced the baptism of a nuclear explosion, and even Hulk's promoted Wushuang body, just smashed the pear blossom wood door and merged the golden body with one end. Flew out. I heard you are an evil god. Su Chun walked step by step, his figure flying. Without waiting for the opponent to stand up from the ground, he grabbed the opponent's head directly and slammed into the ground like this. Boom. The entire ground was completely shattered, revealing a huge pit. Jin Bin's posture is like a green onion inserted upside down, grabbing the ground with his head. God. This is God. There is such a weak god in this world. Su Chun laughed wantonly. He grabbed Jin Bin's arm and squeezed it up. With a strong arm, he directly slapped it on the ground on the other side. Su Chun, who was particularly incomprehensible, raised his arms again and waved his left and right sides up and down, relentlessly slapping the body of Jin Bin, who was boarding in the black sky, on the ground on both sides. Boom. The earth is broken. The wisp of will that came from Kong felt like vomiting blood. When did he endure such humiliation? However, the pain that came back from his weak physique caused him to be tortured. At this moment, he was covered with blood and could hardly move. Such a weak god is ashamed to say that he wants to give me the power to smooth everything out. Su Chin's handsome face was slightly evil and awe-inspiring under the power of the evil god swallowed, and his long black hair lingered slightly in the air, and even the strange black energy surged around his body. I'm sorry for you. Su Chun sneered, and there was no room to speak to the other party. Looking at this golden body lying on the ground, his foot was printed in the other party's head like this. Click. The huge head shattered like this. Jin, he was aggrieved and killed. The incarnation of the will of the evil god, Kong, also fell. And this time, welcome to the new master. The ninja, who had been kneeling on the ground, shouted at Su Chun with a pious expression on his face. Welcome to the new lord. The devout members of the Hand Healing Association just fell to the ground, alleging allegiance to Su Chun. Su Chun is a little confused. Shahewi will be loyal to the strong. You defeated Jin and conquered the black sky. These people will follow you from then on. The super killer Mindy understands this very well. Seeing the hesitation on Su Chen's face, Mindy added, anyway, if you don't ask for it, these guys are invisible and they won't be an eyesore. And you need more power. Hear the words. Su Chen didn't say much, and seemed to have acquiesced. Everything is over. The super killer Mindy glanced at the blood-covered Jin Bin's body on the ground, and sighed inexplicably. Soon, they left the Fisk Mansion. This week, Su Chun in the vortex of the storm has almost become a global public enemy. In order to take care of his ailing sister, he kept a low profile and completely disappeared from public view. It seems to many people that even the members of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents mostly think that the most wanted mutant must sneak into a remote place and hide. But no one would have thought that Su Chun and his sister would live in one of the most magnificent top-notch apartments in Manhattan. Yorkton, downtown Manhattan. Skyscrapers hundreds of meters high go straight into the sky, but on the top floor of this building are top-notch apartments worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Not long ago, Su Chun came to the city inexplicably out of control because his childhood dream was to have the most luxurious apartment in this prosperous city, drive the best luxury car, and put his own move from the township among relatives. Now, he has easily fulfilled his childhood dream. The reason why she was able to stay here without a trace of trouble was that the super slaughter girl with extremely rich social experience directly moved into this magnificent and splendid high-rise apartment through a sum of black money. Coupled with the psychic system ability that Su Chun has derived, many building administrators, including the housekeeper, have been brainwashed, so there is no trouble that comes with it. Su Chen's figure stood in front of the French windows. At a height of hundreds of meters, he was able to see the neon city scenery under the night in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows, and the flow of people was like ants. Inexplicably, a sense of trampling the entire city under one's feet came to mind. No wonder rich people like to build offices on the top floor of buildings. A bird's eye view, the whole city is all in the eyes, giving people the joy of being king. Is this ambition? Read more at wuxiax.com. Su Chun felt a different taste from the bottom of his heart for a while. Brother, if mom is still there, I will definitely be proud of you. Sister Susan walked over in a puffed dress with a doll in her arms. Yes. Su Chun smiled and rubbed her hair. Under this habitual movement, he found that he had become a lot taller. In just a few days, it seemed that after the battle with Hulk, his 13-year-old body had risen quite a lot, perhaps more than 1.7 meters. Even the physique has become stronger, the line muscles are not bloated, and even a slight pinch, I feel the extremely majestic strength in the palm of his hand. The body has changed. Su Chun found that even his thoughts have gradually become more stable. After so many things, the childlike stubborn temper and the childishness on his face have disappeared. After being always by Susan's side, he no longer had a cold face, and the painful heart for more than half a month was finally comforted. Su Chun laughed a lot more these days. Even the darkness in his heart and the melancholy killing intent were hidden in the body and no longer appeared. Sometimes, Su Chun, who was in a trance, even felt that after finishing the final revenge, should he choose to take his sister and leave here completely. But after doing so much, he also knew that the trajectory of life had gradually deviated from the calm. Can he still go back? Even if he let go of everything? No one else may agree. At this moment, the younger sister Susan seemed to think of something and said, Brother, do you remember the ghost that scared my mother when I was a child? Su Chun suddenly remembered a scene in which his mother had scared him when he was a child. In a single-family house in the township, a figure tried to break the window through the night. The mother who was about to fall asleep was startled and quickly filled the gun in the drawer with ammunition. But in the blink of an eye, the figure outside the window disappeared. At that time, my mother even chased out the door, but at a glance, the streets in the night were empty, as if the scene just now was an illusion. Maybe it's a ghost. Mother attributed everything to her own illusion. This is the specific thing Susan mentioned. Su Chun didn't care about it in retrospect. After all, his mother was not in good health at the time, and maybe she had a nightmare. And many more. Suddenly, Su Chen's gentle complexion became serious, leaving a drop of cold sweat on the edge of his forehead. Something's wrong. How did this memory come from? Suchin's complexion changed drastically. In an instant, he seemed to vaguely perceive some fluctuations in reality, as if there were some changes in the timeline. There is absolutely nothing wrong with this feeling. He is very familiar. Because he is a master who is good at modifying reality, this kind of subtle fluctuations that interfere with reality will definitely not deceive him. What did someone do? Who the hell is it? Suchin, who became suspicious, suddenly realized that from the level of the mind system, he seemed to perceive an inexplicable embedded memory in his mind. It is not right to say that it is embedded. If you don't look closely, you will find that this little memory is so seamless. There is no clue at all. Thinking of someone tampering with the changes in reality in the secret. How long Suchin's calm heart repeated killing intent again. After all, the unknown person hiding in the secret actually caused the memory of himself and Susan to be misaligned. What did that guy do? Damn, Suchin frowned, only feeling that the killing intent in his body could not be suppressed at all. At this moment, the infinitely evolving genes in his body have also begun to gradually change, and they have already begun to respond to this inexplicable change. The same night, sometime before, some remote and unknowable place. In the past, the students of Xavier College of Genius were gathered in a barracks like this. Since the #1 mutant Suchin killed Professor Charles, causing the deaths of many X-Men, and even after the Phoenix female piano Glay completely blackened and completely destroyed the entire manor, these poor students suddenly fought in the few remaining X-Wars. The police ran around under the leadership of the police. An extremely ironic fact is that after losing the asylum of Professor Charles, there are unidentified persons following their tracks in secret. This is ironic. I thought that the root cause of Suchin's blackening was the arrest of General Stryker. The bottom of everyone's heart is somewhat unpleasant. It is necessary to know that their teacher will insist on maintaining peace and order with mankind in the end, dispelling the panic of human society about mutants, and vowing to arrest Suchin thoroughly. But now, without Professor X, without the elite backbone of many X-Men, they are like a bunch of mice running around on the street, everyone shouting and beating. In less than a few days, some students left the team and directly chose to return to their families. And among them, there are very ugly words constantly appearing. Everything Professor Charles has been teaching is false. This is the world where the weak eat the strong. Without the guarantee of force, we are just a bunch of guinea pigs for human research and dissection. There are too many ugly words in the team. Among them, many students shouted to follow the words of the #1 mutant Suchin. Only he can lead us out of the world. The days of being secretly coveted by humans in the past, chasing and fleeing, have already made many mutant students unbearable. Had it not been for the brutal Wolverine Logan, after receiving the news, he had successfully reunited with them and killed a lot of invading personnel. I am afraid that the number of the entire team would continue to drop a lot. In the camp, the only remaining X-Men have finalized a very bold plan. We want to change everything. Maybe our attitudes and perceptions of humans have changed a lot, but we need to change everything and save everything. We need Professor X, and we need to return to the X-Men. We want to save it all. Phantom Cat said with a crying face, clenching his fist and exhilaratingly. The generations of X-Men, Iceman, Phantom Cat, Rockshot Girl, Shockwave, Bishop, and others, and even Quicksilver who escaped from the dead, Laser Eye who was seriously injured, Wolverine, all gathered. It all depends on you. Phantom Cat asked Logan. After all, the only person in front of him who can withstand the travel of time and space without breaking his body or even bursting his brain is the Wolverine who can recover himself. I'm ready, just come on. Wolverine took a deep breath and lay flat on a stone platform. Call. The Phantom Cat took a deep breath and then continued to remind. Your actions in the past will cover all the original history, and other people can only remember the changed history. Read more at wuxiax.com. If you can successfully change history, then only you will remember what happened to Xavier College of Genius. Bring them back. Logan. At this moment, the Phantom Cat's hands were pressed to the sides of Wolverine's forehead, and an unusually shocking wave of time and space penetrated Logan's head. He wants to go back to the past, find Suchin who was arrested, successfully rescue him, and kill all the soldiers like General Stryker who were chasing him. So after this, Suchin would not be transferred to the large snowfield base for the second time, then lost control, ran away, and then completely blackened. Nuclear exploded the first city, and then slaughtered all of their X-Men. Save him. Let him return to a normal life, and all tragedies will not happen. Let him live the normal life that a 13-year-old boy should have. This is the plan to reverse the future led by the Phantom Cat. Reverse the future. It sounds incredible. In fact, in this Marvel world, time and space shuttles, dimensional advent, parallel universes, and quantum technology are all very normal methods. But at this time, she was still young, and she was not too proficient in the time and space shuttle ability of the New Awakening, so even she was not sure that she would be able to send Logan to the exact time. Hurry up. For her, maintaining this ability also made her a little tired and weak, and she couldn't hold on for long. Under the power of time and space, Wolverine Logan successfully returned to the past. However, there was a problem at the point in time. The Phantom Cat really couldn't control it perfectly. Logan did not return to the days when Suchin was arrested for more than a month. Instead, it went back more than a year ago. After realizing that there was something wrong at the time, Logan did not choose to fall asleep to wake him up. He was unwilling to endure the pain of traveling through time and space again. At this time, another wonderful plan emerged in his heart. 100 times, kill that Suchin completely. Logan's pupils were inexplicably red, and Professor Charles was his good friend. He was completely killed by brain death, which really made him intolerable. Ever since, Logan, who had deviated from the time point, rushed to the small town of Moss on the west coast, preparing to go to Suchin's family to kill him, completely stifling the threat of the future in the cradle. As long as he is killed, all future nightmares will also not happen. Logan, who had planned his mind, drove his motorcycle to this town in the dark. With a strong killing intent, he just came to the outside of a single-family house. Squeak. He pushed open the fence door and walked into the small courtyard. Logan didn't go through the main entrance, but broke into the residence through the side window. At this moment, Logan's eyes saw the figure of a lady in pajamas from the window. What? With a scream, the lady who was Mother Zagon quickly recovered her composure and began to find a gun in the drawer. Logan didn't say a word. He was ruthless in his heart, and he went straight away. But at this time, the Phantom Cat that maintains the shuttle of time and space is simply difficult to maintain. Her power is still too weak, so that the entire timeline has not yet been condensed and closed, and it has begun to collapse. The timeline collapsed. It means that the interference factors that have not had time to complete everything will be readjusted back. Logan's figure disappeared in front of Suchin's mother. Ghost. Mother Sue only felt a panic in her heart. Thinking of the two teenage children still in the house, to ensure safety, she awakened them, and then walked out the door with the gun in hand, trying to check the safety. Although the timeline was not closed, it did not complete the real interference with reality, but the aftermath of trying to interfere with the timeline echoed all around and projected into Sue's mother's mind. The ghost story has been passed down since then. Then, after Logan returned to his timeline, also aware of something wrong, Suchin frowned when he noticed the aftermath of reality. This sense of insecurity made him feel the malice of the world more and more. Who on earth is targeting himself? Damn it, it's almost. After Wolverine awoke from the stone platform, he said very raged suddenly. Almost. He was almost able to break into the opponent's house, completely kill the young Suchin, reverse the future, and all timelines will be replaced. Sorry, my ability is still too weak. The Phantom Cat, which was difficult to maintain and caused all the timelines to collapse, said apologetically. But she was also very curious and said, is the timing of my transmission correct? Did you see General Stryker who arrested Suchin? Wolverine heard the words and pondered for a while. The timeline is naturally wrong. However, instead of rescuing Suchin, he suddenly thought that slaughtering Suchin, who had not been awakened, was a more venting way. Well, just keep that feeling. Logan's eyes became a little deep. He couldn't wait and urged directly. How long will it take to open the space-time shuttle next time? It will take about 2 days. Phantom Cat smiled wryly. For this new ability of the Second Awakening, she could not use it handily. However, the X-Men Iceman in the camp came up with a more secure plan. If you remember correctly, a child from Xavier College had come to ask for help before. His ability is to increase the expression of the X gene, that is, to enhance our ability. We may need his help. Remember his address? Well, it's a bit of an impression. Quicksilver, this matter is up to you. Get him back as soon as possible. At the same moment, inside a high-rise apartment in downtown Manhattan, Suchan had already determined that someone was secretly trying to interfere with the timeline. Without thinking about it, the other party must have gone to his former township house, so that he had an impression of his mother and sister. Damn it, he has a serious expression. Compared to facing a nuclear explosion and thousands of enemies, this invisible killer tampering with the timeline secretly is the most daunting. No matter what, this kind of behavior involving the undermining of oneself has undoubtedly formed a stimulus, and the infinitely evolved genes have begun to metamorphose. It's okay. On the other side, the super killer Mindy, who lives in the daping floor, walked over. Suchan shook his head. This kind of thing that involves the rewriting of reality and the change of the timeline will not be clear for a while. Read more at wuxiax.com. It's going to be a public trial of General Stryker's case for more than 2 days. What are you going to do? Because the Rising Tide organization publicly exposed a series of illegal activities such as trafficking, human experimentation, etc. secretly involved in General Stryker, and even brewed the fact that a 13-year-old child was completely blackened. Under pressure from the fishing boat, he was forced to appear in court to confront him. In order to quell the fishing boat, the entire case also needs to be heard in public. In the past few days, Mindy can actually see Suchan's hesitation. After all, he is no longer alone. The gentleness shown by Susan for many days is almost like the image of a big brother next door, not at all like before. So indifferent and ruthless. Sometimes she was thinking that maybe it would be a good thing to completely disappear after the revenge. She can sometimes see a trace of confusion from Suchan, and it seems that the uncertainty about the future, especially when a young sister is around, makes his thinking even more worrying. Anyway, the world is so big. Is there still no place to stay? At this time, Suchan also gave a ruthless answer. I will personally execute each other publicly on that day. In full view. Even in the public eye to execute opponents? Mindy opened his mouth. As for the arrangement after revenge, she didn't ask more. Because at this moment, she didn't know what happened, but she felt a suppressed killing intent from Suchan. No matter what, I will always support you. A smile appeared on Mindy's flawless face. At this time, she raised the phone in her hand and said very excitedly, remember the girl from the High Tide organization? She didn't know how to contact me. You should be interested in a copy of the information on the base built by General Stryker. In the past few days, a girl from the High Tide organization has been secretly contacting Mindy directly. In shock at that time, Mindy even planned to change the number completely and leave the high-rise apartment where he lived. But, surprisingly, the other party actually expressed kindness and was willing to help Suchan, the so-called #1 mutant. Fangirl? Or is it a fan of mutants with top-notch hacking skills? Mindy was a little surprised. However, thinking that the other party's affiliated organizations have already disclosed to the public information that is extremely detrimental to the government, it should not be an enemy either. And now, the Chinese girl who had never met before completely sent another extremely important secret base information. Early the next morning, after eating breakfast, Suchan walked through the space alone. In less than a second from his house, he came to a beautiful mountainous area. This is already at least hundreds of kilometers away. In order to avoid troubles and risks, Suchan did not bring his sister Susan and Superkiller. Danger prediction. He called this ability to warn in advance when a loved one is in danger for the first time, an ability involving the spiritual level, as danger prediction. And Suchan didn't know that in a parallel universe, a guy named Superman also had this ability. This undoubtedly freed him from worrying that the enemy would truly threaten his sister. Really have. At this time, after more than 10 minutes of journey, Suchan's figure has been placed on a mountain that is at least 1,000 meters high. His clear black and white eyes have seen traces of artificial excavation on the cliffs of Chongshan. A waterfall sprinkled down like a horse, and above the spring, a metal iron gate that was very hidden under the vines appeared so eye-catching. Very good. It really is Stryker's secret base. He was not brought here at that time, so even with his extraordinary memory ability, he could not be found. Now it's an accident, with the help of a hacker girl who got what she wanted. But at this moment, a weird wave of magical power rippled in the surrounding air like this. The blue sky, as well as the surrounding mountains and mountains, seemed to be covered with layers of mirrors, stacked on top of each other, like a dream. The rising mirror quickly disappeared, and it seemed that the dreamy scene just now was my own illusion. But Suchan's keen perception had already told himself that everything around him had changed. I've been looking for you for a long time, little devil in the body of the evil god. I saw a bright firepower spark outline an arc, and soon, a spatial channel appeared in front of him. I've been looking for you for a long time, kid. A figure wearing a crimson robe just walked out. As the mage of Kamatosh, the tall and sturdy Mordo is even more reminiscent of the name of the melee mage. In an instant, the magical power fluctuations in the surroundings became more and more dense, and I saw that a group of figures wearing the same robes opened the door of the space through the hanging ring they wore, shuttled to, and appeared on the top of each mountain. Suchan frowned. He was curious when he offended these people. Was it last night? Indeed so. In this Marvel world, there has always been a hidden guardian force defending the entire planet. That is the Magic Temple Kamatosh. Its leader, Sorcerer Supreme, has always had the title of Guardian of the Earth. This Sorcerer Supreme, Ancient One, has survived for more than 700 years. The Manhattan mage stationed in the temple last night felled a wave of evil spirits from outside the dimensionality, and an incomparably evil and dark power was coming to tear through the dimensional boundary. For the first time, many people think that it is the old rival Domum trying to come. However, this strength was a lot weaker, and he gradually and clearly argued that it came from another evil god Kong, who had a much lower personality. Everyone is relieved. After all, Sorcerer Supreme Ancient One has shuttled out of the earth. Then, this strand of dark wool that came from tearing apart the dimension even dissipated quickly, so that after the temple mage arrived, there was not much clue. However, early the next morning, Baron Mordu, the older disciple of Ancient One with more advanced spells, had personally led a small team to investigate. There is still a trace of dark evil spirit waves remaining on your body. Baron Mordor folded his arms, standing on the cliff of the opposite mountain range, looking arrogantly at the opposite Suchan. Are you talking about the evil god from last night? Suchan understood the other party's intention, but he smiled. That evil god is very warm and gives me a lot of strength. The fall of the word caused quite a bit of criticism. Just because you want to devour the power of the evil god. What a boastful statement. It's the first time I've seen it so fresh and refined by the body of the evil god. The surrounding red-robed mages released light waves of magical power. They either stepped on the void or stepped on the nearby mountains and forests, watching Suchan with a stern look. Overriding the void, even the mountains began to float up strangely like carpets, but the spatial structure of the entire world was changing. This is too unusual. It's too mysterious. Read more at wuxiax.com. Vaguely, even the sky was ups and downs slightly, and everything around it seemed to have begun to change. Under Kamatosh's temple mage, even the method of folding the city can be easily achieved. This is the field of mirror space they created. From the very beginning, Suchan was brought into this realm by them. It seemed that the surrounding scenery had not changed at all, but everything that happened here would not interfere with the real world. If ordinary people encounter such a thing, they will definitely be shocked. But Suchan's eyes had long awakened the ability of space detection. He can clearly see the warping, folding, and crack marks of the spatial structure. The changes in the entire mirror space are also in his eyes. It seems that you guys won't let me go. Suchan's indifferent face was filled with a deep chill. It was originally for revenge, but he didn't think that he would be intercepted out of thin air, which made him feel a little upset. Cthulhu's body, still thinking about leaving? You should care if your life can be saved. Baron Mordo sneered. He waved his hand. The surrounding magical fluctuations spread more and more in the world, and the attack from the temple mage completely broke out at this moment. Get up, accompanied by a roar not far away. Boom. The mountain range under Su Chen's feet suddenly rose from the flat ground. This mysterious method did not scare Su Chen's figure. Whoosh. His figure leaped, evading the huge impact from below. The fluctuation of thought power surged around his body, and the sleeves of a black sweater made a rustle under the gale of the valley. At this time, a heavy shadow covered the sunny day, gradually covering his body. Su Chen glanced at it, and suddenly a high mountain on his side folded up, and the felled mountain range collapsed towards his body. That's it. Su Chen sneered. The next moment, with the blessing of the surging thought power, his figure shot straight into the air like a cannonball, thus avoiding the collapsed mountains. Under the turbulent high winds, Su Chen's black hood was completely separated from his head, and a black bangs kept fluttering on his forehead. At this time, his instinctive battle instinct had already told him that he was standing in the air and was ready to usher in an attack. After all, flying so high in the sky has indeed become a living target. Whoosh. In an instant, the fierce winds turned into a sword formation. With such a terrifying edge, they slashed at Su Chen's body. Not fast enough. In the midst of talking and laughing, Su Chen, who was still at ease, disappeared completely under a group of surprised eyes. Damn it. The other party is also a master of space shuttle, and his perception seems to be very keen. This should be the power of the evil god. That kid dared to refute it. Find him soon. The temple mages finally looked serious, and they realized that the other party's methods were a bit extraordinary, and it was only a ray of the evil gods that had come. Distraction is not a good thing. At this moment, a voice resounded from behind a temple mage. His complexion changed, feeling the strong wind coming from behind, trying to backhand to block. Puff. The blood bloomed. His movements were still half a beat slow, and a slender blade that was plasticized by thought power penetrated his back waist, revealing a sharp sword light from in front of him. Su Chen dismissed the fluctuations in mind power. Puff. The mage figure in front of him just fell to his knees, and the blood instantly turned into a pool of blood on the ground. First, Su Chen sneered. He looked at the red-robed mage around him. At this time, the game of hunter and prey just changed the role. Damn, what the temple mages in front of them didn't even think was that this young man was so difficult to deal with. Under the siege, not only did he easily dodge a crowd of attacks, but also completely killed one of his companions with a backhand. Unforgivable. Cthulhu's will is not as weak as imagined. Let's go together. Under the roar of anger, the figure in front of him immediately began to attack. The surging magical power fluctuations continued to accumulate, and only saw the surrounding mountains turbulent again. A group of mountains actually gathered, and a group of figures wearing crimson red robes took advantage of this force to kill. Since I came to die, I'm not welcome. Su Chen's eyes flickered, and he instantly caught a red robe figure that shuttled through the gap in the space. He turned into an invisible sharp blade with a thin trace from an out-of-spirit thing, and slammed it to the rear. Puff. The blood bloomed. A red-robed mage who had just emerged from his body was penetrated through his head. The other side, the red-robed mage figure that drilled out of the trees even shuttled half of the figure out of the trees, and Su Chen slammed a punch on one side of the figure. With a bang, when this punch went down, not only was the magic mask on the opponent's surface completely shattered, but the entire body was completely exploded into a blood mist in the bombardment of this punch. This desperate physical blow is really unreasonable. Whoosh. While Su Chen dealt with the two, magic ropes were continuously projected from all directions, and the light flashed, making it difficult to capture the trajectory fluctuations. In the blink of an eye, the magic rope with a faint silver luster was tied to Su Chen's limbs. Watch me tie you up as a beast. Accompanied by a roar, it was Sorcerer Supreme's eldest disciple, Baron Mordo, who thoroughly demonstrated his magical power. At this moment, his figure turned out to be hundreds of figures unexpectedly, and every figure that was above the air released a magic rope and fastened it to Su Chen's forearms. Kamatage inherited the inheritance of white magic from the three demon gods of Wei Shan Emperor. He is inclined towards peace, but it does not have too many offensive spells like black magic. However, Baron Mordo has always been an addiction to exorcism, and his spells are strong, but he has learned a lot of secrets from Ancient One. The move in front of him is exactly the spell cast by Doctor Strange during the fight against Thanos in the movie. In a blink, read more at wuxiax.com. Su Chen suddenly felt the fading of his body's power, and the majestic spirit and spirit were somewhat fading. He boosted his strength many times, but found that his body became more fatigued under the struggle, and the luster of the ropes bound around him became brighter. The weird magic rope in front of him does have some merits. Even his own abilities seem to be blocked. You know it's amazing. Hundreds of avatars of Baron Mordor were above the air, with a hint of ridicule on their same cold face, just looking down at the young man on the ground. This high posture is ridiculous. Su Chen saw in his eyes. The chill in his eyes became colder. He hates people overlooking himself the most in his life. Magic resistance, plus 100. Magic absorption, plus 200. The immortal physique instantly started to evolve under external stimuli. Magic. Before that, Su Chen hadn't encountered it before. But now, just like online games, the zero-based body template suddenly began to point on the attribute point of magic resistance. For a time, are you leaving this to trick me? Looking at the hundreds of Mordu figures flying above the air, Su Chen sneered. Click. His whole body was shocked, and dozens of magic ropes broke at this moment. What? Baron Mordu's complexion changed slightly, but he wondered why the other party could raise his strength under this secret technique. Wrong. In the next second, his complexion became more embarrassed, but he found that his magic power began to flow away. Feeling a little weak in spirit, he felt that the magic power was unsustainable, and directly removed all the clones in the air. The magic rope disappeared, but at the moment when he lost his bondage, boom, a sonic boom suddenly sounded from the mountain in front of him, and Su Chen's figure flew like a cannonball. You're going to get me off. He had long seen this red-robed mage, who was above the sky and overlooking others, was extremely upset. At this time, the figure flew out, and Su Chen, who raised his right fist, completely shattered the multiple magic barriers outside the opponent's body. Then, the figure of Baron Mordu suddenly fell straight down from the air like a meteor, and hit the ground heavily. From a high posture above the air, being smashed to the ground, this kind of taste is naturally uncomfortable for Baron Mordor. But, for Su Chen, he also felt very sick and bored in his heart. On the road to revenge, the gate of Stryker's secret base is right in front of him. But inexplicably, he provokes an unknown magical force, which actually came to destroy himself. And the reason for all this is just because I am a grudge for my friend Mindy. I just swallowed up the power of that evil god completely, but you guys will clean up my evil spirit. This is the most annoying place for Su Chen. The clay figurines still have 3 points of anger. For no reason, he was mistakenly recognized as the body of the demon god, and he wanted to destroy his whole body and raise his ashes. This kind of groundless accusation is simply an unfounded charge. How can Su Chen, who has experienced a lot of suffering, endure this chi? And why should he endure this aggrieved air? The tenderness that Su Chen has accumulated over the past few days is gone. The handsome face with sharp edges and corners once again showed an extremely indifferent and ruthless taste, just like the boy who walked out of the nuclear explosion that day. Die all to me, he said coldly. It's like the death god is pronouncing the sentence, and Yama is calling for his life. In the darkened state, Su Chen's long-suppressed resentment motivated a mysterious power in this way. A terrifying force interfered with reality and tampered with everything around it. In a blink, something's wrong. Do not. The red robe mages yelled in panic. They spread their hands, and saw that their arms were continuously decomposing. The flesh and blood disintegrated completely at this moment, and it turned into a pile of powder, floating in the air. Just for a moment. Just now, the majestic and murderous temple mages suddenly cried and howled. Tell me now, am I qualified to devour the power of the demon god? Am I being ostentatious? So the will of a demon god who comes here is nothing. It makes you feel that it is impossible to complete it. I don't know that your existence is as small as an ant to me. Suchin mocked coldly. The mages who were still hanging on the scene looked completely ashamed at this time. It's my fault. Read more at wuxiax.com. Help me. In desperation, they couldn't help begging for mercy from the ridiculed object just now. Unfortunately, without a trace of magical power fluctuations, without a sign of energy, under the terrifying reality of interference, these figures in front of them disintegrated in panic, and then turned into smoke and dissipated into the air. The surrounding environment changed even more, and the dreamlike mirrors were once again stacked in all directions. Only this time, there was a loud clicking sound. Countless cracks spread all over the mirror surface, and the entire mirror space was completely shattered at this moment. After losing the supply of magical power, the mirrored space that had been changed from heaven to earth disappeared. 1, 2, 10. Counting the many mages that had been lost before, a small team member led by Baron Mordor was wiped out. Baron Mordor's complexion changed drastically. At this moment, he took a few deep breaths and continued to strengthen his vitality, trying to resist this force, but the malaise fluctuations continued to spread in his body. In a blink, his hands also began to disintegrate, and under the ruthless obliteration of modifying reality, he could not continue to support it. Damn bastard. At this moment, Baron Mordor looked at the indifferent boy in front of him, and he finally realized that he had provoked someone who shouldn't be provoked. This guy can actually swallow a ray of the will of the demon god that descends. Reminiscent of the rapid passing of his magic power before, his face was pale, and he only felt the most ruthless mockery. Asshole. He hates it. I didn't expect this time to wipe out the will of the demon god. It turned out to be a false proposition, and a child provoked for this has such a terrifying power. Such an astonishing killing intent was pervading his body even more. This is really not the reincarnation of the devil. It's a pity that you killed them. The people who killed our Kamatage. Kid, you are the one who shouldn't be offended. Baron Mordor, who was so embarrassed and angry, roared completely while he was still alive. When the guardian of the earth, sorcerer supreme, ancient one returns to the earth, it is when you are judged. At that time, whether you have been corroded by the demon god, whether it is a demon outside the dimension, we will naturally know everything. The that Mordor said did not include himself. When his whole body disintegrated completely, a voodoo-like puppet was turned into a voodoo puppet. Under the power of reality, the doll completely collapsed. Suchin frowned. He felt that he did kill him, but his subconsciousness also told him that the other party seemed to use some dark magic to make this puppet die for him. Guardian of the earth, sorcerer supreme, outside of the earth. Suchun gritted his teeth with an indifferent expression. He had never heard of these names. Superheroes have been passed on by word of mouth, but they are very familiar. But Suchun has only learned about the existence of magic in this world since today. Can their leader be hired outside the earth, in the dimension? What shit, guardian of the earth? There really is such an existence. Why will there be wars in the world, and tens of millions of lives have disappeared like this? If there is a guardian of the earth, wouldn't he be willing to protect me, and even other mutants who suffer, just let humans slaughter them like this? If you are truly a guardian, but you don't want to open your eyes and look at us, then what is the difference between you and the devil? Suchin's mood grew darker, because he really felt that he had suffered malice from the whole world. It was not him who was clearly wrong. What Ming Ming did before was a good thing. He successfully avenged Mindy and Dad, and completely eliminated the underworld Emperor Jean May, who exploited and enslaved many people. But inexplicably, in this way, he was regarded as the existence of the evil spirit body. Could it be that he was willing to be flooded into his head by the disgusting will that came? Obviously, he had already swallowed it. Why these people still have to trouble themselves again and again? This must be the malice of the world. Suchun, who was thinking more and more angry, only felt that his mind was getting darker, and in the blink of an eye, a withering force spread so quickly in the secret base in front of him. Stryker will set up your secret experiment base, just like that built in the interior of a mountain. Just like this, a metal back door was dug out on the top of the waterfall in front of me, and under the erosion of water splashes, there were already traces of rust. The fight in the mirror space just now didn't interfere with the outside world at all, so it didn't attract the attention of the insiders at all. But from this moment, as Suchin's mood grew darker, a terrifying withering force began to take the lead in the secret base. What? The complexion of a person who was still patrolling all over his body suddenly changed. He suddenly found himself evaporating like a snowman in the sun. In a blink, his figure just faded and collapsed, turning into a handful of gray smoke and dissipating in the air. Do not. 1 past 10, 10 past 100. The people in the secret base could not see the enemy at all, so they were obliterated by the terrorist forces interfering in reality in an instant. Puff. A body of flesh and blood just collapsed. The panic cry spread throughout the entire base, and the secret base for researching and dissecting mutants was reduced to a purgatory on Earth. Click. The metal gate located at the top of the waterfall was twisted into a mass of scrap iron with a force, and Suchun, wearing a black hood, walked in with no expression on his face. Despair. The sound of his footsteps echoed all around the base. A full depth of tens of meters without any sign of stopping. The entire experimental base has not even sounded the alarm. Control room. Even the rest rooms and dormitories were empty. Soon, Suchin's figure just came to a large experiment room. Under the power of a thought, the steam valve that required multiple procedures to open was distorted and shattered. Read more at wuxiax.com. In the experiment room, many research doctors in white coats were imprisoned in the air by a force at this time, and their feet were off the ground, struggling in the air like a drowning person. Damn it, really you. Everyone was shocked. Only the number 1 mutant who emerged from the nuclear explosion can directly take the lives of a large number of people silently. Suchin glanced at them blankly. The reason why they temporarily left their lives was not because they kept them crying and wailing. There was a strange ripple in his eyes. In my mind, a wave of psychic fluctuations rippled out, and it flooded into every experimenter's head one after another. In an instant, a bunch of memory fragments were quickly read by Suchun like a waterfall of information. After the battle with Professor Charles and the Phoenix female Piano Gray, the power of the spirit skyrocketed, and the genes of infinite evolution also found the direction of transformation in the field of the spiritual level. Ever since, he not only has the means to restrain the power of the soul, it also generates some abilities such as telepathy, mind reading, and so on. A group of experimenters in white coats suddenly opened their eyes and foamed at their mouths, and their minds were turned upside down by the force of the psychic force that broke into them. Suchun, who had collected useful information, raised his eyebrows. With a thought, a secret document in the archive flew into his hand from the side. Wow. He tore open the portfolio. The files inside contain various information about yourself. So it is. Soon, Suchun understood why he was arrested. It turned out that during a blood test in a township hospital, someone found something wrong with the blood sample. The abnormally abundant cell activity simply exceeded the human limit. If the self-healing and terrifying cells can be successfully extracted, then the X-weapon program that has been following up will make a breakthrough. As a result, I was worried about this and started the escape life of my brothers and sisters. After that, Suchin's genes began to change quietly, until he was arrested and rage was completely out of control, and the entire gene began to change continuously. Do not. In the next second, the experimenters who had no use value immediately covered their necks, and a force of forbidden hoops surged, and in the blink of an eye, they snapped their necks completely. X-weapon. Suchin's gaze then fell to the surrounding tanks of a nutrition pond. These sinks all have a body placed in them, and their bodies are filled with pipes. While supplying nutrients, they also quietly altered their genetic changes. They can even implant up to multiple X genes in their bodies. Among them, Suchun has already seen it. Looking at these X weapons that had not yet been hatched, Suchun had subconsciously destroyed it completely, but suddenly recalled Mindy's words. You need more power. For a time, multiple invisible mental tentacles suddenly appeared in his mind, and they instantly pierced into the minds of the figures in these sinks. Their consciousness was completely obliterated, and they became their own spiritual puppets instead. At this moment, the figure in the sink suddenly opened his eyes. Su Chen found that he could still control them like an arm. It's not bad. Spiritual puppet, like an arm dictated, letting the puppet under his control. Although for Su Chen, the X-weapon can't get too many Dharma eyes, but it definitely has the deterrent power for others. The X-weapon in front of him combines the abilities of teleportation, laser eyes, and rapid self-healing. The existence that supports the entire X-weapon is undoubtedly the self-healing factor inherited from Wolverine. It can be said that the existence in these nutrient tanks are all copies of Wolverine. Logan. Su Chen remembered the relevant name mentioned in the secret document. Even in the Snowfield laboratory in the past, he had heard of this name. After all, the immortal self-healing cells in his body were used to replace this Wolverine Logan's self-healing factor. He frowned. For some reason, Su Chen felt a sense of disgust in his own heart for the existence of this fellow sympathetic. This is very instinctive, something from the heart. Even the battle intuition gave birth to a sense of hostility. But in the past, he has not had any contact with the other party and didn't know him. But why is the mental reaction so strong? Have some problem. Su Chen believes in this feeling in the dark. After all, after the ability of the mind level is developed and transformed, this inexplicable intuition and illusion will definitely not go wrong. With a hint of confusion, Su Chen's figure has reached the basement level of the secret base. Through the long dim corridor, he can walk to the prison area. Inexplicably, at this moment, Su Chen also recalled that not long ago, he was pushed from prison by multiple guards into the experimental room for dissection. In a short period of time, I have already experienced many battles. Who would have thought that a gentle and peaceful elder brother next door more than a year ago, someone who couldn't bear to step on a flower on the grass, was forced by reality to become the most wanted extreme variant in the world? People, returning to such a familiar experimental base, if not for his emotional out of control, the genes began to metamorphose and evolve. I am afraid. His current fate can only be reduced to a guinea pig that is constantly being dissected and slaughtered. And the immortal physique is more like a curse, so that one's life is not as good as death, and the whole life has to be reduced to perpetual motion machine-like experimental materials, providing unlimited anatomical data. Thought of it. Su Chen's mood became worse, and the killing intent in his mind became more and more pervasive. There are already clear plans for tomorrow's public executions. He just came to the prison area with no expression on his face. You are free. Click. As the weird power of thought fluctuated, the sound of chain breaking continued to be heard. Under the fluctuations of silence just now, Su Chen also deliberately left the lives of these poor people. The faces of the mutants in the prison changed, and they looked at this scene in disbelief. Read more at wuxiax.com. This moment, not only the iron lock of the concierge, but also the handcuffs that bound his hands, and even the anklets around his feet, all disintegrated completely under an invisible and weird force of thought. Is this true? I'm going. Someone really came to rescue me? It's the X-Men. They must have saved us. This is the motivation for the Phoenix Girl. Just them. I would rather believe that Magneto will save us than believe that it will only please mankind. A group of figures in prison clothes just walked out. They looked excited, but with a little hesitation. Only when he saw the boy at the end of the corridor, he was confused. No one guessed that the person who rescued them turned out to be a teenager. Is he alone? This person is? Oh my god, he is the #1 mutant. He actually came to save us himself. Suddenly, a tall young man just walked out. He directly recognized Su Chen's identity. Compared with other mutant compatriots who have not been exposed to the sun for a long time, their skin is pale, and they are extremely thin and undernourished. This guy is full of energy and seems to have been in prison recently. Are you detained recently? Su Chen said coldly. Yes, the damn striker arrested me when I went to a fast food restaurant a few days ago. The young man said very resentfully. Hear the words. Su Chen frowned somewhat displeased. He didn't expect that after Stryker was detained and examined, his secret base was still in operation, and he even dared to repeat the bad behavior before. These bastards didn't seem to pay attention to their behavior at all. We must know that under the fishing boats of the world, many people regard General Stryker as the beginning of all evil, and the public trial held the next day also did a lot of superficial effort. But secretly, he was still doing such dirty things. Compared with these, the young guy known as the Clone saw the doubts on everyone's faces and directly introduced Su Chen excitedly. He has achieved an achievement that the Magneto King could not accomplish in the past. He walked out of the nuclear explosion and knocked a lot of superheroes to the ground. The capital city even became his playground in battle. That's why he is called the #1 mutant. Wow. After the words were thrown out, people were immediately shocked. Beyond Magneto, to know that the recognized leader of mutants, besides Magneto King Eric, is Professor Charles. Both of them have very powerful abilities. But can the boy in front of him achieve an accomplishment that the extreme mutant Magneto could not achieve in the past? How old is he? Gulong. The sound of saliva swallowing sounded inexplicably. After losing their confinement, many people naturally rushed out of the base excitedly for the first time, but at this time the only corridor exit was standing like Su Chen. Everyone was shocked by his record, and they were so frightened that they dared not cross his figure, for fear that the other party would take their own knife if they didn't agree with each other. The name of the person, the shadow of the tree. When I thought that there was no noisy sound from the stairs above from beginning to end, the guard seemed to evaporate like this. I thought of the other's superb thinking power ability just now. Everyone's excited heart to escape suddenly calmed down. Boss, do you have any orders? The middle-aged man who almost jumped past the figure in front of him directly showed his waist to Su Chen, who was at least 20 years old in front of him, and got better. You are the mutant's hope. Our lives are yours. The great mutant king. You must have something to order. This doppelganger is a fan. At the same time, he also hoped to get instructions like, declare war on mankind from Su Chen. A pair of longing pupils looked at Su Chen in this way, with a pious expression, as if he were regarded as a god. But at this time, a roar of words came from the special class cell in the deepest part of the prison. Who dares to slander the name of Magneto? Let me go out. I'm going to see which puppies dare to provoke the real king of mutants. Sky-shaking roars kept coming from the deepest part of the cell. Quickly let me out. I want to see who dared to provoke Magneto. Some. The swaying sound of the chain kept clanging on the ground. It turned out that there is a separate underground cell in this prison area. This underground cell is not simple. The only outlet above the head is equipped with a heavy steam valve. The entire external alloy can even block electromagnetic fluctuations, which seems to be to prevent Magneto from coming to the prison. In the extremely spacious area inside, there were more than a dozen Edmund alloy ropes pulled out from the wall, and a massive figure was bound to its limbs in this way. Not only that, the nails matched with the alloy rope even pierced all the vital points of his joints, hindering the transmission of his power. Ordinary people have long been unable to bear such torture, but this monster is alive and well, and there is not much sense of malaise. At this time, he was roaring, struggling, and venting his dissatisfaction. It's Hong Tan Ku. His brain is a bit bad. The extremely enthusiastic clone suddenly explained. This guy is a little stupid, hitting the wall with his head all day and night. Yeah, he's a lunatic. The brain's IQ is only over a dozen years old. Anyway, it's just a dumbfounded person. Under the sound of discussion around, after being provoked, Su Chen raised his right hand indifferently and silently, and he held it tightly in the void. In an instant, a surging invisible force of thought suddenly penetrated the alloy wall. Click. In an instant, the chains tied to the opponent's body, together with the rivets running through the joints, broke apart. Good, very good. Under the roar, Red Tan Cane Marco, who had lost all imprisonment, immediately recovered his strength. His knees suddenly squatted, and under the terrifying explosive force, a head mallet that jumped in place hit the metal gate above his head with such a bang. An extremely conspicuous protruding mark appeared on the entire metal gate. Boom. There was another loud noise. The metal portal suddenly burst open, and a fierce and strong body just leaped out and appeared directly at the end of the corridor. Who just provokes Magneto's position? K. Marco, wearing a stone helmet on his head and a pale blush on his face, walked straight from a distance angrily. Read more at Wuxiax.com. The mutants around didn't dare to provoke the monster at all, and immediately rushed to the place against the wall, avoided the passage, and let the overbearing monster move forward. It's you, kid. K. Marco's eyes suddenly reflected a young figure wearing a black sweater. If you can't beat me, even if you save me, I will beat you violently. I don't allow you to insult my boss. This guy is indeed a bit nervous, and his brain is not normal. The expression on the face under the stone helmet was a bit naive, and even the tone of the words was a bit lazy. Seeing the angry figure, Su-Chin subconsciously thought he was fighting with the kindergarten kid. But don't look at his expression and tone. But his physique is more than 2 meters tall, and the muscles under the prison uniform are so shocking that he doesn't dare to provoke him. Su-Chin looked at him fearlessly. For you, one trick is enough. Stop talking. At this moment, a surging thought-powered cannonball slammed into K. Marco's body head-on. It was like Mount Tai collapsing from the air, and under a loud bang, the entire sturdy figure of the other party softened its knees and fell to the ground. Boom. The earth collapsed, and completely collapsed into a pit under the fluctuation of the downward pressure on the mind. What? Hong Tan-ku roared, and the bulging muscles on his back continued to resist the pressure from the pressure, but the power of thought power was too terrifying. With another thud, his entire figure was completely thrown on the ground, kneeling towards Su-Chin in front of him. Saving you and killing you are in my mind, Su-Chin said coldly. However, he also noticed the unusual place of the other party. This guy's body was surrounded by light waves of magic power, unlike a simple mutant. Or maybe, the opponent is just a supernatural being mixed into the mutants. Crack. Kane Marco gritted his teeth, but his so-called indestructible physique just couldn't stand up. This man is a member of the Brotherhood of Mutants, a loyal subordinate of Magneto. Regardless of his stupidity, his whole body is hard to destroy, his strength is almost inexhaustible, and he has a history of recovering from serious injuries many times. The Avatar explained to the side. And this fellow, who claims to be invincible and inexhaustible, is so dependent on the ground at this time that he can't move. I served. You are really better than Magneto. You are the real king of mutants. Hongtan King Marco yelled at this time, and said convincingly. Just now, the righteous, fierce and domineering spirit suddenly disappeared. At this time, he stretched out his hand to Su-Chun, trying to get the others begging for mercy. You are my savior. You are very powerful. As long as you give me 3 meals a day, I will give you the work of your life. Sure enough, lack of intelligence. Su-Chin's impression of this guy's stupidity became more and more profound, and it finally became clear why the prisoners around him had such a consistent view of him. Stupid, pig-headed, pig-headed. But the people around didn't dare to make fun of them, and most of them were holding back a smile. After all, the other party's arms were thicker than his own waist. Who would dare to provoke such a silly monster? 2 meals a day, okay, otherwise I won't have the energy to work. Kmart seemed to see Su-Chin's hesitation. Then you were full of intentions to avenge Magneto, but now you succumb quickly. The Avatar couldn't help but say, I only recognize who has a big fist. He is stronger than Magneto, and he is naturally the king of mutants. Hong Tan-ku was justified. His extremely low IQ head resembles an animal in nature. As long as he convinces it, he will naturally recognize you as the king. Su-Chin really didn't bother to care about such a fool too much, and the surging thought power fluctuations disappeared.